Wang Yu woke up from the severe pain. Wang Yu tried to open his eyes and look around. Seaside. This scene made Wang Yu a little confused. Wasn't he killed by running a red light when delivering food just now? What the hell is the seaside? Wang Yu tried to support his body. Strong soreness and discomfort made him almost cry out. After a sharp gasp, Wang Yu felt a little more comfortable, forced to endure severe pain and try to look up and look around. He is now standing on a beach, in front of the endless sea. There seemed to be a few seagulls in the distance. I looked down at my body. After all, I was loaded by the car, although I don't know why I am now at the beach, but I am more concerned about the state of the parts on my body. My Matewan overalls, how is it a broken shirt? It's not my original one. If you lose it, you will have to pay the deposit. After Wang Yu finished talking to himself, he suddenly smiled self-deprecatingly. People almost hung up, and they finally survived and cared about what the deposit was. What a stinky dick. Wang Yu 985 University high-caliber students, and studied in Cambridge for further study. Proper talents. After entering the society, it is even more mixed. Maybe that life has been too smooth. People have become a little arrogant and nobody, and his former old leaders are also a little despised and think that his ability is too poor, and the company's colleagues have also offended a lot. But Wang Yu himself did not realize that it was inappropriate, thinking that he was Jobs. Ma Yun that can change the world's strong, the weak serve the strong. Finally, in the bidding meeting again, his old leader and those colleagues who were deeply offended by him fiercely punished him, not only to compensate the company a lot of money, but also almost went to jail, and was blacklisted by the industry. The money that lost the company is already almost all of Wang Yu's family property, and the house he just bought can only be sold. Fortunately there is no wife and children, otherwise it will be even worse. This time made Wang Yu almost slumped. It was hard to imagine that the old leader who was usually incapable of vegetarian food could actually engage him like this. All kinds of past replayed in his mind over and over again, when he first joined the old leader's own gang, and those of his own villain's ambition. This blow also freed Wang Yu from the abyss of desire, and he felt deeply ashamed to examine his past. The blockade of the industry also made it difficult for him to find a suitable job, and in order to survive, he had to use the remaining little money to buy an electric car and start delivering food. Fortunately, people with high knowledge earn more food delivery than others. Wang Yu analyzed the nearby real estate, counted the most stores ordered by office workers, and calculated the optimal route for food delivery, so that the income gradually exceeded 10,000 for several months. Live hard, and life will work hard to give back to you. There is hope again. Wang Yu, who experienced that incident, also learned to be humble, learned to discover the unique side of each person, and he would also share some of his experience of delivering food to the riders around him, and soon a bunch of friends gathered around him, which made Wang Yu feel the different experience when he was high before. It's nice to have friends. With the growth of the team, he has a lively mind and wants to organize everyone to raise funds to set up a company to contract nearby business. I originally wanted to go to Da Zhuang to talk about this after sending this order, but unfortunately, with the fantasy of the future in my head, I unknowingly ran a red light. It's good that I'm not dead, although I don't know where I am now, but it's a good day to be alive. Wang Yu felt a little happy when he thought of this. Let's see where it is. See if there's anyone nearby. Wang Yu tried to move his legs. Well, the legs are still good. Well, why is there something wrong with this leg? My eyes are also a little wrong. Wang Yu touched his face. No glasses. How can I see so clearly without glasses? My legs seem to be getting shorter. What's the situation? Wang Yu, who shook his senses, put his hand in front of him and carefully examined it, back, left and right. Well, sure, not my hand. Wang Yu calmly analyzed. I rub. It's not my hand, then how can they move? Wang Yu, who seemed to realize something, suddenly exclaimed. This is also a hairy analysis. Ocean. There are not their own hands and feet, and the eyesight has become super good, although I don't know how good it is. You can even see the details of the heads of the seagulls far away very clearly, and it can be seen that it is very strong. So am I being born again or crossing over? Wang Yu had a big question mark in his heart. Is this still Earth? Is it safe? Who is my body now? By the way, it seems that this kid drowned by the sea. Soul piercing. Proper soul piercing. It's just that the most important thing now is to determine where it is, whether it is a familiar world. After all, some worlds are not very harmonious, and my socialist flower cannot withstand too many storms. Looking at his little arms and legs, he is still a child, and he has no memory to check, so he can only analyze it simply. Such a young child on the beach, wearing artificial objects, t-shirts, suspenders. The age does not look like a very old age. Here is not an island. There should be someone nearby. First walk to see if you can go up, finally crossed, then live again. In this life I must have my own partners and friends. Wang Yu secretly made up his mind. The beach is not far from the shore, but Wang Yu is now small arms and legs, and full of pain. The speed of movement can be called squirming. It took more than half an hour for Wang Yu to climb onto the shore with difficulty. Standing on the shore, Wang Yu looked around and found that the original owner of his body should be playing on the shore, accidentally fell and smashed in the water, drowned. It's really irresponsible to come to such a dangerous place at such a young age and not have an adult to look at it. Maybe it's a reason, Wang Yu analyzed. If you are an orphan, you are not young in your heart, and it is embarrassing to suddenly call a stranger daddy, and it is not easy to accept psychologically. Let's ask someone first. Wang Yu continued to walk inside, in front of a dense forest. The sunlight sprinkled in the gaps in the leaves to form a pillar of light with different shades. Walking into here makes people have an inexplicable heart. This is a small world that belongs to him, quiet and peaceful. Wang Yu's body seems to be very familiar here, and it is also close to here, with the residual feeling in the body. Wang Yu slowly squirmed out of the woods. There is a curved path outside the woods in front of Wang Yu. It is obvious that he is on the right mission path. So where is the first task NPC? The simple joy makes Wang Yu start to think a little cranky. Wang Yu followed the path and moved all the way to a small village. Quiet and peaceful is synonymous with it. Simple houses are scattered, distributed around the road, well integrated into the natural scenery of the entire island. The harmony between man and nature is vividly reflected. Of course, Wang Yu does not have any appreciative mood now. The severe pain in the whole body is still the same. It seems that it is not light in the water. It hurts until now. But the first task is to know where he is, who he is, and it would be better if he was getting dinner by the way. Wang Yu pretended to be brave and knocked on the door of a house, and after a while, a man in a striped shirt opened the door and saw a figure at the door. Yo. Isn't this Usopp? Oh, what's going on with your injury? Come in. Saying that, the man pulled Wang Yu into the room. My wife quickly brought the medicine box. Usopp is injured, and I don't know if it is serious. Under my first treatment. Let's go to the doctor later to see. The man called his wife. Not long after, the man's wife quickly came over with the medicine box and skillfully began to help Wang Yu deal with the wound. Wang Yu's brain is still in the moment when the man at the door called him Usopp and can't return to his senses. I am Usopp. Usopp whose nose will be broken every battle. Usopp who is still alive after being knocked down and fractured all over. And the invincible man god Usopp who has just faced the 4 emperors of the navy in the future. Oh my god. Stop playing. Holy. One Piece's world. I like to watch pirates, but I really don't want to cross over to pirates. It's too dangerous. Although it's not as strong as a dog. The 4 emperors walk all over the place, but those who are stronger than me are really as many as dogs. One Piece's countless beloved masterpieces of the 80s to 90s, blood, friendship, adventure, and all kinds of incredible abilities are all reasons to make people crazy. But really living in the world of pirates is another saying. Maybe when there is a group of wild pirates, they will slaughter themselves. It's too dangerous. My socialist harmonious good youth can live in this not very harmonious world. Wang Yu had a big question mark in his heart. However, thinking that he is still a child, and there should be a few years before Luffy goes to sea, he should be able to grow up smoothly and safely without dying in these years. Oops, I almost forgot. There is also a big butler of infernal affairs. This is also a ruthless person, cannot provoke without provoking. In a few breaths, Wang Yu set up a simple 5-year action plan. Go is all the way. It's best not to go to sea with Luffy. I'm afraid that I will be long. Thinking about it, Wang Yu returned to his senses and found that the wounds on his body were all bandaged, and the cliff fell down to no obvious wounds, but after lying on the shore for so long, the waves rushed to his body and rubbed on the reef, but cut many small wounds. You kid, go out and play carefully, it's a lot of trouble during the day. Let's do it now. The man's wife's slightly strange words made Wang Yu feel a little touched in his heart. This kid just doesn't clean up, and these injuries just let him stop for a few days. The man comforted his wife with a smile. He knew that his wife was soft-hearted, and Usopp was an orphan now. It was not easy to live alone, afraid that his wife would feel sorry for him. After comforting his wife, the man turned to Wang Yu and said, "Let's eat here at night. I'll take you home after eating. You take a break first, and your aunt and I went to cook." After that, the man dragged his wife out. Oh, dinner has fallen. This simple news can't help but make Wang Yu feel happy in his heart. It doesn't take any effort. Wang Yu, who was relaxed, felt a huge burst of exhaustion and sleepiness rushing towards him. Forget it. At least it's safe now, and I wake up and go home thinking about it. Say that this Wang Yu fell. When he woke up, it was already more than 7 o'clock at night. After several hours of deep sleep, Wang Yu's spirit and body were much better, and the wounds and places where he fell were not so uncomfortable. and Wang Yu, who was more energetic, opened his eyes and found that the man in the day was sitting on the edge of his bed, holding a glass of water in his hand, and it seemed that he had found that he was awake so prepared. Let's drink some water first. You slept too long this night. It's all night. The food is cold. Your aunt has been guarding you for fear that you have some other situation. See you wake up and go to the hot meal. The man said kindly, handing the water cup to Wang Yu by the way. The kind words made Wang Yu feel very warm. Suddenly came to a strange world. To be honest, Wang Yu did not have that kind at all. Other fellow travelers, in a few days to the new world. They will go against the sky. They will be wonderful. And then they began to plan various fruit abilities. All the girls in the harem are mine, and everyone in the plot is between his palms. Those are just pure YY. Just think about it. Wang Yu knew that he really wanted to be so crazy, and it was estimated that he would not even be able to get out of the East China Sea, so he would let people die. Let's not talk about those big guys. The Axe King Monka is very invincible for ordinary people. Wang Yu remembers that in the animation Monka can split the earth with an axe. Nima, is that what normal people do? The earth in the previous life, the most powerful King Anderson is only barbell squat 547 kilograms, barbell bench press 284 kilograms, deadlift 371 kilograms, benchtop leg lift 37.28 tons, benchtop squat 2.84 tons. Not to mention splitting the ground, it is quite difficult to make a hole in the ground. The small boss dragon behind, not to mention the other water thrown out casually, has the lethality of the shotgun. The lethality of the mom shotgun. There is a saying how to say, everyone is equal in front of the troll. The power can be seen in general, and the destined opponent tweeted. A kissing fishman. A mouth cannon can discount 7 to 8 in a person thick tree. Really can be described as the first person of the mouth cannon, although the power of the mouth cannon is nothing in the comics, but placed on the earth is also a proper destruction king. Just me. A middle-aged man who is not diligent in his body and can't swim. Why is he surprised in the world of One Piece? Just by knowing some plots. Think about following Luffy in the future. Breaking bones all the way. His nose has been broken countless times. That's sour. I can't imagine it. Or? Honestly, staying in the village. Go ye wave? It seems to be a little difficult, not to mention the face of the crosser. The bad butler may not be able to tolerate me. I, the socialist successor, cannot watch the Kia girl being poisoned, and my wild father of the red-haired pirate group is also a high-ranking cadre, and my identity is estimated to be difficult to spend the rest of my life in peace. The world is so chaotic, there is no strength. Maybe when there will be an aftermath, this island is gone. It seems that there is still a wave of fighting, but looking at my current age and Luffy going to sea, it seems that there is still some time. It seems that it cannot be abandoned, and plan the route to become stronger later. Hey, what are you thinking? Usopp, shouted you several times. The man shook his hand in front of Wang Yu's eyes. Oh, I'm sorry. Uncle was thinking about things just now. Didn't notice you calling me. Wang Yu said apologetically. Not knowing the other party's name, he could only pretend to be very familiar with the uncle, hoping not to be recognized by the other party. You kid, hurry up and eat first. If there is something to eat, if there is any difficulty, tell your uncle. The man was very welcoming. Aha. Wang Yu followed the man to the table, a very simple meal, but the portions were sufficient, probably knowing that Wang Yu had not eaten for a day. Look at what? Hurry up and eat, don't be hungry. The man laughed. Ooh, Wang Yu was stunned for a moment, came back to his senses, and nodded quickly. I picked up my chopsticks and ate it in a big gulp. Ahem. The woman handed over a cup of warm water in time, solving the fate of Wang Yu almost choking on the rice before he started. You kid, eat slowly, no one will rob you, the woman said gently. Wife, you are really gentle, it is really my luck in this life to marry you. Looking at the woman's gentle and watery appearance, the love in the man's heart couldn't help but surging. This bite of dog food almost didn't choke Wang Yu. Mother A. I only ate a mouthful of dog food on my first day. What a life. I'm still a child. Wang Yu complained wildly in his heart. The heart spit grooved, but the hands and mouth continued to stuff it non-stop. I don't know if it was the physical cause or the excess energy consumption. Wang Yu ate 2 large bowls of rice in 1 pound, but he still had a feeling of not being full. But think that Usopp is also a small strong figure, who can still jump alive and live after being beaten so much. Maybe the system is also a little perverted, but it is timid and lacks systematic exercise, so it can only be reduced to an auxiliary. Well, since I have to go to sea, it seems that my system has improved my ability before going to sea. Forget it. I don't want to have a headache first, and then I eat enough. Wang Yu continued to eat fiercely. Seeing Wang Yu's hungry wolf-like appearance, it really made both men and women look a little dumbfounded. Usually I have seen people eating like this there, and it is not an exaggeration to describe a year with windswept clouds and locust transit. Half an hour later, Wang Yu patted his stomach and lay comfortably on the chair and burped. Just injured, you can't eat too much. 8 points full. 8 points full, man has a question mark. You ate a whole pot of rice, 3 large fatty fish, and 8 points full. No wonder your mother died of illness, feelings can't support you, this is also too edible. Thinking of this, the man turned his head to look at his wife and said gently. Or we want children to be slow, if we can eat so much in my life, I'm afraid I can't afford it. Hee. What are you talking about in front of Usopp? It would be nice if you could eat like this, a reliable man like you will never let our children go hungry. When the woman heard her husband say this, she covered her mouth and smiled. Isn't that necessary? How can a man as reliable as me make a beloved woman cry? The woman's compliment gives the man unlimited motivation. Uncle, you see it's not early, it's better to send me home. I see that you and your aunt may have some other things that I get in the way here. Mine, hurry up, and if I don't go dog food, I will be killed. Wang Yu's heart was a little broken. In fact, he didn't want the man to send him back, but no way, he didn't know where his home was now. What a big truth you kid is telling. The man said with a smile, and then slapped Wang Yu's shoulder with his hand. Tap. Xiao Wu is still injured. The woman gently stopped the man's actions. His face was a little blushing. Go back, hurry up. Order. Let's go, Usopp. Hurry, uncle will have some big things to do in a while. Take some of the medicine in the medicine box, remember to change it tomorrow. Well, thank you auntie. Listening to the woman's concerned words, Wang Yu felt that he needed to protect the tenderness here. There is also Kia, a girl who is weak on the outside and strong on the inside. Out the door, the man carried Usopp and ran quickly. The village was not a problem running back and forth in half an hour. The man was very anxious, so he ran faster, but stopped in front of a house in a few minutes. The simple wood-paneled house, better than in a clean and tidy, can see that the owner Dolly is very attentive. Arrived. You rest well. Remember to change the medicine tomorrow. If you have nothing to eat, come to my house to eat ha. After speaking, the man slipped into Usopp's field of vision. Forehead. Okay. Wang Yu was speechless. Pushing open the door is a small living room. Tables and chairs are neatly placed. There is obvious dust in other places except for commonly used places. On the right-hand side is a bedroom. The bedroom is a little messy. Wang Yu groped and turned on the light. I sat down in front of the bed and began to sort out the current situation. There was one particularly important thing he had been thinking about along the way, and even he did not dare to confirm it with his hands. But now that he can't escape, Wang Yu quickly raised his hand and pressed it on his nose, up and down, left and right. Huh. Question mark. It seems that the nose is not so long, although it is a little pointy, but it just seems that the nose is higher than the average person, and it has not yet broken through the sky like in the comics. Wang Yu felt a pang of rejoicing in his heart. Fortunately, it was not so cruel, and it was a little difficult to kiss with such a long nose. It's ugly, it's okay. But not getting longer now doesn't mean it won't get longer in the future. Wang Yu thought about the plot in the comic. Usopp went to sea when he was very young, and did not return when his mother died. When his mother died, he lied that the pirates were here in order for his mother to be able to hold on. But his mother eventually died, and since then the village has heard Usopp's pirates are coming every day. He has always believed that his father is a good boy on the sea, and dreams that he can one day become a pirate. When he was young, he was not so prominent, although his mother had a long nose gene, but his mother actually did not have a particularly long nose in the comics, plus the setting of the comic Usopp lied since he was a child, and then the nose became hugely long. Well, I knew it was clear that Usopp had inherited Pinocchio's setting, and lying would make his nose longer. Rub. How can there be such a ridiculous setting? This is also a world, and there is no such funny attribute when you see all the heavens and worlds. Why not do an experiment? In case lying really gets longer, just do it. Wang Yu rummaged through the cabinet, and finally found a pen, casually scratched and pulled in ink. Well, think about it first. He may be from the root long, maybe the tip of the nose part is long, or the middle part may be the beginning. After a rigorous analysis, Wang Yu began to make marks in the mirror. He divided the nose into several segments, respectively sat on different scale marks, so that no matter how the nose changed, he had enough reference to compare. Oh, almost forgot that there is also a problem of accuracy, and the problem of limit value. After all, it is impossible for a human nose to grow indefinitely, so the limit value should be the length of adulthood seen in the comics. If it is accurate, it seems that my mark is still done more carefully, so that it is convenient to see the change, saying that Wang Yu washed off the original mark and redrew a finer mark. Well, let's tell a lie and test it. Well, it's good to say something. This time suddenly makes it a little unexpected to tell a lie. Okay, so be it. I don't like Nami, After speaking, Wang Yu began to observe his nose, and there was no change. I just said, how can such a strange setting exist in the normal world? Just when Wang Yu was happily looking in the mirror, suddenly Wang Yu noticed a little change. He carefully picked up the marker board that Fang Kai made, and compared it with the mark on his nose. I rub. What the heck? It's really such a setting. Also heavenly Dao binding. After careful comparison, the scale of the nose is really a little longer than the scale on the marker. This change made Wang Yu completely collapse. What kind of ghost world still has this setting? It is enough to have such a plugin as the devil fruit. Why is it so for me? Am I destined to be an honest person? A feeble spit doesn't change anything. Shrouded in exhaustion and despair during the day, Wang Yu fainted. Another sunny day. Wang Yu woke up from his slumber. How he wished that he was lying in the hospital's intensive care unit. Wang Yu stroked the rough wood grain on the edge of the bed, and it was difficult for him to accept it in one night. Wang Yu got up and sat on the edge of the bed and touched his stomach, feeling more and more hungry. What kind of system is it that I ate so much yesterday and am still so hungry, so that I cannot starve to death, and what kind of future do I want? The negative day began with breakfast. Wang Yu searched every corner of the house, came out a rotten apple and nothing. Wang Yu, who was nibbling on a rotten apple in his mouth, wanted to go to his uncle's house to rub a meal? Anyway, living is the most important. Thinking like this, Wang Yu is ready to go out. Standing at the door and looking at the road, Wang Yu is a little confused. Where does the uncle live in their family? Came back too quickly last night and the sky was a little late. Dizzy and Dizzy Road did not remember. This is miserable. How to solve the problem of survival today? If you don't catch fish, it seems that there are still some tools at home, and I also learned a lot of survival skills in the wild when I watched De Yi and Bei Yi live in the past, and if I give De Yi this condition, it is the beginning of the dragon slaying hand. Wang Yu went home with enough tools, went out and walked in the direction of the sea. It took about an hour or so. Wang Yu rushed to the beach. The sky is very blue and the sun is also very large. The sea calmly reflects the white clouds in the sky. Small waves hit the shore reef. Wang Yu suddenly felt that his heart suddenly became open and clear. Looking back at his previous heart is like drowning in the mud. The rules of reality overwhelm people breathless, empty ambition but finally reduced to arrogant villains, fly camp dogs, and at this moment, on this sunny and ordinary morning, the past seemed to suddenly turn into smoke waves and was blown away by the sea breeze, and a child's heart returned to his body. Freedom. Wang Yu took a deep breath. Wow. Is this what freedom tastes like? Wang Yu roared excitedly at the sea. Wow. Woohoo. Wang Yu, who shouted for a long time, finally stopped because of his hoarse voice. We have been educated since childhood. Starting preschool at the age of 5, kindergarten at the age of 6, and then elementary school, middle school, university, finally finished reading, to face the entrance examination, and then began to strive for the upper in the social university. Everything contains rules, light and dark, career, women, houses, cars, children. No matter how powerful you are ultimately just a screw in this society, and the only thing we can decide is what kind of screw to make. There are always some famous people who say, meritorious people have their own descendants to comment, but who has the time to comment on you? But it's just a fish in a fish pond. Thinking about it this way, that death is indeed truly liberating, returning to the embrace of nature, and all the troubles of nature disappear. Although the present day is precarious, Wang Yu sincerely let go of the past, just like the Buddha Kaiwu. At this moment he is free, soul and nature are communion, transparent and clear. The past is unattainable, the present is unattainable, and the future is unattainable. Since you are in this body, let you live vigorously in your name, and once you smell the fragrance of freedom, how can you return to the dung pit? No wonder, the real man should run to the sea and have a life without regrets. From today Wang Yu has become the past. My name is Usopp, the future king of snipers. Wang Yu stared at the end of the sea and accepted his identity from the bottom of his heart. Let's get food first. I'm even hungrier after roaring for a long time. Don't hang up first before going out to sea. Usopp carefully walked to the beach, took out a fishing rod and some earthworms dug in the dirt at the door to prepare to fish first. It takes more time to make traps, and he is not very familiar with the terrain in the vicinity. I have to say that Usopp's luck is very good. It may be that there are very few people in the village. This sea is also undeveloped. There are many fish. Soon after the hook there are fish. In less than an hour Usopp has caught 6 to 7 fish. The smallest also has 7 to 8 pounds. However, this is also the limit of Usopp. Fishing is not an easy task, especially this kind of not light sea fish. Just these few are enough to exhaust Usopp. Usopp lay on the beach on the shore, panting heavily, finally not worried about starvation. If he went back to meet yesterday's uncle, Usopp was ready to give him half of today's harvest, and it was a simple repayment for yesterday's life-saving grace. After resting for a while, Usopp is ready to start making today's breakfast. Grilled fish is simple and delicious, the production of salt is not complicated. Charcoal and sand filtered seawater for distillation. After a few times, the salt concentration of seawater in the pot has reached the critical point of crystallization. And then it is completely evaporated to leave a layer of white crystals at the bottom of the pot. The evaporated water vapor is not wasted by Usopp collected. A bucket of clean distilled water, boiling water blisters on a little lemon leaves found in the woods on the shore, plus lemon grilled fish, sprinkled with a pinch of white sea salt. Usopp ate this hard-won meal in the evening. The sea had reached high tide, and soon the sea had spread to Usopp's feet, and it seemed that the trap could only be done tomorrow. Thinking of this, Usopp got up, took care of the tools around him, and prepared to go home. Today's route is not yesterday's, so Usopp went back and did not meet yesterday's uncle, so Usopp felt a little regret in his heart, and the other villagers he met also greeted Usopp, but in addition to a little familiarity, Usopp could not remember their specific names and information in his mind, so he could only pretend to know and nod. However, most of the villagers were obviously uncomfortable with Usopp's nod in response, and some were overzealous and asked Usopp if he had taken the wrong medicine. Why didn't I wake everyone up in the morning, etc. I'm an alarm clock, and it's a price to pay for a longer nose to wake up, bastard, and where the hell people use the wrong medicine to greet others, I'm still a child. This weird village. After complaining, Usopp also knew that this was just a way for the villagers to care for him, and it was really not a comforting village. Usopp remembered his aunt last night again. You should choose such a gentle girl. Thinking of this, a lewd smile rose on Usopp's face. The wretched boy, carrying a large bucket in his hand, walked home step by step, and dangled like this, shaking home. After putting away the remaining fish and sorting out the tools, Usopp decided to clean up the home for the new students to welcome the new self, and the quality of life has been integrated into Usopp's bone marrow. Even if the environment is not good, it can be neat and clean. 2 hours later, it was completely dark, and Usopp was holding a bowl and gulping fish soup. This body did not know why he was hungry too quickly. The fish caught today are almost eaten. Tomorrow to eat another meal will be gone. It seems that tomorrow to catch a little more to save, but also to go to the woods to see if there are any fruits. Always eat fish may lack vitamins, but also to contact the villagers. See where the market is best to exchange some rice noodles, vegetables and the like, to maintain a balanced nutrition. After tidying up the dining table, Usopp lay down on the bed. A sense of relaxation and comfort arose, and the sense of security in hiding under the quilt increased exponentially, and Usopp, who finally overcame his sleepiness, began to think about the things behind. The first is the nose. Yes, the nose can die but can no longer become ugly. From yesterday's experiment can be seen that my flesh is indeed bound by the way of heaven some strange properties. Of course, rational thinking may be that lying will promote the secretion of certain chemicals in the body, and this substance just can make the nose longer. Thinking of this, Usopp slapped his forehead. Why do I want a serious analysis of such a strange thing? In short, the conclusion now is that it is right not to lie, for the attention of the villagers. In fact, it does not matter. After all, it is still the body of a child. The child's patience is limited. After all, the mother has died, and it is not interesting to continue the game where the pirates came, and after a long time, it was naturally accepted. Well, decided. From now on, Usopp will not tell any lies. The game of pirates will let him go with the wind. Please call me Honest Cloth in the future. All for the nose. For the nose. Nose. Honest Cloth is online. What kind of waves can Usopp, whose personality has been completely reversed, stir up in the future? The matter of the nose is so decided. The following is how to improve the strength. First, sort out the information in the memory. The means seem to be many, but to sum up, there are only a few items: flesh, spirit, the starting point of everything. After that, fruit, domineering, physical skills, swordsmanship, marksmanship, and some strange auxiliary abilities. The source of all power comes from physical and spiritual, but how to cultivate? The general pirates in the plot are a group of very talented and strong fighters, and the Navy is trained in various systems, and finally summarized as the 6 styles of the Navy: life, return, domineering. It seems that the cultivation of the flesh is inescapable. Everything needs the support of physical strength. Domineering seems to pay more attention to the development of the spirit, which I seem to have a little advantage. Many methods of cultivating the spirit in the era of information explosion are very accessible, and Tantra and Zen are the most. And if the world of One Piece is real, what about the Grim Reaper? What about the Hokage and the Hunter? The spirit son of death, the soul, the slashing knife. Hokage's chakra, ninjutsu. The Hunter's mental power, the 4 major lines of mental power. Could it be that the part of my cultivation can also learn from the cultivation methods of other worlds? And what specific abilities do I want to cultivate? Usopp left a big question mark in his heart, in addition to a little brain and majestic luck in the comics, whether it is physical, mental, or fruitful, it is a very garbage existence, and I don't know if I didn't read the comics. I really don't know how I survived the original work. In order to avoid getting beaten and living well, physical exercise seems essential, followed by my strong eyesight, and continue to play slingshots? To be honest, it's a little embarrassing for a man with such an age in your heart to let him play with a slingshot. Men play with fire and guns. You must have Bartley. It is best to make a Gauss sniper rifle. Then it is invincible. Barrett, I can't figure it out, although I can do some manual work, but that level of material processing, only a robot with black technology like Frankie can do it, and I don't want it now. But firearms are indeed the strength of this character. If there is a Gauss rifle, mixed with domineering, 5,000 meters away to kill a red dog can also be properly imagined. Twice, flesh, slingshot, simplified version of Bartlett's. Whether to engage in a wave of swordsmanship, the key is to attack strongly, and it is handsome enough. Look at Lee Bai in The Glory of the King, Jet Li who brushes the Dugu 9 sword, and all kinds of anime bigwigs. Which one is not a handsome group playing swords, the right hand long sword in hand? If the enemy runs, backhand a batra, small slingshot. It is really far from attacking and defending. It's perfect. Triathlon, flesh, slingshot, simplified version of Bartle, swordsmanship. Usopp's small note added sword techniques to it. All for handsomeness. The fruit, well, it is better to have a good fruit, after all. I am afraid of pain cannot close combat without close combat. The fruit improves the ability is also fast. It is best to be superhuman. With my brain hole should also be able to develop some conceptual ability. Do not seek invincibility but ask others to kill me. Think about this well to see if there are fruits in the memory that can be obtained relatively easily and have more potential for development. Well, if only there was a barrier fruit would be the best, resistant to drying. 4 items, flesh, slingshot, simplified version of Bartle, swordsmanship, fruit must also have. I want to change my life. I don't want to be a long nose. I don't want to be beaten all kinds of fractures along the way. I want to have sweet love, shouting loud slogans, and Usopp starts a new day. Eating breakfast first, iron rice is steel, and after killing the remaining 2 fatty fish, Usopp took out a small book to make a strategy for the night. I don't know if it's the reason why the personality and Usopp's original soul are fused, or if I think that the opponent behind is too strong. After a night of repeated thinking, I finally summed up the future course of action, with Go as the core, running away and self-preservation first, not blindly coming out, not following the trend. Keeping a low profile to be an invisible assistant is the best, and then follow Luffy well will be able to lie down and win. Luffy. Who is that? The grandson of the Navy boss Carp, the eldest prince of the Draco and the biggest threat to the world government, the Revolutionary Army's chief of staff, Sob, is the second brother, the white-bearded pirate team leader Bosca Dace is the eldest brother, the godfather is the red-haired Shanks, and the teacher is Silbaz Riley, just this background and this strength. The later forces are even more exaggerated, behind the support of several countries. The 4-7 martial arts are friendly, the Straw Hat Big Ship group established after defeating Doflamingo. Looking at the team members, the main battle Liso Master Fu Haki. Yamaji Germa 66's youngest son, the world's top shipwright Frankie, a group of talented navigators Nami, Robin, the son of the devil, the intelligence leader who wanders in the dark world, the pirate predecessor Skeleton King Brook with an immortal body. The sea current manipulator is very peaceful, and the most terrifying thing is that he can communicate with animals, and has a 6-stage transformed ship doctor plus emergency food, which fully guarantees the endurance of the pirate group. Just this is all the lineup of the great gods, can't lie down and win. That's weird too. So as long as Usopp wins steadily, isn't this the 4 kings with a bronze score, not the hand-pinching that, Go as justice. Usopp closed the booklet and put it in his backpack, picked up the bucket and tools containing the fish yesterday and got up and walked to the beach, today not only to solve the needs of survival, but also to make some fishing traps to save time for later cultivation. The remaining surplus can also be exchanged for some Bailey and living needs. Today Usopp is the best time to eat breakfast. He is ready to finish today's fishing mission first, and start making traps after lunch. The fishing process is very smooth, not because of Usopp's good skills, but simply because there are many fish. Lunch was still grilled fish, and wild fruits were picked in the forest, and after eating, Usopp began to make fishing traps. There were no fishing nets, so there were not many ways to trap, and Usopp chose the easiest way he could do, which was to surround the sea. The range does not need to be very large, because the fish, shrimp and crabs here are really super much. Yesterday Usopp has recorded the approximate time of high tide and low tide in this sea. Now is the time when the tide recedes to the lowest point. Usopp observed the surrounding environment. There are many ready-made reefs. Only need to adjust the position of part of the reef to form a closed space. Usopp used the thick wooden stick brought to make a simple lever. Through the buoyancy of the seawater to move these relatively huge reefs little by little. I have to say that although Usopp is not old, but the strength is already similar to the adults in the previous life, it seems that people in this world can become so strong and indeed have some innate advantages. Using up all his strength, Usopp made 3 larger and 2 smaller reef circles, so that as long as you wait for each low tide to harvest a wave, but the shape cannot be completely guaranteed to be round, which makes some obsessive-compulsive Usopp very uncomfortable. Let's do this first, and then it's strong, and it's made into a circle, eh? But who will continue to fish in the future? Idiot! Fiercely complained about his own ambition. After resting for a while, Usopp left a few marks to mark the location of the trap, in case the high tide could not determine the exact location. After making the mark, Usopp carried a full fish bucket to the direction of the forest. Now it is almost evening. If it is slow, it will be dark. The trap will not be able to be carried out until tomorrow. In the forest, the sky is obviously a little dark. Usopp is also a little anxious. After all, the animals and insects and snakes that come out to feed at night are a lot much more dangerous than during the day. According to the observation when passing through the forest in the past 2 days, I saw some beasts' footprints and feces. From the size of the footprints, analysis should not be a large beast. Usopp did not have the opportunity to contact nature in his previous life, and could only be compared and analyzed through some survival experiences shared by Day and Ba on TV. But the problem is not big, and it is done. Usopp found a location with slightly more footprints and stepped on the ground with his feet. It was very soft, the humidity was very strong, and it was easy to dig. Usopp, who made a good conclusion, raised the shovel in his hand and dug hard. I don't know if it was the reason for the soft land or the strength has increased in the past 2 days, and soon dug a 2-meter deep pit. Because the humidity is relatively large, the water seeping out of the bottom of the pit has made the bottom of the pit a small quagmire, which is a little unexpected surprise, so that ordinary animals should not be able to get out when they fall in. Usopp got some dry branches and weeds nearby, and carefully paved the mouth of the pit. Fantasize about catching prey tomorrow. The delicacy made, braised pork, large plate of chicken. Think about the saliva left. The fur can also be exchanged for some money, and Maisie carried the fish bucket home. The same route, Usopp has begun to take the initiative to greet the villagers. For the business elites from Big Blue Star, they are familiar with it. Using a little vague information to set out the information they want to know. This skill is already deep into the bone marrow max. To deal with these villagers who have never been far away in their lives. Just a few small talk using Usopp's original identity can easily get enough information and gossip. Why the widow at the village entrance has not returned all night, and the lace news of the owner of the big house in Sarab village. What made Usopp speechless the most was that everyone still expressed some dissatisfaction that he did not continue to play the game of pirates, and in the past few days, everyone got up late, which made Usopp very indignant. Usopp, the great god of my generation, is it for you people to use as an alarm clock? Excessive. After getting specific information, Usopp is ready to collect the resources in his hand tomorrow and go to the market to exchange some necessities, food, weapons, etc. After all, there must always be a sword for sword training. If you have a gun, it is best to get one. Gunpowder can be made by yourself. Bullets are not expensive. The bullets in the pirates are still medieval projectiles. The amount is huge, the price is close to the people, and it can be reused, so I don't know if tomorrow's resources are enough, and it is also a trouble to bring it back after exchanging. It seems that you have to borrow a carriage with Uncle Beachhill. Beachhill lives near Usopp's house as a very kind uncle. Farming for a living, today Usopp harvested very well. So he gave him 2 fish, which made Beachhill very happy. Because he lived relatively close to Usopp's affairs is very sympathetic. When Usopp's mother is still there will often go to help their family do some small helps. At that time there were naughty children who were always mischievous, and finally began to work steadily, making him feel that Usopp has finally grown up and can begin to take on his responsibilities. It is also not in vain that the neighbors have been caring for the Usopp family. Dinner is still fish soup, fried fish. The sea fish here is very good and there are relatively few spines, but 3 meals a day are fish meat no matter how delicious it is also made Usopp rush to some collapse. There is no spices, that is, salted boiled fish, charcoal grilled fish, no mustard soy sauce sashimi and no sole. People are like this when there is nothing to survive at the beginning. Eat everything is fragrant, survival is solved and begin to pursue taste. Greed is indeed human nature. Usopp sighed with a full belch, and after resting for a while, Usopp began to clean up the battlefield after the meal, boiled a pot of boiling water, soaked a few lemon leaves, sat down at a clean dining table, spread out the strategy book, picked up a pen and began to plan for the future. The problem of survival in the past few days has been solved. The following is how to improve their ability. the ability to improve the difficulty of obtaining food and resources will also become correspondingly lower. So that a virtuous circle is formed. The extra resources can be exchanged for berry as the initial starting capital. The business, even if the strength is still the most important, don't make a few money, life is lost. When the time comes, inquire about the literary level here. See if you can copy some books to expand your economic strength. After all, there is money to go all over the world, is not afraid of. Well, there should be 2 3-year plans here. The first 3 years only do basic physical training. Physical training is listed as the first item. After that is swordsmanship. Tomorrow go to the market to try to change some. The sword does not matter if it is broken. The important thing is that it can be used. The original iron ore can also be exchanged. Usopp's chemistry and physics in his previous life are still very good, and he can still do it by playing a sword himself. You can also make some instruments that you usually use. Physical training should be scientific. Endurance, explosiveness, flexibility must be trained. Can not only train dead muscles. When the time to train the body stiff together, scratch a back cannot do that is funny. Running 10 kilometers in the water, squatting 500, burpee jumping 500, push-ups 1000, rope throwing 1000, skipping rope for half an hour. Aerobic and anaerobic should also be combined, and after practicing a set of yoga to restore flexibility. The sword technique can be a little simpler, and the target is to swing 2000 swords and stab 2000 swords every day. These are easy to increase the amount of training or increase the weight bearing as appropriate. Meditation training at night, mainly practicing tantric exercises such as humble fire determination, which is obsessed with superpowers and other things when I was young in a previous life, and found a piece of exercises that can still be understood on a very small religious website on the internet, which is said to be one of the Tibetan Buddhist tantric practices. That is, the use of hard practice similar to the principle of Qigong, physiological effects such as Qi training, pulse, and bright point, to achieve the function of resisting hunger and cold. Its practice principle is to turn nature into heat into fire, and fire into light into mani beads, such a spiritual vein. Therefore, those who are clumsy and determined are not afraid of cold. The Garyu school taught it as the basis for inheriting the Dafa. It is said that the Milarepa of the Garyu school is the one who cultivates the fire and achieves it, and the Great One can give birth to immeasurable wisdom. Whether he said it so powerful, Usopp is not clear, but he should be able to adjust his heart so that he can feel domineering more easily, which is the ultimate goal. This preliminary training plan Usopp has considered. These seemingly heavy training, put in the previous life, normal people may not be able to stick to a set. But in fact, for the people in the pirate world may not be applicable. The upper limit of the system here is too high. It seems that how to practice cannot be bad. Think about Kaido, Bigman. That kind of normal body science should have been unable to load the heart a long time ago. But it is so unreasonable, it is so strong, coupled with some of Usopp's performance in the later part of the comic and the training volume of others. This training volume is still quite reasonable as a primary training. But it must be a painful process to stick to it. But fortunately, there are no mobile phones, computers, iPads, etc. that are easy to pass the time and addictive in this world, and there is nothing to do if you don't exercise day by day. It's so boring. No wonder this group of old men want to go out to sea to find excitement. It is estimated that part of the factor is also caused by the lack of entertainment activities. Usopp remembered the plan just now, carefully put away the small book. Tomorrow he will get up early to collect the fish. It is best to go to the market in the afternoon to get the exchange thing. After all, it has not been a few years since Lilufei went to sea, and time is precious. Usopp turned out the lights, and the moonlight spilled evenly on Usopp along the shabby window, like a quilt woven by moonlight, gently containing Usopp's lonely heart. Usopp woke up early today, calculated the time of low tide, and rushed to the trap on the beach early to see how the harvest went, and he was more excited about everything for the first time, especially when he saw the harvest full of traps. Wow, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm really a genius, so easily solved the problem of food and clothing. This is Ben Shaokong. Usopp's excitement was joyful. But after the excitement, a little happy trouble, how to transport it back. Thinking of this, Usopp grew big for a while. No matter how much you dig a hole first, save these fish, and borrow Uncle Beecher's car later, how much can be transported? Usopp made up his mind and began to dig a large pit on the periphery of the high tide on the beach. The pit is not deep but large, mainly to ensure that the fish cannot run out. This strategy effectively reduces Usopp's time cost. After a while, a freshly baked pit was dug, and Usopp looked at the rounded pit in front of him, and couldn't help but sigh. The craftsmanship is getting better and better. It can also be regarded as a little preparation for the pit people in the future. After digging the pit, Usopp carried the bucket and rushed to the largest trap, full of piles of fish churning in the sand reef or small puddles. Usopp picked up the large barrel and circled in the trap, and slowly harvested a large barrel, and the fish in the trap decreased by about 1/5. It's really an undeveloped treasure land. Back and forth several times the fish of the first trap is washed dry, because there are too many fish. Usopp cannot care about any ecological protection. The big and small grab, anyway, now eat by yourself. How to toss it is estimated that there are no fish born quickly. The working people are the most glorious, and in addition to the joy of harvest that Usopp felt, the morning of labor also reaped low back pain, and arm pain. It is also because I am too excited to come and work before I have time to eat breakfast, and now I am tired and can't move at all. I am hungry and tired. Usopp was lying on the beach, fantasizing about the chicken leg burger in the left hand and the happy life of happy water in the right hand, and really wanted to order a takeaway, and the happy water had to be filled. After resting for a while, coupled with Wang Mei's technique of quenching thirst, Usopp felt a little more comfortable. It seems that I can't go to the market to exchange today, and the preparation is still insufficient, but the yield of this harvest should not worry about my stomach. Usopp muttered to himself as he fished out the large crab that had always been fat in the pit beside him. Lunch is yours, baby. High-end ingredients often only need the simplest cooking techniques, and for crabs steaming is undoubtedly the most suitable. Boil over high heat to put the cleaned crabs into the pot. Steam with fire for 15 to 20 minutes, until the crab shell is bright red. When the crab meat is ripe, take out. Bring the vinegar, shallots, ginger and other spices borrowed from Uncle Beechil yesterday. Ginger vinegar sauce, which not only supplements rich protein, but also brings supreme enjoyment to Usopp's taste buds, which is truly natural delicious. However, the crabs obviously could not satisfy the hungry Usopp, and ate a dozen 5 to 6 pounds in one go. I was so careless just now that I was almost clipped. Usopp patted his stomach, looking at his larger and larger amount of food. Maybe this little fish is not enough to eat himself. Now start training like this. When the amount of food should explode, it seems that there needs to be a stomach rescue plan. Otherwise it is too much to eat when you always go to eat halfway through the training. There is not much in the barrel, so Usopp only brought dinner and the amount to give to Uncle Beechil. Now go back should still be able to catch the market. First go to see the situation can also do. Otherwise tomorrow with the goods directly over, not sold it will be funny. Now is there any preservation technology? So many fish piled together is also easy to die and deteriorate. At that time, you may stink yourself to death and work in vain. Well, by the way, to see the beast trap, Usopp carried the bucket to the place marked by the trap deep in the forest, and Usopp found that the trap had been set off in the distance. Meiji, Usopp put down the bucket and picked up the shovel he carried with him and ran towards the trap. But Usopp did not approach the trap recklessly, but approached a little cautiously, in case there is a fierce beast or something. More than 2 meters is not high. This is where the world of One Piece. Dozens of meters of monsters are everywhere. This island seems to be relatively safe, but a few meters old beasts that can't stand it, and they are not Luffy, they're kind of free range. How old can duel with crocodiles, bears, tigers' children, or Gohan? Sweeping around. Hey, a stone with a big head. Usopp has recently improved his digging skills very quickly, and he dug this stone out in a few strokes. It's time to carry forward the schemes from Greater China. Wow. The old man who eats a trick throws stones and asks for directions. Usopp roared and threw the stone into the pit with all his strength, followed by a huge beast throat coming out of the pit. I'll go. It's really a big gain. Listening to the voice is a big guy. It seems to be a bear. It is estimated that it is too heavy to get out of the quagmire. Otherwise the 2-meter pit may not be able to trap it. But what now? If you don't consume a lot, it makes sense. First stabilize your hand. Usopp asked himself. It takes a lot of time to kill it, and it is more important to go to the market today. Keep it for 2 days. Get a bow or a gun and clean him up. Hand-to-hand combat is not my generation style. Usopp picked up his bucket of fish and walked out of the tidal forest without looking back. A gentle breeze ruffled the curly ends of Usopp's hair. When he returned home, he saw Uncle Beechil enjoying the shade under the tree, and Usopp licked his face and asked Beechil to take him to the market. Uncle Beechil was as helpful as ever, and there was nothing to do anyway, so he should go for a walk. Beechil went back to the house to clean up and led Usopp to the market. How do you want to go to the market? If you need to tell your uncle and me, I will bring it back to you the next time I go. You're still small yourself to go to a lot of trouble. Beechil is not worried about liars. They are all people from one island, plus the people are simple, and they deceive people so that others know and don't mess around here. Nope. It's just that I haven't caught some fish recently, thinking that I can't finish eating it and it's better to change something, and save everyone trouble. Everyone has helped me a lot, and I can't rely on everyone all the time to survive, so I believe that it's not what my mother expects. Listening to Usopp's words, Beechil looked at his eyes more and more softly, and stretched out his big hand to touch Usopp's head. You've grown up, Usopp, and you're a little man. At your words, today the uncle will take you to take a good stroll. What do you want to buy the uncle treat? What does it mean that a man is a man, and a little is added? Usopp pouted. Ha ha ha. Oh huh. But since Uncle Beechill is so generous, then I'm not welcome, Usopp joked in a strange tone. Ahem. Well, your uncle is not very rich, don't bankrupt your uncle, Beecher said embarrassed. Along the way, Usopp asked many questions he wanted to know, such as trading hours, what things could be traded, where to find blacksmiths, and where to buy shotguns. The market is not very large, and it is almost the closing time in the afternoon. The transaction is almost the same, so there are not many people. Usopp first found a few water dealers to ask about the price. The price of receiving the goods made Usopp a little disappointed. The price is not as high as I thought, but this is expected after all, the output is too large. However, the good news is that there is a specialty fish in the sea near the village of Sibro that is still valuable and can be collected in large quantities. Usopp consulted the fishmongers in detail about the species to be harvested, mainly asking about the appearance of various fish. After that, it is time to go to the blacksmith shop where to buy a broken sword for practice. And the bear in the pit also has to find time to harvest. The bear skin should also be preserved as completely as possible, and some long-range weapons are also needed. The gun is the best, if there is no bow. The bow can also be used, the slingshot or forget it. Gadgets for the little ones. The owner of the blacksmith shop is not bad, although he looks quite fierce with a big beard. In fact, he feels a little strict wife, and he is really not a person. The blacksmith shop is quite complete in everything, because the sea area around this is relatively peaceful, so there are not many weapons. Are some household agricultural tools and kitchen utensils. After looking around and not finding more satisfactory, I thought about discussing with the blacksmith uncle whether I could customize a sword. It didn't have to be too good, I could use it, and then Usopp used fish to pay the bill. May be affected by the simple temperament here. The people here are also very simple. The blacksmith uncle did not bargain with Usopp, and readily agreed, and asked Usopp if he wanted to be a great swordsman. I don't know if the sword point arrived. The blacksmith uncle's words chatted with Usopp from the dream, the aftercare of the sword, saying that he missed an opportunity to learn swordsmanship when he was a child, otherwise he would have galloped on the top of the sea now. Said Usopp rolled his eyes, but the uncle's hands are not slow. While chatting, while listening to Usopp's requirements for the sword, the first embryo of a sword was driven out before dark. The initial embryo was only removed from the impurities of the ore, and the simple sword shape was beaten, and there was no luster when viewed from afar, like an iron bar. The blacksmith uncle handed the sword embryo to Usopp to let him feel it first, and if there was anything uncomfortable, he was adjusting later. Usopp picked up the sword embryo and brushed it back and forth a few times, and the inexplicable feel was not bad. Not light or heavy, the length is still a little long for his current figure, but the child grows very fast. The sword body is a double-sided bladed sword shape. The sword grid is a slightly protruding small bag on both sides. Usopp likes a simple style very much. Low-key is not easy to attract attention. Rotten iron can effectively reduce their threat and sense of existence. Holding a broken sword looks very poor and no one will borrow money from themselves. Very good. That's him. The decided Usopp re-exchanged his opinions and experiences with the blacksmith, making it clear that he only needed to simply forge enough toughness, open the blade, and maintain his current low-key appearance, which aroused the strong dissatisfaction of the blacksmith uncle, and said a lot from technology to dreams, saying that he just had no materials, otherwise the big knife would be a minute. You actually let such a blacksmith beat a broken iron bar as a sword, isn't this scolding? In the future, you are famous when others see your sword and say that I hit it. Then who still comes to me to make a sword? How to live in the blacksmith circle. Besides, being a swordsman is so instigating. What kind of swordsman? Balabala. In the endless scolding, Usopp repeatedly said yes. The moment the sword came out, he fled with the sword in his arms. After running a long way, Usopp still felt that the scolding of the blacksmith uncle was echoing in his ears, and it was estimated that he had heard too much and there was still an echo in his head. It's late. Usopp also knows the way, not far from the village. So Usopp let Uncle Beechhill go back first. He waited here for the sword to come out. It was originally impossible to do it so quickly, but who let Usopp ask for low? The material requirements are in place. The shape is casually clicked to see that it is a sword. That's why it came out so quickly. Firearms may not be available until the next time, when the caravan comes to the island to trade. It is also traded privately, which is very expensive and cannot be exchanged for fish, which is an underground transaction. If Usopp were to be a bounty hunter, killing a little pirate would probably be enough to solve the current urgent need, but it is better to hide from things that are too dangerous. On the way home, Usopp is still swinging his sword. That man does not dream of having a sword, fighting with the strongest, talking about a life and death love with the most beautiful woman, and then setting off a stormy wave in the world, and Usopp is now caught in the fantasy of fighting the top of the forbidden purple. A Usopp blowing snow will let the world know who is the first swordsman in the world today. Boom. Boom. Usopp. Why the hell is not sleeping? It's calling you. Obviously, Usopp's strange cry caused dissatisfaction among the neighbors, and Usopp blowing snow, the first swordsman's road, broke the sand before it began, and now Usopp is not as thick as the original owner's face, so he can only hold the grievances of the sword and run home. When I got home, I first lifted the kettle and filled 2 sips of water, and I was not ready to eat dinner, so I just lay down on the bed with my sword in my hand and slept. After a while, a sneer appeared on the lips of the sleeping Usopp, in his dream. The world's first swordsman, the first cold-blooded killing god, Usopp blowing snow was invincible all the way, killing all the masters under the sword, and finally holding the first beauty in the rivers and lakes. Nushuen Nami stood at the top of the world. After waking up the next day, I don't know if it was caused by last night's conquest of the heavens, Usopp woke up feeling very sore. Yesterday he had discussed with the fishmonger and the blacksmith uncle, and when the caravanserai's ship passed by next week, he would go to deliver the fish and settle the bill, and Usopp could officially start his own road to the King of Go in the next few days. But before starting, you should still make the bear in the cave. The bear skin can also be made into a bed quilt. The weather has become a little cooler these days. Just do it. I have to say that the world with less entertainment also has its own good side. At least Usopp's procrastination is cured. There are too many previous worlds. Interesting. Fresh things make people unable to concentrate on things. Always want to swipe a mobile phone. Glance at the computer. This small video is so interesting. Wow, puppet, this beauty. Too many temptations make people indulge. But what did they get after suddenly waking up? Only growing age, and a feeling of emptiness. Eating breakfast, Usopp and Uncle Bishir said hello and walked in the direction of Hyon, pinning this iron bar-like sword on his waist, carrying a large barrel, carrying a hunting bow from Uncle Beechel. The spring breeze was proud, thinking about today's harvest. Usopp felt a little excitement in his heart. Hunting is a survival instinct flowing from human primitive genes. Hunting on the earth in the past life was illegal. There is no way to fight. Now the opportunity comes, or a wild bear. It's so exciting. There are no other traces near the trap. Usopp climbed to a nearby tree and observed the movement in the pit. The bear in the pit has long lost its spirit, lying at the bottom of the pit and not moving. But Usopp is very careful not to approach rashly. I want to become a man of the King of Go. How can I easily take risks? And the bear is also introduced in Baya's survival channel. This thing can sleep for a winter when it is full. Well, isn't this hibernation? Spit on himself. Usopp felt that the giant bear may be conserving physical strength. After all, it is not realistic to want to starve a wild bear to death 1 night and 2 nights, and after 2 days of sun exposure, the water in the pit has become significantly less, and when the bottom of the pit becomes dry, it is estimated that the giant bear should be able to come out of the pit easily. It seems that you have to start first. Usopp shuttled through the tree. Found a place with a very good view, and there was a position sheltered by lush leaves. Hooked the trunk with his feet, and then used all his strength to pull the hunting bow full. His left eye aimed at the giant bear at the bottom of the pit in the direction of the tip of the arrow. Usopp took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart through breathing, and stared intently at the target in front of him. At this moment Usopp felt surprisingly quiet, except for the target in front of him and the bow and arrow in his hand. Let go. Usopp ordered himself. Collapse. The arrow shot through the eye socket of the giant bear, not entering most of the arrow's body, and the remaining tail of the arrow advanced a little more in a short trembling. The giant bear was in no pain or resistance, so it was arranged in deep sleep. This is not a kind of happiness. Usopp, who withdrew from the state of concentration, looked at the scene in front of him, a little stunned, but also a little unbelievable. Archery, this thing is not easy to shoot at the target for the first time. His first arrow is a second kill. How is it possible? Is this talent? Said to be talented, Usopp still feels a little unreliable, although Usopp is a very good sniper in the comics, but this has not yet begun to develop himself so accurate. Then this is not the debut as both the pinnacle. So Usopp feels that the probability of luck is greater. After all, his occupation in his past life does not allow him to make irrational judgments. It seems that in the future, if the marksmanship is well developed, it is best to engage in some black technology weapons, develop strengths and avoid weaknesses, and specialize, in order to best play their talents. With a small goal in mind, Usopp decided to go home and write it down in his plan. With a bow on his back, climbing down a tree, and coming to the side of the big pit, Usopp has a little headache. This guy needs several tons. How to transport it? Looking for an uncle. The two of them were also a little strenuous. It seemed that they were going to make some gadgets. Usopp quickly ran home, passing by Uncle Beechir's house and saying that he would ask him for help when there was something, and the uncle was really idle, and agreed to come down in one bite. Usopp returned home and found a few pieces of wood in the utility room, and an hour later, several rough fixed pulleys were cut out by Usopp with a kitchen knife. I have to say that Usopp is really worthy of the title of inventor of the Straw Hat Pirates. Using a kitchen knife to cut out pulleys is also really strong. With pulleys and a rope long enough, Usopp and Beachill came to the trap in the forest. You hunted this bear? Beachill asked with wide eyes. Yes. The main thing is to fall into the pit and get hungry. Then I shot him to death with an arrow from a distance, and the luck component was greater. Usopp explained that as a man who aspires to become Go King, it is still not publicized to be able to hunt a giant bear single-handedly in his tens, and the most important thing is to keep a low profile to the circle of destiny, and those false names are not important at all. That's also very powerful. Your uncle and I have never seen such a big bear in my life. Let's quickly get it for him to deal with, otherwise the meat quality will easily deteriorate. The bearskin is also very good, there are no wounds, and it is estimated that it can be sold for a lot of money. Yes, boy. Usopp could feel that Uncle Beecher was really happy for him, and did not say anything about the remuneration for helping, which made Usopp feel very touched and a little embarrassed. Thinking of this, Usopp feels that his start in the pirate world is quite good, safe environment, hospitable elders, compared to many peers when crossing either the pirate village, or crossing into the slave ship. Crossing Usopp is obviously a high-quality option, strong background, reliable partners, comfortable novice village. However, Usopp has some regret that he does not seem to have any powerful system possession, nor does he have the fruits of heaven, slashing knives, riding wheel eyes, the power of immortals, and relying on himself to become stronger. Alas, sigh, smelly boy, work harder, it's about to pull out, not to mention that your few little wheels really save effort. Uncle Beecher showed great enthusiasm for the little wheel invented by Usopp, and this kid has something in his head. Although assisted by the fixed pulley, the two still spent almost all their efforts to transport the bear back to the village, because there were still no villagers hanging out in the morning, so they were not discovered by others all the way home, which is a good situation for Usopp who does not want to be famous. The two of them decomposed the big bearskin at Usopp's house. The bear meat was too much to marinate with sea salt first, and then dried, and the bear pod decided to take it to Uncle Beecher's house at night and stewed it. After solving this bear is almost afternoon, the two of them stewed some bear meat and grilled fish in the Usopp family to solve lunch. After lunch and cleaned up, Uncle Beechill first brought home the bear paw bearskin and bear meat. These things need to be treated twice to use. What materials and tools in Usopp's house? Usopp came to the beach with a sword and light clothing, found a flat beach suitable for training, and after warming up, Usopp began to walk towards the coastline until the sea did not reach his ankles. Usopp fixed his eyes on a cliff about 2 kilometers away, so he ran there first, 10 laps first. At the beginning, Usopp is not very suitable for running in the water. The density gap between air and water is too large, it is easy to fall when running fast, the sand under the feet is relatively soft and not strenuous, and each step is much more laborious than normal on flat land. If it is the system of the previous life, let alone 10 laps, it is considered good physical strength to run half a lap, but although Usopp's body is a child, he has been running outside but much stronger than his previous life. At least now Usopp is somewhat adapted to running in the sea after running a lap and does not feel particularly tired. But Usopp knew the final laps were the real test. When the physical strength is squeezed dry, every cell in the body is screaming in your ears, urging you to give up, and every breath after that is hot to burn through the heart and lungs. 2 laps, 3 laps. 7th lap, the limit, it's really the limit, and it's going to die again. Usopp gasped violently, and his pace changed from running to staggering forward. The intense breathing made him unable to say a complete sentence. The mind is all stop, give up, so tired and so hard to do. Go to sea is not to be beaten, real men should fall where to lie down. Give it up, boy. Is it bad to raise fish honestly? Countless distractions came like a tide. Ideas that I don't usually know about that corner will suddenly pop up to show their sense of existence. Lap 8 is the lung burning, so painful, the leg is going to break, what am I still holding onto? 9th lap, haha, the 9th lap, will this pain come once a day in the future? I want to cry. I miss you so much, Mom and Dad. It's the 10th lap. Usopp could only crawl forward little by little on his stomach in the water with his hands and feet. And the last 1,000 meters, how can I still hold on? I really want to give up. Why is it so far? Am I still moving? 500 meters. This place seems to have crawled over just now, is it an illusion? How salty the saliva in the mouth is, I want to vomit. Syllable. Usopp's hand pressed on the reef at the end, and the whole person lay in the sea, letting the waves beat on his face. Now nothing can make him move a step. Being able to lie down is really the happiest thing in the world. Ah, so comfortable, it seems that the legs can't feel it, forget it. So be it, take a break. I'll go, and I'm not going to kill myself like this every day in the future. Can I really keep it up? It seems that being beaten is nothing, and the degree of pain is similar, but there are still some differences. Training is to beat yourself every day, and being beaten is occasionally beaten. In terms of dignity, it is quite miserable to be beaten, but in order not to be beaten, it is a little difficult to torture yourself every day. Thinking that he would have to train like this every day for many years, Usopp felt a little desperate for life, and couldn't he get stronger in a convenient and easy way? After resting for more than half an hour, Usopp finally defeated the rebel legion in his heart and decided to move on to the next training. I have to say that Usopp's resilience is still a little strong, and only half an hour of rest has allowed him to recover a small part of his physical strength. Just now the leg exercise was a little ruthless. Let's practice the sword next. Usopp slowly moved to the place where the sword was placed, holding the low-key sword like an iron bar in his hand, stroking the sword body with his left hand. Always give it a name before practicing the sword. Well, my goal is to become Go-King, to be a low-key assistant. If I can lie down until the end, it will be the best situation. Well, a Go-King, with a wrought iron sword, is also considered a combination of pearls. If there is a name, it is still to seek a name. Forget it is simply no name, and I can't be famous if I have a name. Why bother to take a name? Usopp waved the sword in his hand. I don't know this thing of swordsmanship, how to start practicing. To put it bluntly, skill is speed, strength and reaction, and sword art should also be the accumulation of long-term experience in fighting with people, and then take its essence and condense it into a unique technique suitable for yourself. For me, I'm not a strength type myself, so I should mainly train in speed burst and accuracy, and after some analysis, Usopp came up with a temporary feasible way to go to the forest and cut leaves. Today's goal is to cut 1,000 leaves, pierce 1,000 leaves. It sounds very simple training, with a sword to wave the leaves casually and not cut the sparse, just do a few easy to complete all. But in fact, it is not so easy. When cutting each leaf is required, when chopping to feel the direction of the whole body force, the order of muscle operation, waist, legs, spine, and finally the force of the arm to coordinate and unify into a force, burst out. The target leaf cannot hurt other leaves, and requires a sword down. The size of the separated leaves must be the same, in order to successfully make a slash. Piercing. It is the same reason to feel the difference between the waist, legs, spine, and finally the force of the arm and the force when slashing. Fine-tune your own power state. Achieve the balance of sword speed and explosive power. Stab a sword to be as fast as lightning. Point to the end. Stab the leaves with all your strength but do not break the leaves. It is considered successful. Usopp set the goal and began to train. This time Usopp did not have so many distractions and pains as when running. Usopp already had some habits. It was really super adaptable. So he trained until the left and right hands could not stop at all in lifting Usopp. Looking at the mess around him, Usopp knew that he was still far away, and did not appear when practicing swordsmanship, and the state of luck when shooting bears with a bow, so the leaves that successfully met the goal were 0. This result is also within Usopp's estimate, because when he cuts the first few hundred swords, the probability of accurately cutting the target leaves is not high, and 3 of the 10 swords can cut the target, and the physical exertion behind the training is even more amazing. The back is basically the rhythm of random slashing. There is a long way to go. Go back to dinner. I don't have the strength to work on other projects, Usopp said to himself, his trembling hand laboriously inserting his sword into his waist and walking in the direction of Uncle Beecher's house. In Uncle Beecher's house, Usopp not only killed 3 bear paws alone, but also eliminated a small half of the bear meat. According to this eating method, the bear is estimated to not be able to eat for a few days. After leaving Beach Hill found that Usopp's food intake had increased, he asked Usopp to bring back most of the bear meat, saying that he couldn't eat much, and the young man had to eat more meat if he wanted to exercise. A comfort, and Usopp felt a pang of emotion in his heart. Ding. Favorability +10. Carrying half a bear and dragging his tired body, Usopp slowly moved home step by step, and after drinking and eating, Usopp could clearly feel that his physical recovery speed had become faster. I'll go. This conversion efficiency is a bit high. It seems that if this trend continues, Usopp feels that he is likely to become a foodie, not to mention whether Yamaji can resist a chef, and the food feels like it is not enough. It seems that the fishing skills are also well practiced, otherwise it seems that it may be easy to go hungry with the group in the early stage. Usopp touched his chin and thought. But there are also benefits. The exercise efficiency may be much higher than I thought, and it seems that I am a lot closer to the goal of completing all the projects normally. Life is like that. If you can't resist, you can enjoy it, and since you decide to become stronger, you can't continue to die and live during the day. The look of dying and alive during the day still made Usopp feel a little ashamed to think about. Compared with the protagonists, Luffy fought with lions and crocodiles and tigers as a teenager, and went to the sky into the sea, and Solon Sanji was even more so, who suffered a lot at a young age, but he cultivated a strong and optimistic character and spirit. Compared with them, only Usopp lived a relatively comfortable island in the early days, playing a comfortable pirate game, and there was nothing but talent. Just like a working life, too comfortable, enjoy comfort, do not continue to work hard to improve learning, will eventually become more inferior, more anxious, except to be eliminated by society, there is no choice at all. Tien Xingjian gentlemen with self-improvement. The road of life is like sailing against the tide, if you do not advance, you will retreat, and choosing comfort is choosing to hand over your fate to others. The first life is already unchangeable, and the second life will repeat yesterday's story? Nope. It's not enough just not to be beaten. I also want to beat people. I also want to be able to face the 4 emperors. Usopp roared from the bottom of his heart. Forehead. Did I just say that Go Jung Gang 4 emperors? Do I want Go or Gang? Forget it, it doesn't matter. Well, it would be great if I could save Ace, after all, I also like aces, it's a pity to die. Forget about why think so much, the top is full of big guys, my little arms and legs follow to save people? Let's not be fanned by the bear, continue the evening class, and the dinner is almost digested. Usopp patted his stomach, stood up to clean up the table and other debris, and made a relatively large space in the room to do yoga. After high-intensity muscle exercise may cause fascial adhesions, capillary rupture, a lot of sweating, a large amount of adrenaline secretion to the heart to cause a burden. Serious may also cause rhabdomyolysis, these need attention, but the people in the pirates are generally very physical, the problems of the past life may not be a big problem here, just pay attention to the amount of training, however, it is still necessary to restore the necessary recovery means to restore the elasticity of muscles and tendons, otherwise muscle stiffness will limit the development of their martial arts. Patanjali, the ancestor of India's great sage yoga, created the Yoga Sutra, on the basis of which Indian yoga really took shape, and the practice of yoga was officially established as a complete system of 8 limbs. Yoga is a system that helps humans reach their full potential by raising awareness. Yoga poses use ancient and easy-to-master techniques to improve people's physical, mental, emotional and spiritual abilities, and are a way of exercise to achieve harmony between body, mind and spirit, including body adjustment posture, breath pranayama, meditation method of heart adjustment, etc., to achieve the unity of body and mind. Why does Usopp understand yoga? Because in order to soak a beautiful instructor who teaches yoga before, he spent a lot of money to sign up for all the lessons of his sister. And the sister also knew his purpose, but unfortunately people were not interested in him. And through teaching classes, Usopp understood what yoga is, 4 lessons a day, 2 hours a class, all he practiced alone. Yoga don't look just do some movements, in fact, each of them is challenging the limits of their muscles and bones. Usopp, who practiced in his previous life for 8 hours a day, has long been out of human form, not to mention puff girls, and his ability to move is considered powerful. But in the end, although the girl did not soak, but practiced a professional yoga, the body flexibility is also very good, and thanks to this body's yoga kung fu, in order to stay healthy in the overtime of working day and night. Start with a sun salutation warm-up. After getting ready, Usopp opened his posture and began the junior asana sun salute. The sharp pain of stretching the muscles and bones combined with the soreness caused by intense muscle exercise during the day, these two pains together synthesize a different sourness. This sourness makes Usopp a little unable to maintain a normal asana breathing rhythm. This is not good, breathing is not in place, asana is in vain. Sun salutation is a combination of several elementary asanas, which can stretch your muscles and bones from a primary angle, heels to shoulders, and then arms, oops and pains. Don't rhyme it this time. Bear with it. Usopp knew that his undeveloped little body needed a period of adaptive training in addition to flexibility, whether it was physical fitness, swordsmanship, or yoga, it took a week or a month of adaptive training, so that the body could not be so painful after getting used to it. Everything is difficult at the beginning, it hurts. Thinking that the back has to be like this every day, well, the back is also difficult. But maybe it's perverted to practice later, and the big brother who shakes the dice in Golden City doesn't begging for abuse all day. In the end, Suo Da chopped upside down. A cold war. Hurry up and stop this evil thought. Come. Let's see how much it hurts. I still don't believe it. 2 hours later. Wow. What a pleasant start. It makes people a little nostalgic for the time when I was abused by my sister before. It was quite painful at the time, but now it's still a sweet memory. Usopp lay on the floor in large letters, panting violently, and his sweat had formed a small puddle on the uneven floor. Remembering this thing is too bland will not leave a deep impression in the mind, the more to the end, but those embarrassing, painful memories will accompany their life, the embarrassment and pain at that time, now the taste is more different. Time is truly fleeting. From beginner to intermediate to advanced 27 postures are done. How painful it is when doing it. How painful it is after last night. After the muscles and bones are opened, a burst of numbness reverberates in the body like over electricity, and a transparent and clear feeling is borne through the body, as if the impurities of the body are expelled with sweat. Muscle soreness after strenuous exercise is mainly caused by the hypoxia of the body's muscle glycogen and the formation of lactic acid by fermentation during exercise. Lactate usually resolves within 4 to 5 days. This yoga stimulates blood circulation and reduces lactic acid concentration, and it is obvious that the soreness of the muscles has disappeared a lot. However, although it is much less, it is estimated that the whole body should still maintain a severe soreness tomorrow, and whether you can survive tomorrow depends on perseverance. So hungry. Just ate a small half of the bear, but just after these hours of yoga and hungry, Usopp can already confirm that his body can indeed quickly digest food into energy. This conversion efficiency is more directly related to the amount of exercise. This effect feels like a weakened version of life return. It seems that Luffy has learned the use of life return when he fights, quickly digests food to replenish energy, drink milk and teeth. Control calcium concentration to the broken tooth to grow. This is also a bit of a fairy skill. If there is a low-end version of life return now, then if you want to focus on cultivation later, you may be able to learn it in advance, so that the road to becoming stronger in the back should have a significant improvement in efficiency.
Ouch. Think of here and feel a little excited. How can there be a feeling that it is about to become stronger? Hang the 4 emperors, step on the 5 old stars. 2 floating, low-key and low-key. But cooking is really a big problem. The people take food as the sky. The ancients sincerely do not cheat me. It seems that I have to make more money to take care of a full-time cooking nanny. If it affects cultivation because of cooking, it is not beautiful.
Fantasize about stepping on the 5 old stars, hanging the 4 emperors to beat Usopp's tired body with another wave of chicken blood. Being a man should be a yellow ape, saying the most intimidating words, and doing the most ruthless fight. In order to relax the muscles and solve the hunger, Usopp decided, opened a fire and boiled some water to take a bath, roasted a bear by the way, said to do it, suddenly sat up. Usopp suddenly felt dizzy, squatted down again, and did not know whether he was hungry or suddenly stood up and lacked oxygen. His hands supported the floor for a while, and then slowly stood up. After exercising day and night, only resting for more than half an hour, Usopp returned to the physical strength that can move. This physical quality does not know how to practice, so wasted in the comics, white blind this body talent, and finally only mixed an auxiliary position. Jingle bell a toss, finally the fire rising, a fire under the tub to boil water. A fire for roasting. The sky outside has long been dark. Tonight the night sky is very clear. The moonlight is soft, like mercury scattered to the earth. The starry river is covered with the mysterious night sky. Usopp looked at the starry sky, looking at this strange star. The thoughts in the heart could not stop rushing to the heart. Parents, are you okay? The sun is doing well here. There are food, drink and dreams. I used to always feel that my parents were very annoying, not with their own high education, ability cattle, being managed more will quarrel with their parents, and I don't have time to care about my family when I go to work. Now I think that I was really a bastard at that time. The sun wants to raise and don't wait for him. It is indeed a big pain in life, but a person's consciousness is always accompanied by pain, just like iron ore is first burned by fire and forged into a sword by hammer. Every hammer smashes out impurities and increases toughness, and why not people? A bite of bear meat. Usopp actually felt a little drunk. Alcohol is not intoxicating, people are drunk, and there is no alcohol in meat. Eating a whole bear leg late, Usopp felt a little full, looked at the tub beside him, just as the water was also boiling. 3 times 5 divided by 2 stripped naked and jumped in. Ooh, the water waves repeatedly stirred and burned in the tub, stimulating every inch of Usopp's skin. At this time it is good to have a glass of wine. Fantasize about the meat in your hand into a glass of burgundy, soaking in the moonlight in a bath in a glass of red wine. What is called enjoyment? This is enjoyment. What is called taste? This is called taste. True Straw Hat Pirates, the first exquisite people. Soaking in the hot water, Usopp felt that the whole world was quiet. His thoughts spread along the endless starry sky. Everyone had rested. This was his time alone. During this time he did not have to do anything, did not have to force himself, no one expected, would not live up to expectations, calm and peaceful, no need to bear guilt. What a day. Usopp climbed out of the tub with a soft body. It was late, and Usopp was really tired and sleepy now. After changing into dry clothes, life satisfaction increased by a decimal point. Lying on the bed and thinking about the events of the past few days, suddenly a midnight breeze blew in from the window, and the small breeze was dry and cool. Usopp struck a spirit. This small wind also blew away Usopp's little sleepiness, and also blew away the inertia that surged in his heart, and Usopp, who was a little more energetic, sat up with great effort, moved his right leg with his left hand, moved his left leg with his right hand, and barely put on a meditative posture. Prepare to start cultivating humble fire determination. Humble fire is not a very powerful exercise. After practice, it will produce internal strength or something. This exercise is one of the Tibetan Buddhist tantric practices. That is, the use of hard practice similar to the principle of Qigong, physiological effects such as Qi training, pulse, and bright point, to achieve the function of resisting hunger and cold. Its practice principle is to turn nature into heat into fire, and fire into light into mani beads, such a spiritual vein. Therefore, those who are clumsy and determined are not afraid of cold. The Garyu school taught it as the basis for inheriting the Dafa. It is said that the Milarepa of the Garyu sect is the one who cultivates the fire and achieves it. The fire is fixed into the timed navel, and the four below the navel indicate the warm and hot chi generated. Meditation is called humble fire determination. Usopp was also a superpower fan in his previous life. The boy did not fantasize that he would have superpowers. Usopp was no exception, for a while even too obsessed with superpowers and was cheated by some fairy scammers a lot of money. People were deceived more, plus Usopp the person's own intelligence also calmed down online, and gradually became discerning about these things, and the love for superpowered fairies is still the same, but it is just a shackle of reason added to this love. In his previous life, Usopp really read a lot of Buddhist texts and found a method that suited his true progressive cultivation spirit. The Tao Major cultivates purity, inaction, Buddha cultivates silence and emptiness. In fact, in his previous life, Uso read the Taoist scriptures and Buddhist scriptures in ordinary ways. There is already gain, but this gain does not refer to practice, but to have a clear understanding of how to practice, or what the ultimate state of practice of the ancient Buddhist practitioner is. In fact, there are only two ways to practice in the true sense. One is gradual enlightenment and the other is enlightenment. The rest of the other things that carry chi veins and so on are all false evil ways. Practice those who will only become extreme. How to say it? It can be understood that practice is to return to innateness, and conscious thoughts are acquired. It is a law, and it has been pointed out in the Heart Sutra that everything has a law, like a dream bubble, like dew and electricity, as if it is like a view. Therefore, those who carry, move, and practice are all acquired, and consciousness forcibly messes around in the body, which will also disrupt the balance of hormone secretion in the body, and finally affect the spirit. Instead, it became insane. I often hear that some people once had an epiphany. What kind of achievements? How powerful after that? Every time I heard these, Usopp was a chuckle. Laughter did not mean anything mocking or otherwise. Just felt a little sad. Sad that these people did not understand the true meaning of epiphany, but in the abyss of desire deeper and deeper, self-obsessed without knowing it, but thinking that he had penetrated, realized the divine power. Every time he can also slightly understand why the Buddha looks at all sentient beings with a sense of sadness, which is an angry and indisputable sadness. He had a Buddha heart, but he wanted to fight for fame and fortune in the sea. In the end, he was reduced to death. In fact, the meaning of epiphany is very simple. The one who does not stop being delusional. The enlightened have nothing to gain. But seemingly easy things are the hardest. Usopp used to be very arrogant, thinking that he could easily have an epiphany, but the reality is always cruel. Ordinary elites living in this bright and green world, positive shouting to change the world, pragmatic point buried in the flycamp dog to figure out how to make money, rolling in red dust during the day, and wanting to be independent at night. How can it be? In his previous life, every time Usopp meditated and practiced, he could not really enter the meditation. The reason is also very simple. He can't let go of desire, and desire catalyzes all kinds of miscellaneous thoughts and evil thoughts, and these miscellaneous thoughts and evil thoughts are actually the difficulties and demons mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures, the heart apes and the mind horses in the Taoist scriptures. And every time I get through a difficulty, my heart will naturally be clear, and I will get through all difficulties, and my natural desires will not be able to bear it, and my distractions will be extinguished. Journey to the West is actually a practitioner's spiritual experience. Tang Monk Dharma number Sanzang. Sanzang is actually the supreme principle of Buddhist practice. Sun Wukong represents the heart ape. The little white dragon is Yima. The 8 precepts represented by Zhu Baji, and Sha Wujing represents the jurisprudence of practice. Therefore, the first thing to do in practice is to first submit to the heart ape and the horse, then observe the precepts, realize the pure law, and finally Wukong and obtain the Sanzang. And the most difficult thing to get started is to surrender the heart of the ape. People's hearts are unstable, and there are many distractions, then it is useless to meditate until death. In his previous life, Usopp lost in this first step. No matter how he could not control his distractions, not only could not control it, but the more he controlled distractions, the more he usually did not feel that his mind was so messy, thinking that he was still such a pure and noble person. After practicing for more than a month, the immortal cultivation plan was aborted. After a period of slump, Usopp became thoughtful again. and it was also by coincidence that he looked at a tantric forum and discovered this clumsy method. Now visualize a flame burning in the dantian, and after the fire is lit, first visualize it filling the navel chakra, gradually rising to the whole body, and then watching its fire shine like an electric light, releasing from the pores, cleansing the impure dirt barrier of one's own midvein, chi, and bright points, and illuminating the universe, so that all sentient beings can gain happiness and retract under the umbilicus. If we then stir up the fire with the chi of the treasure bottle, cause it to rise along the central vein, melt the crown chakra white bodhi, descend from the top, throat, and heart to the navel chakra, we can give birth to the 4 happiness, enjoy great happiness in body and mind, and when we reach the state of the final, innate happiness, we can obtain innate wisdom, a kind of wisdom that achieves the light of the heart. Although this kung fu is also carried out, visualizing and other acquired methods, but the intention is to use the subtle idea of false cultivation of truth, and finally cultivate innate wisdom, and when the heart is born bright and wise, it will turn innate and enter the true path realm. If epiphany is prepared for the study of God, there is no need to say that too much depends on comprehension, and enlightenment ascends to heaven in one step. Then gradual realization is a routine prepared for the scumbag. According to the routine, great determination and perseverance, serious practice, then everyone can cultivate. Giving up the miscellaneous thoughts in his heart, Usopp seriously prepared to start the real cultivation. Usopp adjusted his posture, relaxed the muscles of his whole body, slowly breathed and finally fine-tuned his body and mind. Sat upright, hands knotted 3 seals, tongue against the palate. Not moving, this new birth made Usopp completely let go of everything in his previous life. Starting again, Usopp's breathing gradually became deep and long, and his mind gradually settled into a calm lake. The breath and the mind gradually merged into a bright white spot in a deeper communication, and at this moment Usopp felt a joy that was difficult to describe in words, and the dust held the dust at this moment, and the heart was pure, transparent, and complete, and a feeling of great purity and transparency went straight to the heart. Usopp was puzzled at this moment, and finally understood what is to settle, why the ancients could give up everything in order to practice. All the things illuminated by the clear and complete mind are clearly reflected in the bottom of Usopp's heart. At this time, Usopp has departed from the perspective of ordinary people, more objective and more essential. The clear heart lake reflects everything in the world, and the mind wanders in the endless universe void. As the saying goes, power has size, Tao has depth. With the passage of time, Usopp's mind and void fusion more deep. In that distant depth, Usopp touched a force inherent in all beings, touched the moment. The estimated power is like a fluctuating string, emitting a powerful fluctuation, disturbed Usopp's mind, and in an instant all kinds of distractions surged again, forcing Usopp to withdraw from the deep state of concentration. Usopp opened his eyes, still recalling the feeling when he was really settled, and the force that bounced him out. That force he can already confirm as domineering. It is gratifying that Usopp disturbed this domineering in a state of deep determination. Combined with the performance of the protagonists in the comics in his previous life, he can be sure that he has awakened domineering. But if you want to lead it in advance, you need to always maintain a deep and determined state. It's just not sure what domineering is triggered, whether it's armed color or sight. In fact, Usopp has a conjecture about domineering. He thinks that the 3-color domineering is just the external manifestation of the spirit and spirit mixing this force in different proportions. This force itself has no ability to affect the material and spiritual worlds. The power of the flesh is reflected in the essence, so the armed color domineering awakened person is obviously strong in the flesh, so it is speculated that it should be the fusion of the essence in this force to produce changes that can affect the material world. But what is a little different is that it should not be pure essence in this power fusion, it should also be mixed with some spiritual power, such as winding, arming, and flowing cherry blossoms. As the name suggests, people with strong spiritual power are more likely to awaken to see and smell, and eventually through the fusion of spiritual power in this force to form a unique power to see and smell the color fusion and the characteristics of spiritual power. Under the blessing of this force, this characteristic is amplified. It forms the actual use effect of the final sight. The overlord color should be a special ability produced by the fusion of spirit and spirit into this force at the same time, because the fusion of spiritual power can spread, and the fusion of essence can affect reality. And it is not surprising that there is only one overlord color in millions. People in the pirate world are not clear about the real reason for all kinds of domineering. But through past experience to find a training method that can be exercised, armed color first physical strength, and then has unswerving belief as an introduction, first touch and drive that force. Let the later in the fusion with a large number of essence, produced, see and smell the same reason, and the overlord color is somewhat different is that the overlord color has very high requirements for spirit, especially the requirements for concentration are very high. Therefore, Probably only the kind of people who can occasionally do without distractions, or have strong and firm beliefs, will trigger the fusion of overlord-colored domineering under some coincidences. These kinds of domineering can increase the trigger rate after a lot of practice. The more memory the body, the higher the trigger rate becomes, and finally use the body to fully master the trigger and use of this power. However, although they can use domineering, they should still not know enough about various domineering and how it really is generated. Because there was no comparison, Usopp didn't know how strong the part he touched was, but it was clear that the stronger the body, the greater the force would be, and it would be easier to trigger. I didn't expect that this humble practice also came with unexpected joy, but now the mood is too excited, so soon to be able to contact the world's top power. The sense of security has made great progress. The overall safety factor has increased by a few %. It seems that if you master this power freely, if the analysis is correct, the domineering cultivation should have no secret to Usopp, and the domineering cultivation will become the accumulation of domineering. Thinking of this, Usopp couldn't wait to enter the state of determination again to analyze the force, but unfortunately, the sad thing is that the heart cannot calm down, and with a purpose, it is impossible to truly settle. Thoughts are raging. It seems that tonight is not going to work, and the mood needs to be adjusted well, but tonight the harvest is very good. The theories produced by various domineering are almost one step away. Forget it. It's not important, the mentality is the most important. Peace and composure can only re-enter the state, Usopp muttered as he lay on the bed. Too much care but falling, Usopp deeply reflected on his frizzy mentality, unstable. The harvest in the past few days is good. A few traps have caught a lot of prey, wild boars, pheasants, bears have also caught a few more, where Usopp has not increased the fish pit on the seaside. Now it is enough, and also caught a lot of that kind of special fish. No matter how much there is no place to store it is not conducive to the circular economy, but the only thing that makes Usopp feel confused is that he actually caught 2 crocodiles. What is the situation? Crocodiles are crawling into the forest. Not enough fish in the river or suicide, or is it that in the world of pirates, even crocodiles are rich in dreams? Lee can no longer contain himself, and he is going to conquer the universal continent? Become a king crocodile? Anyway, these words have seen more strange creatures every day, and all kinds of strange characteristics, and have already eliminated the shallow junior high school natural biology knowledge of Usopp in his previous life. Anyway, it's not strange, it's more between you and you will get used to it. You are not engaged in biological materials, and you don't want to study those things that have nothing to do with cultivation and making money. You can eat and eat well. The residual value of the 2 crocodiles was vividly played by Usopp, and the crocodile meat had a reputation as soft gold in a previous life. Modern scientific research, crocodile meat, bones and internal organs are rich in protein and amino acids, fats, carbohydrates, vitamins and a variety of rare biological elements required by the human body, rich in nutrition and delicious taste, can cultivate chi and blood, strengthen tendons and bones, and improve human immunity. Crocodile meat is both a delicacy and a remedy for asthma and other conditions. Crocodile eggs, tail gum, internal organs, bones, tongue are excellent antifreeze, beauty and health products. The genitals of male crocodiles are a special aphrodisiac tonic within the body. Crocodile leather is expensive and of high quality, and can be made into leather bags, belts, handbags and shoes. In short, it is good, especially the crocodiles in this world seem to have more powerful nutritional value. After all, the body size is many times larger than in the previous life. After eating the 2 crocodiles feel that the body has become a little stronger. No wonder the strong people in this world are so able to eat. The creatures here do contain more nutrients. In addition to the 2 huge crocodile skins given to Uncle Beachill, there was also a huge leather bag made by Usopp, 2 wetsuits, several pairs of leather sandals, and a leather sword holster. As for the special parts of the Crocodile King, Usopp took it to make wine. After all, it is not used now, and it will definitely be effective after 10 years, and it will be good to use it after 10 years. The remaining Usopp designed a lot of women's bags according to the appearance of those luxury goods manufacturers in the previous life, and Usopp thought about it and decided to get a luxury brand in this world. Usopp used a lot of luxury goods in his previous life as an executive of a large company. So he knows this aspect very well, combined with the practice of those luxury companies in his previous life. A simple plan was formed in Usopp's heart. The main purpose of doing business is to make more money. After all, to go to sea in the future, the Straw Hat Pirates in the early stage is very poor. Usopp feels that according to the current level, he must be able to eat more and more. Luffy and others are also big stomach kings. Luffy also likes to have banquets. It is estimated that he is likely to be hungry in the early stage, and there is no harm in having more money, and he can also be dashing and comfortable when he retires in the future, and he wants to retire before going to sea, but unfortunately, the pirate business does not have 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, otherwise Usopp estimated to pay full insurance. Therefore, combining the professional skills and marketing advantages of the past life and the rich material resources of this world, Usopp formulated a world's first luxury plan. As long as the forced qualification is high enough, I am not afraid that I will not be able to attract those nobles to take the bait, and then the money will not be a lot of money in minutes, backed by Luffy and his strong strength behind, and there is no need to worry about being robbed and other problems in the later stage. Anyway, luxury goods are sold as forced to qualify, the cost is negligible, and the problem of being robbed is not big. After all, in this world with many island countries, how much can you sell by sea alone? So being robbed is also a way to open sales. After being robbed, they have to blow a blow to sell higher. When the profit comes, afraid that there is no buyer, do you want to add a brochure to each product? After all, most pirates have a worrying level of education. Do you really sell pirates? Never mind. I'll talk about it then. The primary purpose is to open the market, and then anti-counterfeiting must be done well. Usopp also prepared a beautiful mythological story for this, and then marked the logo of the snake-haired banshee Medusa, which alludes to the fatal attraction of the entire brand. The business scope includes clothing, perfume, glasses, ties, leather goods, bags, porcelain, glassware, scarves, down products. There is no shortage of materials needed for the surrounding area, and Usopp believes that with the stunning designs of his past life, he will be able to quickly open the market. Of course, Usopp definitely can't do this alone. After all, his main purpose is still for better cultivation, and making money is only to cooperate with the current cultivation, so finding someone to cooperate is the only way. A mysterious aristocratic design master from the East China Sea, a noble limited edition artwork designed and produced by himself. The design concept comes from the ancient god of temptation, Medusa. Wearing it you are synonymous with nobility, walking artwork, full of deadly attraction. The focus of propaganda should also be on the nobles and Draco, highlighting that only the elite of the nobility can afford to wear. Adding more spiritual hints, Draco used it well. It is implied that although they are not necessarily aristocratic elites wearing it, what they do not wear is definitely rubbish. At that time, those vain nobles will definitely flock to it, and those noblewomen. Maybe in the future Usopp will also receive the title of a female friend. Usopp has done an analysis of purchasing power, combined with some bridges in the manga in the previous life, as well as Oda Daijin's own statement, and deduced that 100 berry is about equal to 7 yuan, so the price starts at 500,000 bailey, which is about 35,000 yuan. Of course, this is only an entry product. How expensive it is guaranteed to satisfy you and your wallet. Of course, this is not something that money can buy, but also has an identity. Some products can be bought by Draco, some kings can buy, others. HMPH not for sale. How much money is not sold? Once people mention this brand, they can think of high society, aristocracy, art, status, power. Usopp also made a relatively complete plan, ready to talk to Kaya's father and cooperate with his father. In the previous life comics, Koya's temperament was soft and gentle, very cute, then its parents will not be evil compared to them, so Usopp is still very inclined to cooperate with them. The future big butler is a problem, but Usopp doesn't care. After all, in the comics, Usopp is so scumbag strength and the group can win, not to mention that he is still working hard now. In a few years, Usopp may be able to directly single out the big butler, and the big butler of the East China Sea is actually a scumbag. The pirate world can't get mixed up, and he started a retirement plan at a young age. Waste. However, he still had a steady hand, and tried his best to keep Kia and his parents, and the rest was left to the eldest prince of the Revolutionary Army to practice. Although he has not entered the realm of that knight, the overall spiritual improvement Usopp still feels obvious. The most prominent thing is that his memory has become much better, and many of the previous vague memories, now if you focus on recalling, it will present a clearer picture in your mind. In this state, Usopp understood why those true masters, even if they were very old, were very wise, not to mention whether they could become immortals. At least now it seems that this practice is of great help to spiritual power, and can also play a very deep role in emotional regulation, physical control, and energy control. It was also a bonus. Memory improved, but also made Usopp have a lot more confidence in the first luxury plan. After all, the most important thing in luxury is design, so Usopp is not afraid to cooperate with others, because the most important things are in his mind. These days Usopp will also draw some simple design drafts. Did not expect that this body's artistic talent is also very high, but it is not surprising to think that Luffy's pirate flag is drawn by himself, and it is not a pirate in the future. Painting is also a way out. Can you stop thinking about retirement planning? Usopp is a little excited when he thinks of the designs of various world-class brands born in his hands, and thinks of the brilliance of these works in this pirate world. By the sea, Usopp fully warmed up to start the first project of the day, running in the sea. These days of exercise Usopp adapted quickly. The strength of the human body in this world has gradually become prominent. Resilience, endurance, explosiveness are much stronger than people in the previous life. In just a few days Usopp has been able to run 10 kilometers in an hour, which is what Data, the world's first marathon champion, is also at this level. Next is push-up 1000, squat 500, burpee jump 500, jump rope for half an hour. After doing these Usopp is already very tired, but after these days of exercise, the mental body seems to have adapted. The mental state is not bad. After a short break, start to make lunch. The ingredients are simple. The trap is directly fished, 20 to 30 pounds of fat fish were thrown ashore, and after a while 2 crabs were thrown up, and a few sea cucumbers. The fire was raised, the fish were handled, and the fire was plugged around, and the sea cucumber soup was stewed in the pot, and the crabs were steamed on it, because he often had to exercise here, so Usopp made a simple board house nearby, and Uncle Beachhill also helped a lot, which stored some of Usopp's usual tools, rice, vegetables, and a large number of seasonings exchanged for fish and other meat in the market. You can't just eat sea fish, rice and vegetables should also be plentiful, as well as fruits. Fruits are very simple. There are a lot of woods. The variety is relatively rich. The most important thing is that it is more delicious. Usopp also found time to make some dried fruits, convenient to eat after the season. Dried fruits are also given to Uncle Beachhill and Uncle Blacksmith after they are ready. They are full of praise for this. Nutritional balance is still very important. After all, eating too much seafood in the past life will cause some diseases caused by excessive purine and excessive uric acid content, but there is no special feeling in the past few days. Maybe the body structure of the people here is not the same as the Earthlings in the previous life. Or in other words, everyone in the island country is more accustomed to eating seafood. Don't let your guard down anyway. If you have gout or something, it will be painful. Well, maybe the Whitebeards just drank and ate seafood all day and got gout, and finally they were uncomfortable to move casually, and they had to take drips all day. Miserable. Safety first. After eating and drinking, Usopp did not immediately start the afternoon training, because middle-aged men who pay attention to health do not exercise immediately after meals, which may cause stomach sagging. So at this time, Usopp sorted the special fish in the trap and some fish that could be sold for a price into different pools. Convenient for transportation when trading in a few days. After sorting out the classification of fish, the food in Usopp's stomach was almost digested. Carrying his sword to the depths of the forest to start the afternoon sword training, these days Usopp changed a place. After all, the old in one place to practice trees were cut bald. After so many days of practice, Usopp's sword speed and accuracy have been significantly improved, from the previous no cut at all. The stab is not hit, to the current occasionally can cut, can stab, but there is still a long distance from the requirements. And Usopp is also carefully experiencing the changes in the musculoskeletal and strength of his body before and after each sword strike, how to be faster, how to make the strength more concentrated, how to accurately cut the leaves that will swing in the breeze. Usopp's expression became more and more focused, and his breath became deeper and deeper, and suddenly the whole world fell silent for a moment, and Usopp only saw the emerald green leaves in front of him that fluttered in the breeze. Heart and mind, God and Chi are combined, body and God are one. Usopp's spirit swayed in the wind with the leaves, and gradually Usopp's spirit completely matched the rhythm of the leaves. The leaves seemed to be static. Usopp's eyes condensed, his right hand tightened, the sword was like an electric light cracked, and then a brilliant white light flashed. The sword was sheathed, and only 2 scattered leaves were left in the wind, scattered with the wind. It has entered this state of concentration again, which seems to be a low-end version of deep concentration. The last time I shot the bear with a bow, it seems to have entered this state. After entering this state, it seems that the coordination of the body, the accuracy and speed of the shot will be greatly improved. The explosive power seems to be much stronger. It seems that the real big sword Hao seems to be able to maintain this state all the time. From Solin's comprehension of the chopping iron can be seen. At the beginning each chopping iron seems to Solin needs a period of time to charge strength. It is estimated that it is adjusting the spirit into this mysterious state, and listening to the breath of all things. Maybe it's the advanced version that I just sensed the leaves vibrating in the wind. Thinking of this, Usopp felt a groove in his heart. I want to go against the sky? Teenage Giano. But calm down and carefully imagine it should not be possible. After all, that state of entry is still very unstable. Occasionally enter several times a day. May also be related to the clumsy fire, and the physical fitness cannot send out flying slashes. Flying slashes Usopp analysis is very likely. That is, physical fitness reaches a certain level, and then the spiritual realm can enter the chopping iron state, and then follow the rhythm of the air to cut out the vacuum wave. This state will temporarily name him, all concentrated on the first order, these days also to strengthen the training of the fire, but these days it seems that it is difficult to enter the deep level of determination. Is it now that I have some requirements for entering the determination, have expectations, with too strong purpose? Now every time I enter the determination, I always want to induce the energy that seems to be domineering in the body, and it seems that the purposeful determination makes me farther and farther away from the real determination. Usopp, who figured it out, broke out in a cold sweat in his brain. I went to comprehend it early, otherwise wouldn't it be more and more practiced, and when the time comes, as the cultivation deepens, but it can't be practiced, resulting in heavier obsession, and the more difficult it is to settle, and it is not impossible to go crazy in the end. No wonder the path of cultivation must have a master to lead. If the understanding is not high, whether there is a naked heart, 100% will practice bias. Never mind. Don't want to. Go back and try again today. Practice sword handles first. Brush, brush, brush. Whoops. The sound of dense sword dancing mixed with the rustle of the wind blowing through the leaves, playing a music called Dream in the secluded forest. The recent practice still has not entered a deep state of concentration, but although Usopp, who has adjusted his mentality, has not yet reached the realm of forgetting for the first time, the overall progress of his practice has made great progress, and Usopp can now maintain a certain degree of pseudo-sage in ordinary life, and Usopp has given this state a domineering name, pseudo-sage time. In the future, Usopp hopes that this skill can evolve into a true time manipulator. The benefits of maintaining the pseudo-sage time are obvious. First of all, the efficiency of cultivation has increased rapidly, the accuracy, speed, and muscle control of the sword technique have advanced by leaps and bounds, and the frequency of entering the first order of the whole concentration has also increased significantly, and if you don't look at the foundation of the flesh, you can already be regarded as an extremely unstable pseudo-sword how. In terms of physical cultivation, it is still weak step by step, although the muscles are much stronger, but the speed of improvement is not very fast. After all, the lower the level, the more basic things, the more time it takes. The wisdom and experience of our ancestors have long told us that if you want to be fast, you can't reach it, and the twisted melon is not sweet, and some things have to be accumulated bit by bit, step by step. Usopp, who maintains pseudo-sage time at all times, obviously feels that his thinking is clearer, his memory is firmer, his perception of body structure and power is more acute, and it seems that his reaction speed has improved after abandoning distractions, but Usopp is not too sure whether it is his own illusion. After all, the human reaction speed is between 0.1 to 0.2 seconds, which is already a very fast speed, and there is no accurate instrument in his hand, so the reaction speed is a few percent faster. It is difficult to measure out. Today Usopp got up a little earlier than usual, because today was the day when merchant ships came to the island to trade, and Usopp was sorting out the traded goods and transportation methods during the rest of these days. So early Usopp went out with 2 pickled thighs and walked to Uncle Beecher's house. Yesterday he had already told his uncle, today to help transport the goods to the market for exchange. The fishmonger's cousin seems to be working on a merchant ship. This time to see if you can catch the line to get some contraband. At least first get a gun. Otherwise the progress of marksmanship has been zero. How to become the world's #1 sniper, but you can first refine from the grass. Hey Usopp. Why are you here? What to grind? So many goods. There was not enough time. You still wandered leisurely. 2 steps quickly. Hurry up. Uncle Beecher saw Usopp strolling this way from a distance, and couldn't help but urge loudly. Hearing Uncle Beecher call out to himself, Usopp also appropriately quickened his pace. The distance of 100 meters passed in a flash. Isn't this to bring you breakfast? Huh. Here you go. Usopp grabbed a plump thigh in his right hand and nibbled on it, and handed the other thigh to Beecher with his left hand, not knowing how to learn the skill of eating and talking here. Looking at the thick hind legs that were about a meter long each, Beecher's face was black lines. Good people who take a meter-long hind leg for breakfast in the morning, and they are still so greasy. Aren't you afraid of cerebral thrombosis? After eating, you can't stand this. You're done gnawing. Let's go. By the way, the last time I went out, Sunderland said that you are free to go to the market. Remember to go to his place, and said that there is something important to find you. Beecher quickly waved his hand to refuse. Okay. Uncle, if you don't eat, then I will eat it all, just a little undered. Usopp lost the bone in his right hand and began to storm his left leg. The mouth method is very sharp. The teeth follow the texture of the muscles under the mouth. It is easy to tear off a large piece of meat. The meat into the mouth to chew twice casually and swallow. I don't know if it is the recent persecution of small animals, those tendons, diaphragms and other tough parts. Usopp can be well treated with teeth. And Beecher was stunned to watch on the side. Red mouth and white teeth. Click. A meter-long thigh disappeared into Usopp's mouth at a speed visible to the naked eye. Looking at Usopp's unfinished eyes, jumped back sharply, keeping a safe distance from Usopp. Nima. What is this kid's appetite now? Normal people can eat like this. Looking at his eyes, it seems that he has not eaten enough. What am I doing? I don't eat it either. The meat is too old. The trembling Bishir unconsciously poured out the words in his heart. What's not delicious? Who wants to eat you? No, no, mouth scoop, finished eating. I can't walk. Walk around. It seems like you said Sunderland is looking for me. Who is Sunderland? Usopp asked, turning his head suspiciously. Oh. Forget that you don't know who Sunderland is. Sunderland is Uncle Blacksmith. Beecher patted his head. Oh, it turns out to be the blacksmith uncle. The name is quite atmospheric. Why are you looking for me? Worried about my fish. Never mind. I'll bring a few more to the uncle later. Usopp touched his chin and thought, anyway, don't want money to come, it's just right to be a favor. The two of them traveled lightly and soon came to the beach, plus Usopp has been exercising effectively recently, crocodile meat has not been eaten less, and physical strength has been more durable. It was simply a divine help to do the work, plus the classification and other plans had been made in advance, and the two people were busy working together and quickly packed all the goods and loaded them into the car. Because he was going to deliver goods today, Beechill had put the transport car next to the seaside panel house the night before. The province has to get up early in the morning to pull the car. However, as the saying goes, it is easy to load a car and it is difficult to catch a car. Where does this saying come from? Although there have been preparations, it is inevitable to encounter some accidents. The land here is slightly soft, coupled with the heavy loading of goods. Walking accidentally the rear wheel fell into the soil. The two of them tinkered for a long time, and did not get it out with all their strength to eat. The two gasped, sat on the ground, looked at each other, and said in unison, how to get it? I'll take a break. I'm a little hungry. You young people have brains working. Think of a way to call me. Beechill lay on the ground without any image. You didn't eat meat in the morning, so you're hungry. Bear with it, Usopp said helplessly. Who eats such greasy thighs in the morning? Your uncle and I don't have such good digestion. No blessings. Beechill was exhausted and waved his hand casually, suggesting that Usopp wanted to fold quickly. Usopp's expression also looked a little anxious at this time. After all, the fish is still very dead when it is out of the water, and although there is water in the car, the other environment is not so beautiful. If you die, people will be busy if they don't accept it, and the next caravan may be half a month or a month later. Moreover, the cultivation time is also urgent, as well as the business plan, and the time to go to sea. One link is linked. On the one hand, the delay may disrupt the progress behind. So it must be solved. First calm down and think of a way. Usopp took a deep breath and adjusted his mind. This moment of crisis became more and more prominent, the importance of quality education, and the eyes of Usopp who calmed down froze, and the pseudo-sage time started. First of all, it is necessary to increase the friction of the wheels, and when pushing in the mud, it is obvious that the friction of the wheels is not enough, and the body is too heavy to come up on the legs, but there is sand all around, and even if it is filled, it cannot provide enough reaction force. Usopp looked around the car and found that only the rear wheels were stuck in the dirt, and the situation of the front wheels was relatively optimistic. Get up. Uncle, I have a way. Let's move the goods at the rear of the car to the front of the car, so that the front is heavy, and the rear wheels should be able to push out when the force is small. Usopp called out to Beechill happily. Yes, Usopp. Your brain is also remarkable. Come. Open the hole. Hurry up, or your fish will stink when it arrives. Saying just do it, Beechill stood up sharply and casually swept the dust on his body. The two worked together to move the goods behind to the front, and if they couldn't put them down, they moved out first and put them on the dry ground next to them. Sure enough, after some tossing, the center of gravity of the car changed and the force on the rear wheels was lighter, and the two easily pushed the car out, and after pushing it out, the two looked at each other and smiled, and quickly began to load the car, and the two men, one big and one small, have begun to gradually ferment a little tacit understanding. The rest of the trip is relatively smooth, packed for you fishmonger and comes with free transportation, a flat price. Successfully exchanged for 2 million berry with the fishmonger, Usopp is very happy. This is the largest income since coming to this world. There is money in hand and not panic. Usopp still maintains the traditional virtues of the people of Greater China. Likes to save money, has enough money to deal with risks, obviously can bring enough security. Usopp walks very confident. Then in order to let the fishmonger tie up the line and give him a 50W benefit fee, the two said that they would connect at the port after delisting. Originally, Usopp was going to give Uncle Beechill 500,000 yuan, but people didn't want to live or die, and ran away with a cart like running for their lives. Make Usopp look confused. Don't give money. Why run so fast? Is this money able to eat people? Or can I eat people? Never mind. Thinking of other ways, Usopp rushed to the blacksmith Sunderland's house with the remaining 1.5 million and a few fattest fish specially set aside. Sunderland? A blacksmith's name is like a prince, and there are secrets. Usopp silently spat out in his heart. Uncle, I'm here. What's the matter with me? The Usopp asked loudly before he entered the door. Yo, Usopp is coming. Come. Good thing. Sunderland rubbed his hand with a smile and took what was in Usopp's hand by the way. In this way, your uncle and I have a family heirloom here. That is the Thunder Island Ultimate Thunderstone from the Great Voyage New World. One of the most terrifying islands. Isn't this just a sword practice? This gem is smelted into your sword, and it is guaranteed to raise your sword several levels. Your uncle, I see that you have a fate, and your personality is with my appetite, and after thinking for several days, I finally endured the pain and cut my love, and decided to give it to you. How is it? Are you happy, excited or not? Heirloom. This smile and this bridge, how can people be a little cautious? The wisdom of the ancients tells us that the little cheap is not greedy, and the pie is likely to be a trap. Isn't it that the uncle knows about the money I earned today? Want to pit me by the way? Uncle engaged in pyramid schemes? Gambled? Can't it? The simple village of Sibro has never heard of such a thing. The thoughts in my heart turned sharply, and I couldn't think of a reason after thinking about it for a long time, and the excitement of making money hadn't passed, so the pseudo-sage time couldn't enter now. Usopp, who can't calm down, has a medium to high level of intelligence, and after analyzing for half a day, he can't get a result. He simply breaks the jar and breaks. Forget it. Regardless of whether it is true or not, first stabilize his hand. Thinking of this, Usopp hurriedly took a few steps back and said, in the lower Hida, how can bear this heavy treasure, can have this sword is enough to comfort his life. Thank you uncle for your kindness, in the heart to receive, leave. Listening to Usopp's strange tune, looking at Usopp's vigilant look, Sunderland had a question mark in his head. Lao Tzu's heirloom was rejected. Looking at this kid's expression, it seems that he is afraid that I will lie to him. He has a fart for me to deceive. The poor will have their pants left, and the poor ghost who will exchange fish for a sword. If it weren't for the fear that he would use a rotten sword to remove people and fight to make people hack to death, lose my reputation, and let my daughter-in-law scold yesterday, it is difficult for a good person to do it. Sunderland had a crazy thought in his heart, but after figuring out Usopp's thoughts, Sunderland decided to adjust his demeanor and style, trying to make himself appear more serious and do what an honest and well-wisher should be. Ma ye. What's new trick here? Watching Sunderland change his face in front of him, Usopp's vigilance instantly increased exponentially. Looking at Usopp's wary face, Sunderland was a little speechless, and a surge of high-risk words almost spewed out of his mouth. In this way, the two looked at each other for a moment, and Uncle Sunderland turned into a burst of frustration. Alas, Usopp, in fact, Uncle, I have something to ask for. That's right. Hearing that there was something to ask for, Usopp's guardedness suddenly found an outlet for catharsis, and most of it was discharged. Vigilance dropped. Uncle, you said, but if the little nephew can do it, he will not frown a little. That uncle's heirloom? You see? Sunderland asked in a tentative whisper. Uncle, can you not mention the family heirloom? You speak when you have something. What we can do is not ambiguous. Usopp looks unbelieving. Just you, an ordinary blacksmith on a small island in the East China Sea, some agricultural tools and kitchen knives in a small village in the East China Sea. Open your mouth to the Great Voyage, return Thunder Island, and Thunderstone. Do you know where Thunder Island is? In the depths of the New World, the territory of the Four Emperors. Where is it dangerous? Not to mention the Four Emperors, one thunder on the island can chop you to death 10,000, and go up to mine. Why is it so crazy? I will be a fool if I believe it. Usopp looked down at the time. It was still early for the time of the joint. After all, the blacksmith uncle is also very good to me. If you can help, let's help. First see what other moves the uncle has. Alas, I hope not to think too long. Listen to me slowly. That was 20 years ago when I was young. Usopp, uncle, I am actually from the island of blacksmiths of the Great Voyage. Our island is rich in all kinds of ores and master-level weapon forging masters. Your uncle and my family is the strongest blacksmith family on the island. I was only 20 years old at that time, when I was officially heroic. Then. You? Usopp interrupted with a slight disdain. He really didn't believe half a word of the old blacksmith's words. Not only that, but he also wondered in his heart whether the original Usopp's skills in running trains were transferred. How can you make it up so blindly? What expression do you kid have? Don't believe it. I tell you that when Lao Tzu was young, he was also a handsome group, and I don't know how many little girls on the island want to forcibly possess me. Sunderland defended himself. Usopp has a black line on his face. Possess you? Do you still want X to point face? Don't interrupt me. At that time, your uncle and I were heroic, vowing to become the strongest weapon forging master in the world, forging the world's #1 sword, and any big fast sword 12 craftsmanship will be eclipsed under this sword. Sunderland's confused eyes held his head high with a hint of mysterious yearning. Bull X blow, almost. Can you be more evil? I still have something to do here. I won't talk to you. Usopp was about to step back. Can you continue to listen to this? Heifers are going to heaven fast. Run what? It's almost time to get to the point, so impatient at a young age. With a wave of his hand, Sunderland grabbed Usopp's neck collar and forced him back into his seat. At that time, I just wanted to forge the strongest sword, follow the fleet all over the great voyage, look everywhere for top materials, and luckily I was very lucky. Those years of sailing allowed me to collect enough materials, and the ultimate Thunderstone was also obtained at that time. Groove. Usopp secretly screamed badly. This uncle obviously entered the roll state. When can I stop? I'm going to die, and it's almost time for the joint. If you miss this next time, you will wait a month. Gotta find a way. Say good wit, it's time to flicker. The story continues. At that time I met a woman in a battle. It was a fierce battle. Our fleet was attacked by the giant elephant pirates, and I was also no match for it. I was seriously injured. Just when I was about to be killed by the captain of the giant elephant pirates, Basil, she came out of nowhere. So she struck. In my eyes she was like a spirit in the wind, fast, elegant, and a little fierce. Speaking of fierceness, Sunderland's face lit up a little differently. But I estimate that in Basil's eyes, she may be more like a sea storm. The attack is fierce and fierce. The life-for-life style of play. To Basil, the pirate road is originally a desperate road. Whoever instigates first, then his life will no longer be controlled by himself. But in a moment Basil has been seriously injured in her hands. Sunderland looked sorry, and I don't know what to regret. Is it caused by the heart gap of the hero saved by the beauty? And Usopp took out a packet of melon seeds out of nowhere, listened to it on the side, and looked at Sunderland's expression analyzing in his heart, and after a while, a layer of melon seed shells had been laid on the ground. Your uncles, this is a love story. Isn't it poignant? Isn't it romantic? Are you with here? I'm going to put on a show for you. Sunderland said angrily at the sight of Usopp's manners. I don't have a grandpa. You please go ahead, Usopp retorted expressionlessly. Ah. No, uncle, choked Sunderland. Enough. What bear child this is, but also drunk. These few years old little fart children understand the love of wool. Follow the little fart child said that this is not to seek their own death. Misstep, misstep. I shouted in my heart that I made a mistake, but the story was told here and stopped. How faceless. But it seems that there is not much face to continue to talk about. Looking at Usopp's expression of how he made up a story, I don't know how. I just want to pull out a knife and hack him to death. Forget what I think about with you. Basil fled with serious injuries later, and the woman chased after him. We also escaped a catastrophe. I thought that I would never see this woman with only one side in my life, but I didn't expect fate to be so magical. It's not amazing at all. Usopp spat casually. Can a story be magical? Your uncles. The green tendons of Sunderland's brain burst out. I don't have a master. Please continue. Hack you to death. Bastard. The sharp exhalation shows that Sunderland is trying to control his anger value. Don't be angry with the bear child. Don't be angry with the bear child. After meditating 20 times in his heart, Sunderland slightly controlled the skyrocketing anger value. A few days later in a strange sea, I saw her seriously injured. It turned out that he had been chasing and killing Basil, was to avenge her father, and the battle a few days ago seriously injured her Basil. But after she caught up, she was unfortunately attacked by his crew, so she was injured. In that state she still continued to fight hard. As the saying goes, you are afraid of life, in almost a change, finally killed Basil. After killing Basil, she was almost killed by Basil's little brothers. Finally, he jumped into the sea to escape with his life. She and I can be considered to have saved each other's lives. The relationship warmed up quickly, and they had a good feeling for each other, but they never confessed to each other, and at that time, I still fantasized in my heart that the dream of the world's first sword, telling her all day how she wanted to be, and she who took revenge seemed to turn from a storm into a quiet breeze, looking at me with a smile. The good time passed quickly, and after collecting enough materials, I finally decided to return to China and start fulfilling my dream. The smile on her face on the day of separation disappeared, and the wind of freedom seemed to have lost its vitality, and the young me thought that it was just sadness when I parted, and I agreed with her to give her the sword I had forged, so that she would become the first swordsman in the world. She still looked at me tenderly, as if expecting something, but I didn't say anything. Speaking of this, the corners of Sunderland's eyes flickered a little. What a young ignorance to think about now. Alas. I think she may have been waiting for the confession of her prince, but unfortunately it was like this when she missed it. I think not only her, but also the love of this life. Sister. This is really false. My sister-in-law is not dead yet. Can you say so? I haven't talked about the theme for a long time. What uncle do you want to do? Talk to me about the heart. I see uncle you are going to heaven. Obviously the murderous aura of the ant cannot be suppressed. The edge of popping beans, the crazy 8 god's big move is about to reach the brain. Uncle Long snack put. The uncle seemed to be unaware and continued to nag there. You are a blind knot. A character who can fight with the leader of the Great Voyage giant elephant pirate, but can't find the murderous aura rushing into the sky behind him? Back to Blacksmith Island. I began to forge the weapon of my dreams, but I didn't expect that this building would be several years, basically consuming the materials I collected, and finally I didn't succeed in forging the dream sword of the world's first, until later I realized that a really good sword needs to be matched. It is not the sword that makes people, but people who make swords, and it was then that I realized that I had lost not only dreams, but also loves. It's a pity that it's already late. So Usopp, all your uncles look at it and know that you will definitely go to sea in the future, and you and your companions will set off a storm in the new world. How can a good man not have a good sword? The uncle is old and does not have the heart of a young man. The life of the uncle is a life of failure, a life of regret, a dream of love. Originally this piece of thunderstone uncle wants to leave a memory, sacrifice my love and dreams, but see that you make the uncle want to entrust his dream to you. The uncle wants to forge a real sword for you, help you gallop on the sea. If you can meet the woman when you go to sea in the future, also help me tell her, love. The last bit of sunlight in the afternoon shines through the window behind Uncle Sunderland, and with Sunderland's now solemn appearance, wipe. It's really a bit like the Prince of Light. Ah. Yes, okay. If you meet me, you must bring it, but what is the name of the woman? Usopp was a little blinded by the Prince of Holy Light. What routine, suddenly so affectionate, so serious, where did the Holy Light come from? Her name is Ahir, and she is the elf of the wind. You'll know when you see her. Uncle Sunderland continues to confess affectionately, you don't die today, I and your surname. Belch. It's crazy to walk on the edge of death. Sure enough, it's time to flash. The scene for a while may be bloody, too unfavorable for the growth of minors, and the flowers of socialism cannot be folded here. Thinking of this, although Usopp's heart is still a little blind. But the gentleman does not stand under the dangerous wall. Whether the story is true or not, Usopp can feel that Uncle Sunderland's feelings are serious, and the words entrusted to dreams are also serious, the first time to be entrusted with a man to dream, which makes Usopp also feel the charm of this world a little. The Crocodile King is even a little bit of leather shoes. Slightly calmed down the little chicken blood splashed in his heart, Usopp took off the sword in his waist and solemnly handed it to Sunderland. Please uncle about the sword, I still have something to go, the agreed things, and your old dreams I will take over. After solemnly speaking, Usopp turned his head and disappeared on the horizon with a puff of smoke, on the edge of a volcanic eruption. Don't you run and wait for death. Anyway, uncle should not live tonight. I hope I can still have a sword, pray, be grateful. Remember to come and get the sword tomorrow. Sunderland shouted into Usopp's disappearing back, unaware of his crisis. Huh? Who is that woman? Sunderland's wife asked grimly. Isn't that your wife? Sunderland smiled back flatteringly. You have to lose all our old faces to be happy, right, and adapt our old stories to tell the juniors. It's really not ashamed, and I don't think that kid believes in your big bunch of stories. Ah, Weapon Master from Blacksmith Island. Abandon your love for your dreams. What are you doing with so many bells and whistles? Wouldn't it be enough to send him directly? Don't tear down the stage, wife. Didn't I give up my dream for you? The dream of a man, although he can't realize it on his own now, but now that he has found someone worth entrusting, let me entrust my dream to this little ghost. I think he is good, very good to fool. Sunderland said with a serious face. That's at least much better than his irresponsible dead ghost daddy. Pity my sister Banshina, who is gone at such a young age. Speaking of this, the blacksmith's wife had a tear stain in her eyes. Last time when he came to buy a sword, I still thought it was quite funny, casually hid a sword embryo and let this kid take it away. Originally I thought he was just a child's heart to play. These days chatted with Beechel, aroused my interest, and then I went to his cultivation place to secretly observe the kid, but I didn't expect that he had touched the edge of Jianao at a young age, and the difference was just physical strength. Sunderland looked amazed. Awesome. Really powerful, not just age, but to be able to do it at such a young age without being taught, is really powerful. I followed him for a few days, self-discipline, blood, tenacity, and understanding. How can I allow such a child to use a rotten sword? His talent is worthy of a famous sword, but also worthy of the dream entrusted to me. I want to use his hand to achieve the world's first sword, to achieve a sword beyond the Black Sword Knight. Sunderland's gaze seemed to penetrate the sky, and a violent domineering aura burst out, which was about to compete with the sky. Okay. Blame me for me. You entrust him with dreams is your choice, but don't toss this little bit of family background, and point to the elderly. Ahir's white fingers tapped the old blacksmith's brain, and then turned and walked towards the house, his face full of distress and guilt. The man who used to be a fierce man, but gave up his dream for her. This is the happiness that many women can't ask for, but the happier a here is, the more guilty and distressed. If the dream entrusted to Usopp can make up for this regret in his heart, then that must be excellent, too. A whisper came from the breeze. Why did you kid come? If it weren't for Barry's sake, I would have left long ago. Follow you for a long time. You see it's dark. The fishmonger, who had been waiting for Usopp for half a day, appropriately expressed his anger and work ethic. I'm sorry. Something is delayed, forgive me. Although Usopp spent a lot of money, he also knew that he had a loss, and apologized again and again that he would not be in the future. As a flower of socialism, how could he not know the beautiful virtue of punctuality? It's all to blame Uncle Sunderland for pulling those who don't, and I don't know if I can get my sword back tomorrow. Alas. It doesn't matter if the sword is not sword, anyway. I don't feel distressed if I lose the broken sword. I hope the uncle is still alive. Thinking of this, Usopp looked down and sighed. Let's go. If you don't go over there, it's really not waiting for you. In order to make an appointment for you to be the steward of the merchant ship, my cousin has put a lot of effort into it. The vendor invited credit. Aha. Thank you a lot. If it's done, you and your cousin must not be treated badly. With Usopp's business promise, the hawker's motivation has increased significantly by a few percent, and the whirlwind of walking has become much lighter. It's nice to have money, Usopp sighed in his heart. Not long after, Usopp followed the hawker on the merchant ship. The vendor is also a local and is familiar with Beechel Sunderland and others, so Usopp is not worried about his personal safety. But as a man who wants to become Go King, it is better to be careful, so lime powder, Mengcon medicine and other self-defense items Usopp also prepared a lot, hidden in the pocket of the cuff. This pocket was specially made by Usopp for this meeting, and he was originally going to carry a sword, but think about it, if the other party is really an underworld, it doesn't mean much to do this now. How is it possible to become a master of cutting people after only a few days of training? This X number Usopp is still very full in his heart, and the positive face does not fit Usopp's personality. And Usopp has never cut people. Recently he has taken some small animals to practice daring. But a sword chopped down. Feel the sluggish feel of the sword chopping into the flesh. And then listen to the wailing of those small animals before death, making Usopp's heart always hairy, as the flower of the new century. Such a big fish has not killed a few people. Cutting people really needs enough mental construction. Used to make fish at home. A knife down the head of the fish fell half. Watching the fish half pulled, the head of the fish is still fluttering on the board. All scared Usopp in the heart. Not to mention the big job of cutting people. Therefore, Usopp is still more inclined to practice guns in essence, which can keep a safe enough distance from the enemy, and if he is killed, he does not need to hear the wail of the other party before death, and blood will not be splashed everywhere. Whether from the soul and flesh or environmental protection level is an optimal choice. Cousin. The vendor whispered twice at the door. Not long after, a young and strong man walked out of the cabin, coarse linen, this mainland-colored machete pinned to his waist, and a deep scar stretched from the left side of his face to the corner of his mouth, highlighting the special indifference and fierceness of the whole person. How did you come? The flat tone expresses a touch of dissatisfaction. This kid is a little delayed. The vendor's legs were obviously shaking when he explained, and it seemed that he was quite afraid of his cousin. Don't come next time you're late. You can't leave when you come. Cousin, you go first, he stays. The cousin, still cool, pointed at the fishmonger, hinted that he couldn't go any further, turned and led Usopp into the cabin. To be honest, Usopp is also a little stunned in his heart now, although he has long known that sooner or later he will fight with the underworld. Pirates, of course, he may also be beaten, but he really sees these ruthless people in his heart as really a group of panic. Damn it, it's really a shame for the peers who crossed over. Look at people in the pirate world in a few days to kill through the heaven and earth. What punches the navy, kick the 4 emperors, put the Draco on the ground and rub, and even do feats such as swallowing Silu stones alive. The so-called world is as big as the harem. That's it. A small thug in a caravan. Trash fish in pirates, cannon fodder in the underworld. People don't know how much to kill with one look. Even if the early Nami and others beat him 10 like play. Why am I so scary? Or the psychological quality is not in place. It's good that I am also a pseudo-Geano. Lack of physical strength that is also related to Geano. Too intimidating. There is still a difference between Go and Geano. Usopp muttered in his heart, by the way, combined with the actual situation to do some necessary mental construction. Don't be afraid to fight when you don't negotiate. When you want to fight, you are scared and soft. Can't run. The kerosene lamp in the cabin emitted a dim glow, and the fire in the lamp swayed to the rhythm of the hull from time to time. Are you the imp who wants to buy a gun? A muffled voice came from the shadows of the cabin. It's me. How does this adult sell? Usopp replied calmly, but he was actually panicked. This light could not feel the slightest sense of the whole light, but highlighted the atmosphere of the entire cabin more depressing. Ha ha ha. What a rookie. Originally our weapons here were not only for sale, but I heard that a child wanted to buy it, and suddenly aroused a little interest from adults Ben to come and see. It's really interesting to see it now, and the quality of my heart is not bad. Do you want to mess with me? The voice in the shadows seemed a little pleasant. Belch. What's the situation? Pirate's job search path. I came to engage in arms trading. Do you understand crime? Ruthless people understand it. Lao Tzu kills people without blinking to understand. Who is interviewing you? Do not sell weapons for recruitment? Thank you for your love. Let's talk about the deal first. Usopp is still pretending to be calm, but his heart is too nervous, so he is complaining madly. Huh. The big guys don't like to be rejected very much, and the knife in my cousin's waist has already been pulled out halfway. No, this adult has something to say. There is something to say, and it is too detrimental to harmonious development to move a knife and a gun. Usopp watched his cousin's movements and was so frightened that he went bald. Okay, don't freak out the kids. Say, what to buy? When my cousin heard this, he put away the treasure knife in his hand and stood back in place. His expression was particularly solemn and cold, especially when the light dangled over the scars on his face. I don't know why it made people have a faint urge to urinate. It's still true to be in contact with this kind of person. Stimulate. Usopp clamped his legs hard, so he couldn't show his timidity. A rifle, a pistol, preferably high-end goods. Hee. Good. 2 guns 1.5 million, by the way. Give you 2,000 rounds of ammunition. Okay trade. No way. Humph. Usopp couldn't help but trade quickly, and quickly nodded and agreed without saying the price. The transaction went smoothly. The quality of the gun was good, the workmanship was exquisite, and it could be seen that it was not an ordinary continental color. 2,000 bullets are also enough for a long time. After all, it is an iron egg, it can be used repeatedly. Gunpowder itself can also be the so-called learning mathematics, physics and chemistry all over the world is not afraid. The ancients sincerely do not deceive me. Late at night and on the shore, Usopp got off the boat, stood on the shore for a long time and looked at the merchant ship in front of him. The cool sea breeze at night blew him not only cool, but also his heart cooler. Why is it 150W? Damn it. This is calculated. I will pit me with so much money. Usopp had a big question mark in his heart. What is this? The art of war. 36 meters in the mall. The first step was the appearance of a cold cousin to scare me first, the second step to create a panic atmosphere in the cabin that made me ignore the price trickiness, and the third step I was standing here. Wipe the chicken thief, fooled. Isn't the pirate world generally low in IQ? How can I die before I get out of the division? How can the mother have such an expensive gun 150W? You can buy Barrett in your hometown. The gun is so expensive that the Navy has not gone bankrupt long ago. And I was stunned. Usopp hated the teeth itching. Finally made some money. Before covering the heat. Was fooled away. In the morning is still a millionaire. In the evening returned to the poor bastard. When Lao Tzu's sword technique is completed, he must have cut your broken boat. Usopp has nothing to do now, and he will definitely not admit it when he goes back to find people. Except for the hateful scolding of the street. It seems that there is nothing capable. If you really go to find it, maybe you may really be beaten. Forget it. Endure. On the good side, although you have been deceived, at least the purpose has been achieved. I hope the quality of the guns is not bad. If the quality is also mixed with water, Lao Tzu will definitely cut them in the future. Usopp secretly swore aggrieved. Returning to the pre-liberation made the smell of freedom on Usopp's body a little stronger. Carrying a box with a gun in his left hand and 2,000 rounds of ammunition in his right hand, the elongated shadow under the moonlight looks more and more bleak. Back home, Usopp couldn't hold back his excitement, and I wonder if there was a man who didn't like to play with fire and guns. Especially a gun of its own. In Usopp's heart, there are only 2 kinds of people worthy of being called real strong. One is the person who receives the express and does not open it, and the other is the person who gets up when he gets up. Usopp is obviously not these 2 people. Usopp opened the box as quickly as possible, took out the pistol first. The workmanship was exquisite. The details were handled very well. There were no burrs, the barrel was straight, there were no obvious cracks, and it was also coated with anti-rust oil, and the various parts between the gun bodies were also firmly fixed. The light was pointed at the muzzle, and Usopp squinted and looked in. Not bad. Usopp took out the rifle, also after a careful inspection. All good. Did not find any problems for the time being, although it was fooled with a lot of money, but the purpose was achieved perfectly. After all, compared with time, money is a small problem. It's not even a small meaning. The gunpowder was loaded, the bullets were loaded, and the bottles were aimed at the door. Bang. Boom. 10 rings. Perfect. The quasi-head is very good. Stroking the spear in his hand, the good quality made Usopp's pain of being deceived a lot less. Usopp gently put down the gun, did not continue to test the gun. Because he knew that if he shot again, he might be killed by the neighbor. And too excited is not conducive to the cultivation at night. The real man must be able to restrain his emotions at a critical moment. The clumsy cultivation has also entered the bottleneck, has not been able to really enter the deep concentration. The sage time has also been stuck in a pseudo-state. It seems that there are still too many distractions in the heart. The desire is too strong to be able to truly forget himself. Usopp reflected on himself a little. It seems that he is still far away from the time manager, and Usopp spreads out his posture and prepares to practice a set of yoga to regulate his body and mind. On the other side, the blacksmith shop, the weapon master Sunderland, was looking at the dozen different materials placed in front of him and thinking about something, and on the far side was a treasure box, and there was an electric flash on the box from time to time. At a glance, you can tell that it is not an ordinary product. Sunderland looked at the pile of materials for a while, looked at the treasure box for a while, and after a moment seemed to think of something, picked up the manuscript paper beside him and began to write. Are you satisfied with your life? Sunderland often asks herself that there is stability, peace, love, and love. Isn't that happy? Am I still not satisfied? Can't a weapon master hit farm tools or kitchen knives? I know I should be satisfied, but I always feel that something seems to be missing in my heart. Nothing has been achieved. A face of defeat, a look of calm days. Is this really the life I want? I seem to have forgotten my dreams, forgot the feeling of boiling blood. Am I too strong? No. It's just that I'm a failure. At this time, Sunderland Sunderland, who beat the farm tools, looked completely two people, serious, focused, and gradually condensed confidence in his eyes, and the surging enthusiasm made the whole shop full of heat waves, and the hammer and sweat intertwined with different music. The name of the movement is called blood. The cool wind in the early morning dissipated Usopp's last sleepiness. After a simple and greasy breakfast, a new day is about to begin. And Usopp has gradually integrated spiritual training into life, maintaining a state of weight at any time and anywhere. And the cultivation of humble fire has gradually been maintained in daily life. Although the cultivation time is not short, but now in the normal state, or can only maintain a peaceful mind, cannot enter a slightly deeper state of concentration. Usopp believes that the pseudo-sage time is a big form. It is a buff that can become a resident body and mind. The specific effect is similar to the arcane wisdom of the mage. Increase the concentration and acuity of the mind, increase the speed of nerve reaction in moderation, and remain calm for a long time. And the state of concentration, peace, and unity of body and mind can be maintained anytime, anywhere, which Usopp calls true sage time. The effect of true sage time Usopp is estimated to be about 6 times stronger than the pseudo-state. And the force has size, the Tao has depth. With the deepening of practice, the improvement of the time of the true sage should be limitless. In the ancient celestial empire, to describe the depth of this practice has a more professional word called Dao Xing. Recently, the physical strength has grown relatively fast. Usopp has clearly felt that the potential in the depths of his body is also growing wildly, and the conditions required to attract him have obviously become much broader. In the past, it must enter the vacuum to be perceived and slightly triggered, and now the ordinary level of determination can vaguely perceive the existence of that force, which makes Usopp feel a burst of joy. But Usopp thought about it carefully. In fact, this is also very logical. There is a very obvious phenomenon in the pirate world, that is, the stronger the body, the stronger the domineering, the easier it is to awaken, from which it is not difficult to deduce that the growth of domineering energy is likely to be directly linked to physical fitness. It's just that the growth of physical strength leads to domineering growth, or is it purely because eating more and digesting well, resulting in an increase in energy in the body? There is also a question mark here. However, there is no doubt that the role of spirit must be involved in all domineering components. Usopp believes that the human body is like a container. Domineering this energy is the water of the container. At the beginning of the water is very little, hidden very deep, must be very strong spirit to lead the operation. After exercise or other ways to enhance the amount of domineering like the container water increased, hidden is not so deep, so that the need to trigger the demand of mental power will be correspondingly reduced. If the domineering is too much to overflow, then many people will naturally awaken domineering. Those who have a strong spirit will awaken to see and smell, and those who are not strong enough will awaken the armed color. If this theory is correct, then Usopp may, instead of waiting for domineering to naturally grow to overflow awakening like Luffy did, but instead rely on expertise in mental power, perhaps operating or using domineering in advance, then the survivability will also improve a lot. That's something to look forward to. Later, Rayleigh seems to have mentioned that if the domineering wants to become stronger, you need to fight with stronger masters, most likely in order to improve the concentration of the spirit to improve the domineering controllability. After all, The people here are obviously missing in the spiritual practice. In fact, Luffy or Solin's domineering energy has not actually increased, but their mental control is caused. They cannot completely control all the domineering in their body. They can induce the amount of domineering in the body should have a limit. This limit value is limited to the strength of mental power. It is not difficult to explain why there are only a few simple ways to use domineering here: winding and covering, and the slightly more complicated one is the flowing cherry blossoms. But even the flowing cherry blossoms are actually not a profound energy operation method, can only be regarded as rudely punching energy into other people's bodies, compared to the inside of martial arts novels, or the chakra in the fire shadow, the binding of death, the hunter's ability to read and other exquisite operation techniques. The control of the people in the pirate world and the spirit in the body is still too rough. In this regard, you can learn from the ideas of other worlds, and make a domineering spiral shuriken in the future, throw Kaido's face, but to see if he can resist. Is it really immortal? But in fact, there may be another understanding, most likely because the human flesh of this world is too strong, and those bells and whistles play with legal entities' disdain. Without looking at the old carp, there is no trick at all, and when you see people, you are reckless with a punch, and not everything is bulldozed. So let's wait for that energy to be controlled smoothly and stably, and then talk about the specific use method. Practice should also follow scientific methods in order to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Make bold assumptions, be careful to seek evidence, and be flexible. Usopp put away the small book in his hand, turned around and picked up 2 guns, ran to the beach. Today the sword is not at home, just can practice marksmanship. I don't know why the thought of practicing guns. Usopp is a little inexplicably excited. Try to ask which man does not like to shoot guns, especially pistols. Guns cannot feel stimulating. Then this person is half wasted. It's time to see a doctor. Suddenly, such a mess of thoughts came to mind. Moment. Syllable. Pseudo-sage time broken. Take a deep breath, breathe deeply, control your emotions. Calm, calm. Usopp, who ran to the beach, also calmed the thoughts in his heart. No wonder the ancients called these distractions heavenly demons, which were really terrifying, and they surged up if they were not careful, torturing you cranky, making you unable to extricate yourself, and finally controlled by desire. After a while, Usopp started daily physical training. Recently Usopp has been running with weights, and the sandbags he made have not measured the specific weight, and it is almost the same when he is poured into carrying hard, and he almost kneels when he first carries weights. Because the sandbag was stained with seawater, it was more than twice as heavy in an instant, and the volume of the sandbag also made Usopp's resistance to movement in the water greater, and Usopp accidentally fell and was crushed into the seawater when he ran the last 2 laps, and he couldn't lift it at all and almost drowned in the palm-deep water. If it really hangs like this, it will really be the biggest joke in the army of crossing. It is not important to die or not, and it will be miserable to be ridiculed after death. Adjusting weights, running, squats, burpees, push-ups, and recently added some boxing and kickboxing training. Usopp thought that in case the gun ran out of bullets, the sword was not around, then physical skills were also essential, not to kill the enemy but to protect yourself. It would be best to be beaten less. Lunch was still monotonous and greasy, but Usopp ate with relish, and no one ordered it. Just eat it when you could fill it. The fish in the fish pond flooded again after one night, and it took an hour to tidy up, which can be regarded as eating after meals. Usopp carried the gun, came to the grove where the sword practiced, took out a few targets made last night, found a few suitable positions to hang, 30 meters 1, 50 meters 1, 100 meters 1, mainly to test the lethality of different distances, and accuracy. A sniper first of all. The most important thing is to be familiar with their gun, just like familiar with their lover. But the lover you may not be familiar with, but the gun must be understood. If your lover is unfamiliar, at most it will make you a little more colorful, but if the gun is unfamiliar, it is likely to make you have fewer parts. Usopp tried a few shots. I have to say that Usopp does have a unique talent for mastering firearms, a shot in hand. I have it in the world. This is Usopp's most intuitive feeling. Usopp has always had difficulty understanding what is the unity of human and sword before. But he now understands that the moment he got the gun aimed, he clearly felt that the gun was like a continuation of his body. The gun body trembled slightly with his breath, even if it was a small force blowing by the breeze. He could clearly feel that the spirit was concentrated to a point with the front sight. The breath was deep and long. The distractions dissipated unconsciously. The realm of body and spirit unity descended invisibly at this moment, and the bullseye was magnified countless times in Usopp's eyes. Bang. 10 rings. Bang 10 rings. Bang bang. Several shots in a row were 8 rings at worst. The power of the 2 guns is also almost tested. In general, the rifle is the strongest. The explosive power and accuracy within 50 meters can be effectively maintained, and the power accuracy after 100 drops more obviously, but the quality of the sniper itself can significantly increase the upper limit of this value. The effective range of the pistol is within 30 meters, and the power and accuracy of more than 30 meters cannot be seen. However, self-defense and training are enough. I wipe. There is something in this body. I originally wanted to take the route of a hardworking genius. This special start with a gun specialization plus 10. What else is this? Isn't it invincible to practice casually? When the time comes, wake up and take a path to predict the future. That is not a shot one by one. In the black technology with Frankie to improve the power of firearms, my destined opponents can still have a way to live. Well, but now it seems that it is not a sneak attack. It should be difficult to hit the big butler. It seems that the prejudgment aspect should be the main direction of my marksmanship. The basic problem of accuracy is not big, and then there is the gun assembly and reloading time. These two aspects are also very important, and it is necessary to be able to attack from various angles around at any time. This involves some categories of gunfighting, and we have to go back and think about it carefully. Usopp continued to train for several hours, and every detail of these two guns was penetrated by Usopp, and it was not an exaggeration to say that it was his own daughter-in-law, and after an hour, Usopp began to switch from a static target to a moving target. At first it was leaves, swaying branches, and the distance was getting farther and farther. Originally Usopp was going to shoot a bird or something, but where he was, he snapped for hours, and some birds were scared away by him. The bullets have also run out, and Usopp's physical strength has been almost consumed, and he has to leave some to go to Uncle Sunderland's house to see how the sword is, and by the way to see if the uncle is still alive. Packed up his things, Usopp took advantage of the fact that it was not yet dark, and hurried to Uncle Sunderland's house. Originally Usopp was ready to collect the iron eggs that were beaten out, but it was too tired and the bullets were hit everywhere by him, and the difficulty of recycling was quite high, so he gave up after thinking about it. Uncle, are you at home? Usopp shouted cautiously from the door of the smithy. Oh, Usopp is here. Your uncle is inside, and the outside tools are okay to beat kitchen knives. It's not even bad to make a good sword. You hurry in. Ahir stood in the doorway and pointed his finger in the direction of the inner hall. Ah. Okay, sister-in-law, is the uncle okay? Usopp asked nervously. Not dead. Go in and find it yourself. Ahir knew what Usopp meant. Which embarrassing story yesterday was mentioned by the junior again. Ahir, the thin-faced ant, was really a little ashamed, scolded angrily, and didn't care about Usopp, turned around and walked back to the kitchen. Only a silhouette was left to dissipate with the wind. Usopp looked at Ahir's dissipating figure for a long moment. Leave a deep sigh. The story of the weapon master really fools children. Usopp walked into the back hall. A strong heat wave rushed to his face. The hot Usopp took a few steps back, stood in the doorway for a while, and after a little acclimatization, Usopp stepped in against the heat wave. After entering the house, Usopp looked around for traces of the weapon master Sunderland, and the rolling heat wave permeated every corner of the room, and the light was violently distorted wherever he looked. Ma yay. How hot this is, I feel like I'm ripe. Isn't Uncle Sunderland self-immolating? Uncle. Usopp looked around and couldn't find anyone, shouting twice, hoping to get some response. Stop shouting. Here it is. A faint voice came from the floor behind the table. I'll go. What's wrong with you? Usopp heard the voice and quickly ran over, and saw Sunderland lying on the ground, and Usopp was shocked. Sunderland is naked on the upper half, lying on the ground, scorched black, hair and eyebrows in a semi-carbonized state. Beard is also burned a piece of nothing. Pants are also burned out of shape. Fortunately the whole person is blackened. Otherwise it will be restrictive, and the whole person has obviously lost a lot of weight. I'll go. Uncle. What's wrong with you? How can you just make a sword so miserable? You can't do evil ways, uncle. Seeing Sunderland's miserable appearance, Usopp was heartbroken, and quickly went over to help the other party. Fart, it's not yet to forge that sword for you. Listening to Usopp's commotion, Sunderland obviously felt a little unhuman. Scolded and grinned. Don't tease, uncle. Are you refining swords, or refining people? Fortunately, they are all skin trauma. But how did you lose so much weight at once? Does it matter? I brought a lot of meat with me when I came. Do you want to eat some? Usopp held Sunderland's body and touched it everywhere, but did not touch any serious injuries, and Usopp secretly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. But looking at the fluffy man who was originally full of muscles, now he has become so embarrassed, and then he thinks of Uncle Sunderland's care for himself, and he specially made up nonsense to forge weapons for himself, and finally made it like this. His nose was sour, and his tears couldn't stop staying. How did you do it? This damn nose. Nothing sour, what? The more Usopp tried to control it, the more tears welled up. I don't know if it's because he came to this world, dropped everything, and made his emotions more pure, or if he possessed Usopp and obtained his crying system. The sadness came in and became more and more uncontrollable. Huh. Aren't little fart kids usually cool? What kind of crying? Lao Tzu is not dead yet. Sunderland looked at Usopp trembling and said, serious, good. Sunderland secretly poked in his heart to pull Usopp's favorability to a full value. Okay, don't cry. I have nothing to do with this injury, and losing weight is also caused by excessive consumption of domineering energy and beginning to decompose the flesh to provide energy. Just raise it for a few days, you kid will provide me with your good meat. Are you really all right? Hearing this, Usopp wiped his tears that had been dried by the heatwave and asked with a whimper. It's really okay. You still don't believe it. How can Lao Tzu say that he is also a strong man from the great voyage? You are a little brat. Who do you look down on? Sunderland screamed in a hoarse voice, leaning against his shriveled body. It's really not to comfort me, but it's actually been terminally ill for a short time? Usopp continued to ask. You read less novels. Sunderland had a black line on his face. Usopp helped Sunderland out of the house and away from the area affected by the heatwave. Sunderland obviously felt much more comfortable, took a few breaths, the cool air outside, and the burning in his lungs subsided by half. The sword has been forged, just in the quench barrel, you go and take it out. Sunderland gestured the direction with his eyes, and said in a trembling voice. If you don't find a doctor to see it first, there is no hurry to see the sword or something later, Usopp said with concern. Go quickly. Less nonsense with Lao Tzu. I'll say it's okay. How big men grind chirp, smoke you believe it or not. Okay. Uncle, lie down, don't get excited. Usopp quickly found the quenched bucket according to the direction shown. And saw a long sword inserted in the bucket. The sword body is slender. The whole body is silver white. Different layers of patterns like water waves cover the entire sword body, making the whole sword appear simple and elegant. The sword grid is small and delicate, covered with chrysanthemum. The hilt is inverse scale, not only can increase the feeling of holding, but also increase it well. The friction between the hand and the sword. The bucket also flashes a blue arc from time to time, which is an elegant sword that fuses the fury of thunder. Seeing the joy of the hunter, Usopp pulled out the sword, swung it quickly twice, and then put the sword between his hands, closed his eyes, and began to feel the sword inch by inch. So heavy. Looking at the light and slender sword body, but did not expect it to be so heavy, Usopp turned one hand upside down, estimated to weigh about 50 pounds, it was still a heavy sword. The grip of the sword is very comfortable, the size is moderate. The blade is very thin, and the elasticity of the sword body can be clearly felt when wielded. Although Usopp has not used a good sword, and cannot make an effective comparison. But this sword, as soon as he started, Usopp knew that this sword and his kendo are very suitable. Very suitable for high-speed slashing and stabbing strikes. The elasticity of the sword body is superior, and with the soft body technique practiced by his own hard yoga practice, the body method when attacking with the elasticity of the sword body, the direction of attack can be varied, and the speed is extremely fast. The elastic sword body can be partially replaced, in order to suddenly change the direction of the attack, and forcibly twisting the muscles, the damage that brings. Perfect. Although I don't know if he has any other Cowex, but as far as the experience is concerned, the real fragrance is live. Usopp couldn't put down the sword, returned to Sunderland step by step, and reluctantly handed the sword over. Why don't you give it to you and hand it to me? Do you see if I can hold a sword now, put it away, and come back later to give you a scabbard? Usopp happily hugged him back into his arms. Well, back to business, although this sword is not long to build. But it cost all my belongings. This sword is not easy to make. It is impossible to make a second one, and the fusion of thunderstone requires special techniques. First of all, the selection of metal. Several special rare metal mixtures are needed as the introduction of fusion thunderstone. In the auxiliary, a large number of special alloys. This special alloy I don't know how to make, handed down from home. The rest is not much for you. First combine the finance, and then grind the thunderstone into powder, mixed into the solution of those rare metals. The alloy solution and the mixed solution are finally poured into the abrasive with a good proportion. Of course, this ratio is a secret of our family tradition. After the abrasive cools, it is necessary to re-temper. Forge. This fighting technique is the core of the fusion of these metal solutions and thunderstone. The fusion of powerful and domineering iron hammer. Every violent knock brings violent vibration. The vibration frequency generated by the knock, and the vibration of the next knock superimposed. So repeated superimposed, will form a super shock wave in the sword body inside and outside the reverberation. This ultra-high frequency shock wave will automatically sort out the relationship between the metal lattice, fuse the essence of thunderstone, eliminate impurities. Your uncle, I use all my strength to hit 36,000 hammers, finally achieved this sword, but your uncle and I are about to become adults, and the domineering is also seriously overdrawn. Don't ask me what domineering is, it's useless for you now. The old blacksmith, who had rested for a while, was obviously in much better spirits and talked a lot more. I didn't want to ask. Usopp moved a small bench and sat on the side and muttered softly, already knowing what to ask about. If you don't choke me, can you die? I will ask you, can you die? People are not big. Why are they so angry when they talk? The weapon master successfully restarted the scolding street system. If I couldn't move now, believe it or not, I would have hacked you to death with a knife. Save some effort. Don't pass in a while, Usopp said with concern. It's so angry. I really want to cut people. It's not worth it to be angry with a child. Have you got a name? What name? The name of the sword. Don't you send your name when you leave the factory? Usopp wondered. Fuck off. Don't send yourself what you want to go. Mom, what about Lao Tzu's knife? Lao Tzu almost hung inside, and gave you a name. You stick your head out and I'll give you a good name to think about. Think for yourself, whatever you want. If you are not in good health, you must guard against arrogance and irritability, and such an adult is still worrying. Usopp shook his head and sighed. Does this sword have any special properties? Usopp asked back. Yes, but it's a secret, I don't want to tell you now. Usopp felt a black line in his heart. What kind of mystery is quite old? Nerve. Say it, please, uncle. Usopp rolled his eyes and tugged on Sunderland's arm and shook it violently. I was wrong. Don't shake it. I said you put down your noble hand first. This almost broke up Sunderland. Frightened, he quickly stopped Usopp's subsequent coquettish plan. After this sword is fused with thunderstone, it can store thunder and lightning and release thunder. The purpose of those several rare metals is first to increase the toughness of the sword, and the second is to better fuse the characteristics of thunderstone. Thunderstone itself can store a large amount of thunder and lightning. This superb thunderstone is one of the best, but the specific use of methods and the creation of moves depends on your own efforts. This sword can only provide you with a platform to display your ability, but what flowers and fruits depend on yourself. Sunderland replied with a serious expression. Since it is the sword of thunder, and it is from the hand of the uncle, in order to become the number one in the world, and then chase the wind spirit. Usopp looked down and thought for a while. In that case, this sword is called Thunder Fury Chasing the Wind, Usopp said to Sunderland. Thunder Fury, Chasing the Wind? After Sunderland whispered, his eyes lit up. Ha ha ha. Good name, good name. The wind in Usopp's hand flashed with an electric light, and he seemed to be satisfied with the name. Usopp. Sunderland stared solemnly at Usopp. I know that you will go to sea in the future to chase the splendid scenery of that sea, and today I entrust this sword to you, and I also entrust you with my unfulfilled dream many years ago, Usopp, whether you are willing to carry it, and let the name of this sword resound in the world. There was an indescribable solemnity and seriousness in his tone. Uncle, I will not become the number one swordsman in the world, but I, Usopp, will definitely make this sword the first sword in the world, and I will use this sword to cut off the 12 works of the great Quick Tao and the Black Sword Knight. Usopp held the hilt of the sword of Chao Feng hard, looking up at the starry sky in the distance, and the Chao Feng in his hand was also flashing with electric light. For whom to draw the sword and cut it against the wind, the battle is endless, and the calamity does not stop. Why is my generation afraid of a war? Inserting the wind into his waist, Usopp's figure slowly disappeared into the darkness. Only this sentence continued to float in the darkness. Brother Usopp is very handsome. Ahir leaned over Sunderland and said gently. Ha ha ha. Sunderland's hearty laughter echoed over the blacksmith shop for a long time. Usopp rubbed the wind in his hand. A slight arc flickered from time to time on the tip of the sword and fingertips. Love, great love. This sword is really attractive enough. People can't put it down. Touch its touch. Absolutely different from the general texture of the sword. The gentle arc brings up a constantly changing and twisting electromagnetic field. The changing electromagnetic field always affects people close to him. The electrons of various substances contained in the human body fully interact with the electromagnetic field of the sword body, resulting in a strange uneven texture. And this touch is also constantly changing, quite strange. It seems that in order to really use this sword, it will take a lot of time to adapt, in order to truly integrate the human sword and become a qualified swordsman. Bah. How do you still scold yourself? It is the sword of the swordsman, not the pariah of the slut. After several days of deep thinking and testing, Usopp found that the accuracy of his marksmanship was not all due to his own talent. Although talent also had a big impact on it, but the main factor was because of Usopp's cultivation of swordsmanship and physical skills, superimposed on the buff of pseudo-sage time, accurate sword, force control to the point, and flexibility brought by hard yoga all let Usopp's control of muscles and strength enter a deep and nuanced state, although it is not yet the ultimate of the human body, but it is enough to affect Usopp's control of firearms. The fusion of physical skills and swordsmanship affects the mastery of firearms, which makes a different inspiration flash in Usopp's mind, and emerge that a skill that does not exist in reality, gunfighting. Gunfighting is a powerful ability that integrates physical skills, gun skills, and sword skills, powerful and terrifying, and has reached the existence of God after training, and it is terrifying. Usopp analyzes that the main reason why there is no existence in reality may be because the human body in the real world cannot reach the limit of satisfying the ability to perform gunfighting. Gunfighting has actually been achieved in theory. After many shooting experiment analysis and statistical principles, the trajectory and enemy position in the shootout can be summarized by statistical models. Based on this, gunfighting techniques including shooting, kendo, and physical arts were born. With accurate movement calculations, the attack that launches the maximum damage at the position of the least damage can shoot into the dead corner anywhere around you, increasing the power of the bullet by 20%. With the body as the center and the prototype geometry as the plane datum, all the positions around the body that can be attacked will be calculated, and every possible attack position around the body will be shot, which can exist as both attack and defense. Martial arts plus guns, a bit of beetle nut and smoke magic power off. Combined with statistics, the shooting route is designed, and each variable move is displayed, the maximum killing range, and the fatal blow, to defeat the largest number of opponents. On the defensive side, traditional ballistics that dodge and return fire. Through the flexible use of this move, the weapon's firing power will be increased by at least about 120%. The difference in lethality increased by 63%, making the gunfighter a difficult opponent to defeat. And the gunfighting technique in the Dachang state, the shooter can make the bullet turn and attack with a sharp shake of the wrist at the moment when the sub ejects the chamber, which is really terrifying. If based on the idea of gunfighting art, to integrate oneself, spirit, physical skills, and swordsmanship, it is indeed a good summary of Usopp's own strength now, and the most important thing is that if he can really successfully train it, he is also extremely handsome when fighting, and his aura is not at all lost to the three swords. In the high order state, with the control of the intensity of the heartbeat, you can enter a microscopic state called bullet time and increase your own reaction speed, which is simply a little invincible. However, the number of bullets is a problem. The speed of drawing the gun, the speed of the gun, the speed of the bullet change, the ballistic design, these must start from scratch. However, the future can be expected. The potential of this set of skills is also very huge, combined with domineering and fruit ability in the later stage. Who else can the world's #1 high-speed shooter give up? Everyone said they didn't want to compete with Usopp for the first high-speed shooter. You are strong. You are strong. You are the strongest. Psychic, physical fitness, jiu-jitsu, swordsmanship, gun art, these 5 aspects of all-round improvement, but also according to the actual data analysis, predict the situation to design ballistic moves. In recent years it seems to be very busy, but the benefits of balanced improvement are also many. These abilities can actually complement other abilities very well, so that balanced improvement is actually the greatest amplification of their own potential. Moreover, the speed of improvement will be alternately superimposed, and there are more overall cultivation items, but the actual improvement speed should actually be faster. In terms of swordsmanship, Usopp's analysis is mainly divided into 2 parts. Part of it is a famous stream. The move routines are clear. Each move is a summary of the experience of the predecessors, the use of the move routines to master the rhythm of the battle, bring the opponent into the rhythm of their own control, through specific moves, situations, routines to guide the temptation, and finally make the opponent lose balance, reveal fatal flaws, or play stiff, thereby killing the opponent. The other part is the actual combat flow, which pays more attention to speed, reaction, and attack moves, is more casual and flexible, and has no specific formula, only to kill the opponent at the fastest speed. If the 2 sides play against each other, the speed and reaction of the actual combat stream are not as good as or equal to the famous stream, then the actual combat stream may fall into the rhythm of the famous stream's playing style. Either lose to the famous stream, or play against the famous stream, it is too difficult to win. If the speed and reaction of the actual combat stream exceed that of the famous stream, then the famous stream has not yet played the routine, and brought into the rhythm, it will be instantly killed by the actual combat stream. When the data of the 2 actual combat streams are not much different, the biggest possibility is consumption, and the chance of killing each other instantaneously is not large. If 2 celebrities play against each other, it depends on who can bring the other to their own rhythm. The famous stream pays attention to the rhythm combination, and the actual combat stream is also the same, but the 2 sides control the rhythm very differently. It is obvious that Usopp chose to take the routine of the actual combat stream. After all, there is no famous teacher to guide him, and it is too difficult to develop the routine by himself. It is not as good as the actual combat flow, and the questions that appear in the later stage are easy to modify, and it will be finished with the Straw Hat Regiment all the way. Intelligence, that thing, in the case of knowing the plot, does not play a big role. And the actual combat stream is also more in line with the battle philosophy of the One Piece world. Once the core gameplay is determined, then the development of skill moves can be enhanced around the core. The main need to improve: concentration, reaction, speed, body flexibility, body style, and domineering in the later stage. However, the late powerhouse in One Piece is a hard batch after the flesh body assists the domineering. The knife cuts the face is fine, the knife is broken. Let's say how hard this domineering combines with the flesh. Therefore, in the cultivation of domineering, we should focus on condensation, sharpness, cutting, and explosion. In order to achieve that, even if the total amount of domineering is not as good as the opponent, the point line attack can still destroy and break through the opponent's domineering defense and kill the opponent. The fruit is definitely necessary. Usopp has done a lot of analysis. There are many favorite fruits: burnt fruits, thunder fruits, shining fruits. These come to one at will. Life is enough. Anyway, eat too much cannot digest. But these are definitely no drama. Only the thunder fruit still has some hope, but by the time Usopp can go to the island, it is estimated that it will have been eaten by a Nilu, and when the time comes, it may be struck by lightning. Remove the elemental system. There are not many fruits in the East China Sea: early rubber fruits, split fruits of the big red nose, Smog's smoke fruits, Eric's sickle fruits. These fruits either have masters, or I don't know where, they can basically be excluded, and these fruits are not in line with Usopp's wishes. In addition to the elemental system, in fact, the superhuman line has very strong development potential. Usopp actually wants Bartolomeo's barrier fruit the most. Defense is basically equal to invincible, as long as there is no wave. Steady, it is definitely an excellent fruit that can win most battles. It is also the first time that someone has said go so grandly, without blushing, and meticulous to the end. And now it exists in the East China Sea, and it is not eaten. It is easy to get it, and the fruit has good development potential. Then it is only a slippery fruit that was eaten by Eureta in the original work, and after use, it can become a zero friction and smooth and tender person. This fruit is not only very defensive, the development potential is unfathomable, but this kind of almost regular devil fruit, the development of not only requires enough brain holes. In fact, what is most needed is the underlying cognition of the material world in enough knowledge reserves. Knowledge is power. Used here is the absolute truth. In other words, if you are illiterate, then eat animal fruits. Other fruits are really wasted. Usopp also did a lot of systematic analysis and thinking about the situation encountered in the future and the root of his own development, whether it is the fruit that can be obtained in the later stage, or the fruit that can be smashed out with enough berry after the success of the luxury plan. Usopp is still the most favorite and inclined to slippery fruit, at least can be plastic surgery. The defense is also basically invincible. People in this world simply don't understand why zero friction is invincible. The impact on Yarlita is estimated to be limited to plastic surgery, so the fruit of Nux can't even beat the smoker is also a waste slag. Combined with Usopp's super high physics level in his previous life and the innate advantages given to him by the Big Bang era, Usopp believes that the slippery fruit will allow him to play a new world. If the fruit awakens and develops a domain skill similar to Doflamingo, Usopp can say without bragging that everyone here will not be able to stand normally in front of me. Although the location of the slippery fruit is now uncertain, but from the plot, Yarlita was obtained after being flown by Luffy, from which it can be inferred that the general orientation of the slippery fruit should be in the sea near the town of Shells, and there is also a cruise tour route nearby, and there should be no problem when the time comes. In fact, in the previous life, when Usopp was watching One Piece, he was first shocked and excited by Oda's rich imagination and brainhole. And then with the increase of age and the improvement of education, he gradually understood some unreasonable places. Many anti-heavenly fruits in the pirates were used in a mess. As if in addition to the element system other systems are not strong enough, gradually Usopp understood that in fact, it is not that the people in the pirates are not strong enough, and the development is not attentive enough, but for various reasons, resulting in their own understanding of the world, and knowledge reserves, are far from enough to support themselves and develop a fruit power involving rules. Therefore, most people can only use some basic abilities that are naturally paid after taking the fruit. It's really a bit of a pity. And what fruit is the strongest discussed on the internet? In fact, it is meaningless. In the end, whether it is strong or weak depends on the person. Usopp closed the small book in his hand, looked into the distance with his back hand, and pondered his future path. The road of the strong is lonely, and it takes a lot of time to do what others do not want to do. It is necessary to feel the pain of physical and spiritual oppression to the extreme at all times, and even if you cannot give up, you can still set sail against the wind, even if the brilliance is short-lived, but it has also illuminated the world. It's another sunny day. Usopp, who got up early, is lying on the table and writing hard, and from time to time he will stop and ponder for a while. Yesterday has made a plan for the future direction of cultivation. Today will start to implement specifically, but before implementation, you need to plan and analyze in detail. Brainless is not the current Usopp style. Usopp kept writing and drawing in his small book. Most of the content is based on the knowledge and experience he has learned in his previous life. First of all, mathematics. This is very important. Statistical analysis. Geometric composition are inseparable from it. His body can do the action. Usopp also tried his best to record. Now cannot do but possible to do the action must also be recorded. These seemingly cumbersome and troublesome records is precisely for the later in gun art to do the preparation. Enough preparation to face opportunities and challenges calmly. Just as the so-called choice is not in vain. Choice is everyone. A crucial turning point in life, at least for Usopp now. The angle of the gun, the direction of the trajectory, what kind of posture to match. Usopp feels that his small book may be a little inadequate, too small. Usopp needs a large enough area to do a mind map, do statistical analysis. After all, in the previous life Usopp only knew a little gunfighting concept in the movie. Really to develop this set of technology, you can imagine that this is not an easy job. After all, the essence of gun art is actually the stabbing of sword art, but the attack distance is longer, and the attack power is not strong, mainly depends on the gun itself. But Usopp's previous training is all special training for a certain ability of his own, never wanted to relate them. Usopp's current fusion is only caused by the natural fit of different attributes between skills, so Usopp first needs a lot of shooting training, and then establish the corresponding statistical model, based on this to integrate his kendo and physical skills. After saying that I still have to practice for a long time, Usopp is a little depressed. It seems that it is impossible to be lazy. I was not going to clean up the iron eggs that were shot out when practicing guns, because the last time I practiced too happily, resulting in bullets shooting everywhere. Collecting it is a more time-consuming thing. But now I can't see it and can't do it. The old blacksmith's body has not yet recovered, and it is not very embarrassing to trouble people to play a little iron egg for training. The trading ship will probably take another month to come, but the last transaction has given Usopp enough psychological shadow. Profiteer. If you can have less contact, you can have less contact. Let's wait for the old iron CD. Hey, go pick it up. What else can be done? People really can't be lazy, and once they are lazy, it will definitely come back to the door. After lunch, Usopp ran to the woods with his gun on his shoulder. Returned to the place where he practiced his gun last time, and began to pick up iron eggs with a heavy load to pay off debts. But Usopp did not pick up iron eggs in an ordinary way, but specially made 2 pairs of very long chopsticks before going out, using chopsticks to pick up smooth iron eggs that fell on the ground, which is a very test of hand strength and accuracy training, the same as the training idea of swordsmanship, but this project exercises the flexibility of fingers. Originally, Usopp was a little desperate before going out, because picking up iron eggs scattered everywhere is a very time-consuming and meaningless thing, but at this stage it has to be done. The dejected Usopp suddenly turned his eyes, and the inspiration appeared. It seems that he has seen a movie before, where the protagonist is using chopsticks to pick up stones for training, and finally became a generation of little masters. Why not learn from it? Usopp looked down and pondered, thinking about the feasibility for a moment. I really have something in my brain, secretly boasted about himself. Usopp did not put aside his gun, but remained fully armed, and his legs and hands were strapped with sandbags. Usopp hopes to train himself in a more difficult way, improve himself, and become stronger as soon as he comes, so that he can control his own destiny when the future comes. Challenges are everywhere. Tianxingjian gentlemen with self-improvement, turn passive into active, and face difficulties is the spirit of the Chinese people deep into the bone marrow, and it is with this spirit that they can defeat the aggressors again and again, and rise again and again after defeat and stand on the top of the world. Usopp never thought that he could really kick the 4 emperors alone, casually overturn the admirals, like those predecessors. He did not have those super god system bindings, nor did he have any inexplicable gods, what immortal body, chakra eyes, and various superpowers. Usopp knows that in addition to his advantages from the plot, the biggest advantage is the knowledge he has accumulated day after day in school for more than 20 years, which is the accumulation of thousands or even tens of thousands of years in the entire history of mankind, and it is no exaggeration to say that this knowledge is the most precious treasure of mankind, the most brilliant jewel in the crown. It was the precious wealth that countless geniuses painstakingly studied, and countless scholars and scientists gave up themselves and dedicated their lives and blood. This is the foundation of Usopp's rapid growth in this world. In his past experience, Usopp has long known that don't underestimate anyone, even if he is not as capable as you, even if he has a bad fate, and even says that he is a bad gambler, a pool of smelly. There are also some points of overlap in fate, so that you can fall a lot. So Usopp has never underestimated anyone because of the plot since he came to this world, even the Axe King Monka and the like, and the strong insecurity makes Usopp have an extraordinary strong persistence. Scan. Positioning. The first one. Go you. The chopsticks in his hand pointed to the ground precisely. Snap. The iron egg rolled to the side. Go you. Snap. Go you. Snap. I wiped it, and Usopp threw his chopsticks to the ground with a black face. Stare at that cute little iron egg, Nima. It's much harder than expected, and the smooth curved surface is really a bit overwhelming. Coupled with the impact of heavy loading, chopsticks cannot remain stable at all times. Slight shaking, snapping. Usopp sat on the ground for a while, adjusted his mentality. This can't work. The mentality is going to collapse. Although the mentality is a bit of a precursor to collapse, on the other hand, it does effectively increase the difficulty of training. Usopp, who has calmed down, is sitting cross-legged, hands folded, eyes closed, breathing more and more long, and his body automatically fine-tunes with the resonance of nature. Phew, suck. I don't know how long it took. Usopp opened his eyes sharply, the pseudo-sage time opened, his eyes were pure and indifferent, and the incomparable concentration replaced the anxiety of the mind, the hand and the will, the intention and the chi, the spirit and the chi. Shot. The gray afterimage flashed, and a smooth iron egg was already rolling in the waste bag, and the cheerful look seemed to be pleased with the improvement of Usopp's realm. This success made Usopp secretly happy in his heart, and then as if he felt something, Usopp regained control of his mind and continued to maintain the realm of no sorrow and no joy. With the help of pseudo-sage time, Usopp's progress is significantly faster. The right hand is tired and uncontrollable, switch the left hand, the right hand rests, and when the left hand is tired, cut back to the right hand and let the left hand rest, but Usopp is a right-handed, so the success rate of the left hand is very gratifying. The left hand and right hand can switch between each other, alternate rest, the waist and back are really a little collapsed. All the force requires the participation and support of the waist and back muscles, which leads to Usopp's waist and back is abnormally sore, and even has several cramps, almost painful. Usopp cannot maintain the pseudo-sage time buff. Compared with the legs, it is the most relaxed, long-term exercise, so that these two thighs have extraordinary staying power, that is, the waist is almost there. It seems that those crocodile kings are also going to exert their effects early. This exercise also allowed Usopp to fully discover his shortcomings and insufficient waist exercise. As the saying goes, there is no crotch and one body is empty. The crotch is a sports center, the upper part of the spine, the lower legs, the crotch can be twisted laterally, can also be flipped longitudinally, integrated with the spine, stretched into a bow, so that the overall collapse power, the power extends to hands, feet. At the same time, it can also collapse laterally alone, relying on the crotch and heel, big tendons, sending lateral, trembling, driving the legs to move quickly at the same time, and can achieve continuous shooting. The premise of the so-called shoulder hit one yin and one yang is that the crotch strength is continuous. In order to achieve something, the crotch movement must rely on the development of the big tendon of the crotch to make it break, such as a spring installed in the crotch, so that it can rebound continuously. Use the crotch to drive the entire spine to make the movement of the human body become very integrated, which is equivalent to using the weight of the entire body to impact the other party, coupled with the collapse of the crotch tendon, so that the crotch movement becomes very explosive, and the attack power of the human body can be instantly added to the strongest. Even in modern fighting, the crotch leg kick mode is emphasized, and when launched with the crotch, it can mobilize all the weight of the body and make the attack more violent. Usopp's yoga practice during this time, the big tendons of the waist and crotch part have long been stretched, and the previous way of sword and punch was simply to swing with the strength of the arm, but never thought about how to integrate his own strength. Each time is only through the arm alone to exert force, shot, backhand, did not use the elasticity of the upper waist crotch muscles, each time is a strong pull and hard drag, so it leads to abnormal soreness of the waist crotch. Usopp, who figured out this joint, began to reintegrate his power when he shot. The speed of the shot is very slow. The mental concentration experience feels the direction of their own muscle movement, the power of waist and crotch rotation plus direction, experience how to move the big tendons of the body, and use its elasticity to drive the body movement. With the deepening of understanding, Usopp's movements became more and more fluid, and between the loops, there was a sense of smoothness, and the back was also because of the smooth force, but the soreness was not so strong, replaced by a refreshing coolness, diffused between the waist and back. There are more and more iron eggs in the waist pack, and each movement causes a collision between the iron eggs, from the initial sound chaotic, to the gradual entry of Usopp into the best situation. The collision of iron eggs gradually forms a harmonious resonance. In the afterglow of the setting sun, The muffled resonance accompanied by Usopp's elegant and smooth movements forms an indescribable harmony picture, which is called struggle. Dreams do not escape, only oneself will escape. The plan of the year lies in the spring. The plan of the day lies in the morning. Early in the morning is the best period of a person's physical and mental state of the day. Usopp is naturally impossible to waste. The more greasy breakfast brings him endless vitality, but although the vitality is full, but the sequelae left by yesterday's picking up iron eggs, or make Usopp's physical body, as if by the warlock on countless epic debuffs, there is no place in the body that is not sore. But fortunately, more than 1,500 bullets were picked up, enough for the next training, and the rest were either really missing, embedded in tree trunks, or in the cracks of stones that could not be taken out. After yesterday's practice, Usopp has a relatively clear understanding of how to use the power of the waist to move the big tendons, and use the big tendons to unify the strength of the whole body, and the afternoon of practice has gradually made Usopp's physical body gradually adapt to the new power mode, but to fully integrate, it will take a lot of time to consolidate and deepen the understanding of the muscles and bones of other parts of the body. This part is not Usopp by his own exploration, can quickly master the knowledge category. After all, the art industry has a specialty, mathematics. Physics and chemistry is only the foundation to the university to continue to divide the subject. According to their hobbies or good direction, choose the direction they want to dig deep to continue studying. Usopp chose finance in his previous life. After all, money is fast, so the medical system related, the understanding of the deep structure of the human body, is also limited to the biological textbook of the shaved frog. This time hard to slaughter small animals. Small animals contributed a significant contribution to Usopp's experience in dissection. However, in this regard, Usopp has also planned for a long time. Some time ago I heard Uncle Beachhill say that the owner of the house is about to return from going out, and when he returns to Usopp's long-prepared luxury plan can be implemented. By the way, borrowing some professional medical books with the other party, simple study and understanding, it should not be a big problem. Usopp now remembers very well, and many things can be imprinted in his mind after a few memorizations, and they will not fade with time. Usopp estimates that the memory has become better. The reason should come from two aspects. One is that the fusion of Usopp's soul has led to a large increase in spiritual power, which is basically equivalent to a direct doubling. And the second is that the cultivation of humble fire has gradually entered the right track. And deep concentration has a significant auxiliary effect on the increase of mental power, and the obvious benefits brought by it are that the memory becomes stronger, the thinking logic is clear and clear, many things can be seen in detail, plus it has been controlling the generation of distractions, so there is less interference from desires and distractions. Looking at the problem is more objective and essential. The mind is like a lake, distractions are like the sand and dust in the lake, and desire is like a wave in the water. The sand and dust roll, and the turbid waves are empty. So how can the heart lake correctly reflect the true nature of all things? Extinguish the mind, let the distractions sink to the bottom of the lake, dispel the desire, calm the lake, and then reflect all things in the lake of the heart, so that everything can be restored to its original appearance. Only by seeing the true appearance of the origin of everything at all times, seeing yourself clearly and seeing the world clearly, can you become stronger. Although the body is very sore, but it can be tolerated, it is said that the soreness of the body after exercise is because the oxygen consumption during exercise is close to the critical point, and there is no excess oxygen to supply the muscles, so the muscles secrete a large amount of lactic acid, and then lactic acid accumulates to cause pain. But in fact, after Usopp's test, the soreness caused by lactic acid will disappear within a few hours after strenuous exercise, and the phenomenon of persistent muscle soreness may actually be caused by trauma to muscle fiber structure, but it may also be because of these traumas, so that the entire body tissue becomes stronger after healing. Muscles. Anything that doesn't kill me only makes me stronger, and I speak for myself. He's coming. He's coming. He came with a commotion. Usopp quickly controlled his mind. I wipe. If you are not careful, the soul of this commotion will emerge as a demon. And when Lao Tzu's sword technique is completed, a knife will cut the flesh, and the heart will cut the soul and hang you. Now let's recite the push and purifying mantra a few more times. Recently, the big fish and meat have made Usopp's height soar up. It seems that nutrition may be able to keep up with the original book as much taller. The original 176 centimeters height, in this giant walking, 2 meters 5 more like a dog world, is really a little inadequate. The shortest Chiba on the surface, several stories tall after transformation, except for Luffy. Usopp is the shortest among the male characters, saying that Luffy is short but people are rubber people who can inflate. Can this be compared? Calculate are his shortest, which makes Usopp in the previous life 187 very unwilling. So looking at the height that has sprouted recently, Usopp has some secret joy in his heart. It seems that the original Usopp is not tall mainly because of malnutrition. It is not difficult to understand. Motherless children, wandering outside all day, playing pirate games, and eating must have a meal, if not never sick. It is estimated that they can survive healthily, which is really a small miracle. Usopp analyzed, the original Usopp is definitely a lucky guy. Otherwise it would not be possible to rely on the strength of miscellaneous fish, and be called God Usopp in the later stage. Hoping that this lucky value attribute could continue to be blessed on his body, Usopp silently prayed in a low voice with absolute sincerity. Lucky. Here he is, he's coming, he came with sincerity. MMP, don't exploit the loophole. Usopp recited the heart-clearing mantra a few more times. Driven away the soul of the commotion, Usopp also began today's normal training, running routine. Now Usopp can relatively easily run the full course with weights, continue other physical training after running. Push-ups have increased to 3,000, burpee jumps 3,000, sit-ups 3,000, squats 3,000, followed by free kickboxing training. Thanks to the convenience of past life information, basic kickboxing training methods are also well known to everyone. Long-term repetitive training can constantly consolidate the correct power training of technical movements and continuously strengthen the conditioned reflex speed. When training, we must also be conscious, systematically carry out thinking games in the brain, invincible when training, and associate the opponent's possible response to respond accordingly, which may have some wrong associations, and unrealistic analysis, so it is necessary to continue to practice in the later stage, continuous optimization and correction, as the first version of the gunfighting action prototype. After a cup of lemon tea, a short rest, Usopp the whole person relaxed lying in a shadow, blowing the refreshing sea breeze, taking a sip of lemon tea. The quality of the small day has a qualitative leap visible to the naked eye, although the training is very bitter, but the bitter pleasure, that more show the vitality and meaning of life. One Piece has many famous physical skills, the spoon of the big butler in the early stage, the sixth style of the navy in the late stage, the black wrist, the iron fist, the dragon grasp, the powerful elbow strike of Bajers, and so on. What makes Usopp most impressed is actually that several skills in the Navy's sixth style. Paper painting, shaving, moon steps, and life return. Iron is a pre-skill of armed color, which has little effect on Usopp, and the finger gun can be regarded as a supplement to gunfighting. But Usopp said that it is too disgusting to poke his fingers into other people's bodies. Who knows if the other party has any blood infectious diseases? The world of pirates can do less physical contact. It is best not to touch, which is about to become Usopp's fundamental principle. No matter how he gave himself political counseling, Usopp had a hard time getting past that level. Sister, isn't it fragrant to stab someone with a knife? After the paper painting and the slippery fruit cooperate, the defense power should have a qualitative change. Even if the paper painting can't dodge, it can produce a sufficiently effective dodging effect, which can reduce the burden of the slippery fruit, and after Usopp's nerve reflex speed is trained, it is difficult to hit Usopp without enough speed. And shaving and moon steps can improve enough mobility, and ignore the convenience of terrain. These two are not theoretically difficult, the practice comics are explained. All you need is physical fitness to meet the standard. Sisters, Lao Tzu lacks that thing. Life return is the most important part. Life return can freely control the body, hair, internal organs. As long as the consciousness is poured in, you can freely control anywhere. This played a fundamental role in the development of gunfighting. It's just that this exercise method is a bit metaphysical and not easy to master, but the CP9's Luki and Lion Snuggle in the comics seem to be well mastered, and they can only be regarded as basic skills for the masters among the later lieutenant generals. Based on this, single Usopp is still relatively confident in this cultivation. After all, spiritual power is a strong point. If this person who specializes in spiritual power cannot instill consciousness into the whole body well, then how can others practice? Open and hanging. However, the most important thing is physical fitness. At least you must be able to easily shave, and the physical fitness can be regarded as reaching the standard of life return when you step in the month. Without the return of life, the gunfighting technique cannot be regarded as Dachung's gunfighting technique, cannot control the body 100%, cannot reach the theoretical maximum output value, and the gunfighting technique that is still being created can only be regarded as a relatively useful miscellaneous soldier cleaning technique for the time being. If you want to harvest human heads in the early stage, it is estimated that it mainly relies on swordsmanship and fruits. At least now he can't shoot head on to hit the big butler, but it is worth looking forward to after the later gun-fighting art Dachung fuses Usopp's ability, hoping to become a boss cleanup. There is no grass under a barrage. The practice of swordsmanship, Usopp has made a small range of upgrades. Before cutting leaves is no longer difficult, accuracy is also steadily improving. Need more rare items to improve the training effect. Usopp quasi-book a lot of small beans, made a mechanism to hang on the tip of a nearby tree. Control the speed of the bean falling. You can produce a continuous drop effect. Each bean shape has some slight differences. When falling, when touching leaves or branches will quickly change direction. Usopp's new training involves chopping or piercing the falling beans. The drop speed of the beans is not fast, the difficulty is that the beans are extremely small. The rolling orientation is changeable, the practitioner's hands and eyes are integrated into one, and the control of muscles and bones is particularly important. To ensure that all beans are cut, it is necessary to estimate the position of the beans falling, pre-adjust the power posture, after cutting one, but also predict the next landing point. Continue to follow the current muscle comfortable and smooth power to continue to attack. If forcibly reverse the force may bring body tissue strain. This training is not easy. The first few times Usopp almost twisted his arms and waist, did not predict well, temporarily changed the direction of power, too easy to hurt the body. Usopp adjusted the speed of the mechanism, reduced the difficulty a little, LV5 was reduced to LV2. It seems that recent progress has made me a little inflated, arrogance or not. After 3,000 swords, Usopp collapsed on the ground numbly, and the double exhaustion of his mental body made him really a little unwilling to move. But fortunately, the training of firearms below, not so hard, only need to finish the pistol, hit the rifle, finish the rifle, record the different gun postures and the effects produced, and recoil. Come on, get up and fight. After sorting out the daily inspection and maintenance of firearms, Usopp began the arduous journey of gun training. Usopp suddenly thought that in fact, the practice of chopping beans can also be used in training guns. Beans fall randomly around the body. Usopp's gun should also swim with these targets. The way the body exerts force is slightly different, but the attack mode is basically the same. Boom. Hit successfully. Usopp seems to be significantly less difficult to hit beans with a gun than with a sword. It may be that the gun does not need to be as big as a sword. Aim and pull the trigger. What you see is what you get. Less the steps of mobilizing the thighs, waist, hips, shoulders, neck, arms. Usopp's eyes lit up. Behind. Boom. 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 The dense gunfire made the forest commotion, and for a long time there was no other sound in this forest except the sound of gunfire, and even the sound of the waves crashing on the reef not far away could not cover up the dense gunfire. Late at night, Usopp dragged his tired body back home, and when he entered the house, he immediately collapsed on the floor, gasping for air, and the buff of pseudo-sage time also completed its mission today. Usopp, who collapsed on the ground, moved to change his posture, but unfortunately he couldn't lift a trace of strength, and his whole body was soft. Forget it. Just like that, giving up movement made Usopp's soft body completely relaxed, and an indescribable sense of comfort started from nowhere, like a warm current, flowing through Usopp's dry body. This warm current seemed to be a spring rain, moisturizing every inch of Usopp's flesh and blood. The comfort generated by complete relaxation makes Usopp's soul blank now, which is a feeling that cannot be described in words. If you have to give it a word, it is cool, extremely cool, refreshing. The pain of being abused during exercise is increasing day by day, and the ultimate relaxation after being abused makes Usopp refreshed, a vivid and extreme experience, repeatedly stimulating Usopp's central nervous system. A large amount of dopamine is secreted from the brain, and the stimulation of dopamine makes Usopp have an addictive fascination and intoxication. No wonder so many people in their previous lives were crazy about playing iron in the gym, which was really much more energetic than falling in love. If you feel that you don't, it only means that you are not in place. After resting for a long time, Usopp, who almost fell asleep, got up from the ground with difficulty and began to prepare today's dinner. The Crocodile King whip was prepared first, mending the waist, and then 2 charcoal grilled tiger legs, mending legs, evil arts from Greater China, the art of shape tonification. How many animals have changed their colors, and how many poor and helpless small animals have been extinct in the hands of this technique. It's a pity. There is no protection of animals in this life, but so that Usopp can eat with confidence and boldness, lemon tea is a must, not only to promote digestion, but also to improve the quality of life. No matter what situation a man with good taste is in, he must create the conditions to drink a cup of hot tea first. After a full meal, Usopp decided to sort out today's statistics first, roughly distinguishing several categories: action classification, ballistic analysis, recoil handling, the third version of the treatment method of changing bullets, and several rules for the fusion of sword and marksmanship. After sorting out the system, Usopp found that the amount of data was still too small, completely insufficient to support the development of gunfighting techniques. But this is not a problem. Usopp has long been mentally prepared. Such a divine skill can be mastered casually. Then the pirate world is not as many generals as dogs, and the 4 emperors are all over the place. That's also yarn. This gang fights and destroys the planet in minutes. In fact, the average pirate in the One Piece world, using abilities or developing skills, most of them still follow the feelings, and few people can scientifically and systematically summarize the laws therein, and optimize and dig deep into the limits of their skills. And the roughness of the control brings that the power of the skill cannot be used to its original extreme. There are not many people admired by Usopp in the pirate world, and there are two people's fruit development is very terrible. The first is the bear. Superman is a pat fruit, and can actually develop a yin healing bullet wound, so that the bug's skill of popping up human injury. It can be seen that the bear's understanding of skills and fruits is absolutely to an inhuman point and should not be underestimated. The second is Doflamingo, bad and stylish, arrogant is even more famous. But unfortunately in the bones still take the road of kindness and forbearance. Usopp liked this guy very much in his previous life, because being arrogant to this is really the dream of many people. But I heard that glasses are the essence of this guy, and I don't know if it's true. A garbage line fruit developed a birdcage, puppet control, doppelganger, visceral repair, and after awakening, it can also assimilate the surrounding substances, in addition to what can be said. It is a pity that Brother Ming's pattern is too small, lacking the courage to explode the world, and his achievements are limited in the end. As for the world's strongest fruit, shock fruit, simply put, the fruit itself is too powerful, the development of Whitebeard is simply insignificant, and the way Whitebeard is used is really a rough batch. If it is not thanks to Whitebeard's strong physical fitness, it is estimated that this fruit can shock himself to death in a few strokes. The late Whitebeard was sick, which also confirmed this from the side. Earthquake fruit, vibration, the basic form of the movement of all matter in the material world. This is a fruit powerful to the bottom of the physical, rough used to shake the ground, shake the waves, shake the air is also drunk, all the way to the past reaction force does not care, meet as a big, and then start a group. It looks quite handsome and domineering, but in fact, it is a real violent thing. The meaning of the Whitebeard pirate group, it is estimated that it is similar to the nuclear bomb, mainly plays a deterrent role. Suddenly come to your house and ask if you are afraid. Usopp analyzes that if the fruit is developed to the level of molecular atoms, a single blow can make the chemical bonds of the material in the molecular chain break. Then who else can block the blow of Whitebeard? The powerful domineering counteracts the opponent's domineering. The power of the shock fruit directly acts on the opponent. Usopp dares to ensure that the other party will be decomposed into slag on the spot, and the cause and effect are all eliminated at will. Even one punch can hit gamma rays. Usopp does not doubt it. The same is true of bug-level fragmented fruits. Every time I think of such a cow X fruit, which is used by the big red nose, it can only be used to surprise sneak attacks, stab knives, and is also drunk. Everything is difficult at the beginning, come a little bit. After summarizing the content of this time, Usopp already has some simple eyebrows. A few simple basic actions have jumped on the paper. These actions should deal with the 6 directions around his body, front and back, left and right, up and down. Originally did not go down, but thinking that there may be no fewer air battle scenes in the future, so it was added a direction. The difficulty of the work increased several times, and the situation to consider was several times more. These actions can be smoothly combined with each other. One action can switch to another action at any time. The purpose is to reduce the stiffness after each shot to the current minimum state. Different actions are also matched, corresponding different bullet changing actions, and strive to minimize the recovery time, in order to ensure the durability of the barrage output after locking the enemy, and prevent the enemy from escaping in the change time. When shooting corresponding to the action, you can also adjust your shooting direction at any time according to the enemy's orientation, distance, speed, estimate. Although several actions deal with 6 directions, but all the points in these 6 directions are basically within the theoretical shooting range. Simply put, as long as you enter the range of Usopp's attack, unless the enemy's movement speed and prediction exceed Usopp's prediction too much, it will be an endless barrage attack, and you can't get close at all. Of course, Kaido's kind of resisting the attack, directly frontal. Usopp still has to choose a strategic retreat, keep a safe distance, do not break the defense. No matter how much the barrage is smashed, it is only costly. How many bullets do you have to carry if you consume domineering? Can't even think about it. Kaido. Lao Su is lying here and letting you casually, and if you don't shoot until you go bankrupt, I will lose. So in order to target Kaido, a big guy in a 6-god suit, Usopp has also prepared a set of targeted plans, but only after meeting French. Most of the islands and countries in the One Piece world have not entered the industrial age. And many of the parts that Usopp needs are now at all unproductive. But with Frankie, the transformation person, you can solve it easily. When the time comes, engage in a heavy sniper, with the ability of slippery fruit, eliminate the friction of bullets and firearms, to ensure that the bullet will not be affected by air resistance when moving in the air. The kinetic energy of a shot can always be maintained at the extreme at the moment of disembodiment, and the powerful kinetic energy of 1,200 meters per second, coupled with a highly condensed domineering, cannot break Kaido's defense? Let's put a big question mark first. After all, practice is the only test of truth. But it doesn't matter if you can't wear it, Usopp still has a plan B. But now this is just an idea. If the gun is built to match Usopp's slippery fruit, one shot does not beat Kaido out, Usopp and his surname. It can be seen from the war threat yellow ape on the top of Usopp Daddy that the gun is also threatening enough in the later stage, but the size of the power is relatively demanding for the user. Forget it. Gunfighting requires too many pre-skills, and the requirements for equipment are also high. At this time, Usopp really hoped that there was a shop system that could be exchanged for skills and equipment. I also saved myself from being so entangled. Unfortunately, with the accumulation of Usopp now, it can only be used as a trash fish cleaning technique, but the meal must be eaten little by little, and the road must be taken step by step. The most important thing is to find the right direction. The first goal is physical fitness, and the second goal is slippery fruit. When these two small goals are achieved, the road to export explosion can officially begin. Complicated enough thinking effectively consumes a lot of Usopp's energy, and the food in his stomach is not so up, and Usopp is again a beautiful moment of daily yoga. After tidying up the tables and chairs, Usopp started fighting. After a day's exercise, another wave of yoga that stretches the muscles and bones fully relaxes and rests Usopp's whole body and mind, and the position of the diaphragm adhesions in the muscles and bones is also released because of the strong stretching. A set of actions down, comfortable, really comfortable. The feeling of soreness after stretching the muscles and bones is a tingling sensation caused by rebounding back into place after the posture is restored. Blend into a special feeling. It's like eating Sichuan mapo tofu made by Xiao Dongjia, crispy and spicy, which makes people addicted. The happiness after self-abuse is really unexpected. Lying on the sweaty floor and gasping, after all the day's workouts, Usopp can completely let go of the occasional guilt of wanting to be lazy and really take a break. Soaking in the tub, nibbling on the hind legs of an animal that I don't know, thinking about the bits and pieces of his past life. In his previous life, Usopp studied hard for money, worked hard for rights, rolled in desire all day long, and eventually became a puppet of desire manipulation, a vicious dog under the capitalist. There is no shortage of money, no lack of power, only lack of friends, lack of true happiness. If there is no one around a person, it is easy to be lonely, and if there is no one in the heart, it will be empty. The emptiness that enters the marrow often makes Usopp mad in the dead of night, and the crazy heart stirs the crazy desire, and the more madness he is, the deeper he is immersed in the deeper abyss of desire, and melancholy and depression always surround Usopp. Let him only disguise himself with arrogance. After coming to this world, after the initial panic and confusion, let go of all kinds of past lives, and now every day in order to become stronger, in order to become a partner who is not beaten so badly, although the daily training makes him very painful, the summary after training gives him a headache, and the slow growth of strength makes him worry, but whether good or bad come together, but it makes Usopp feel a heartfelt fulfillment, feel like a person, and feel that he has regained his dignity as a human being. Look back at myself who used to chase desires madly. In the past, such as yesterday's death. All kinds of things today, such as today's birth, Usopp whispered. In recent transactions with seemingly loyal fishmongers, Usopp has mentioned 100 hearts. At this moment Usopp is Nami's upper body, Donald Duck Scrooge possessed, inheriting Nami's love of money, Donald Duck Scrooge's ruthlessness, and fishmonger brother, this old yin, cough after a friendly consultation with you and me, finally reached a win-win harmonious situation with the fishmonger brother. Since the last time he was fooled, Usopp has been resentful every time he mentions this, and every time he sees the fishmonger brother, he can't wait to carry a knife and hack him to death on the spot, but every time he thinks of his fierce big cousin, he won't be able to calculate a little money. The weapon master's side also resumed the normal order receiving business. In addition to the scabbard, the old blacksmith has not made a large number of practice iron eggs for USEPP. The old blacksmith said that this item can only be used for practice, causing any other adverse consequences. He is not responsible. This buddy is also crossed. Disclaimer slipped a batch. However, this also allowed Usopp to temporarily escape the dilemma of practicing guns for 5 minutes and picking up ammunition for an afternoon. Usopp is also stepping up his training in new shooting moves and familiarizing himself with the new damage output mode according to the first version of the gunfighting action guidelines. The gun modification plan is also included in the next stage of work arrangement, and the difficulty of this part of the work is not the design and processing of parts. The difficulty mainly lies in the subsequent assembly and maintenance, ballistic calibration, and each step requires a lot of time to study and ponder. The guns have been changed, the bullet transformation will be put on the agenda at the same time. There is a past life jade pearl in front, but there is no need for Usopp to redesign. Simple plagiarism can be happily solved, only need to set the bullet specifications. The days without copyright are really a joy that is not very accustomed. Usopp envisaged that it would be best to make a batch machining machine, even manually, to be installed on the Mary to facilitate the replenishment of daily consumption. Recalling the past glory years, didn't our revolutionary old-timers also make their own hands in the mountains where materials were lacking? Not to mention that Usopp also had a weapon master here as technical support, so that the old-timers could lead the way? Old blacksmith. Lao Tzu now just wants to spend his old age in peace, and does not want to accompany you to engage in scientific research. The first phase of the design drawings has been submitted to the weapon master. Although the weapon master Lao Sang is reluctant, but cannot stand Usopp's soft and hard bubble, and finally Usopp also took out a killer weapon, without any lower limit called Ahir next to him. The sister of the Wind Elf was ridiculed by a junior. How could the tender-skinned Ahir endure? The shy Ahir gave the weapon master, who had not yet recovered, a punch, ordered him to start work immediately, ran out of the shop with a cigarette, and did not know if he went to the market to consume. Alas. A minute of silence for the master's wallet. Is it over if you promise early? He was also beaten up. I can't say that I can't pay it back, Usopp teased. People in the rivers and lakes, you can't get your wife and children, you should be so ruthless, Sunderland asked in a deep voice. You forced me. Do you really want to be so unkind? Seriously, Usopp cut to the chase. Do I owe you, smelly boy, and beat Lao Tzu, and give you free work, and I have to bring my own materials? Originally, Lao Tzu was a carefree old blacksmith. How come since he met you, he became an angel with folding wings, and he clocked in and out every day? Sunderland said indignantly. Oh, old San, you can't think so. You see that if you change your mind, you should invest in me as a person, and if I am strong, you will not be one step closer to your dream. Are you right? Usopp stepped forward and hooked the weapon master's shoulder and flickered. Less with Lao Tzu to this set. Hurry up and send some good fish and meat. The parts you need are relatively fine. You can take some time. Come and see it the day after tomorrow. Sunderland scolded with a helpless smile. Order. Rest assured, it won't be so poor in a while. Your old pension, little nephew, I took care of. Yo-ha. You give me a pension? Let's survive the Great Passage first. You're still too weak, baby turtle cow. Although Sunderland was very touched in his heart, he still mocked on his mouth. Huh. Goodbye. Usopp waved goodbye wordlessly. How can these elders speak to achieve cross-universe unity? It's the same as my mom talking. Usopp wondered as he walked out of the smithy. Q. Where did the drawings come from? In the past life, those war, crime gunfight blockbusters, then the speed of dismantling guns and loading guns is not standard. Usopp has recently increased his memory. A little recall of the steps of dismantling guns in the movie. Most of the parts of the model has been engraved in his mind. You exist in my deep mind, in my dreams, in my heart, in my... Come on. Come on. Stop singing. Usopp controls the brain of the fire with a black line. According to the drawings in my mind, I copied it, but the proportion of some parts may be somewhat different, which has to be readjusted after the finished product comes out. But the problem is not big. It takes time to grind long enough to always succeed. Even if it fails, it is considered to accumulate experience. Usopp carried the tools in the old blacksmith and ran back. Cultivation is not a moment, cannot be relaxed. The best way to not relax is to integrate into the bits and pieces of life. Usopp deeply knows the distance between himself and the real strong, and it is not an exaggeration to say that the chasm is dangerous, but some things are like this, originally very far away, but if you fight, it will get closer and closer to you. If you want to live with dignity, live like an individual, and control your destiny in this chaotic world, you must always maintain your original intention and endure hardships now. Usopp also doesn't want to regret when he encounters powerlessness. The world of pirates is far less beautiful than in the anime. Disasters and killings are everywhere, and those who are stronger than themselves abound. Even if the big prince with the aura of the protagonist isn't it beaten many times and can't lift his head. Not to mention the dead Ace and Sob, who broke the sand as soon as he went to sea when he was young. It is pure luck that Sob survived. Sanji, Solon, Nami, Choba, Frankie, Robin, who are these future companions who have gone through the most difficult tribulations and sufferings in the world to live until now. Survivorship bias makes people remember only the magnificence of the sea, the magnificent adventure, but forget its rough waves, forget that the brilliant adventure costs lives. How dare Usopp, who knows the plot well, have a fluke mentality? He only feels that time is urgent, his practice is insufficient, and he can't wait to arrange it 24 hours a day. While passing by Uncle Beecher's house, Usopp happened to see Beecher greeting him. Quickly responded, and quickly ran past Beecher. What is this kid doing? Panicking day by day. Usopp has been a little stunned in the face of Beecher recently. As soon as he saw Uncle Beecher, the dark side of Usopp's heart came out. Originally the uncle was very grateful to him for being good, but Usopp was decisively rejected by the other party whenever he wanted to give a little back to Uncle Beecher. As the saying goes, it is not difficult to borrow and borrow again, and the old debt of favors has also tormented Usopp, who is deeply educated in the quality education of Greater China, and when he was a child when he was a red scarf, Usopp knew the traditional virtues of knowing and to bow. However, whether it was to give money or goods, Beecher always refused with a motherly smile on his face, and also cared enthusiastically, for fear that Usopp would not be enough. He also does his best to help and care for Usopp. Such a peculiarity made Usopp have to think a little too much. There's something strange, Usopp pondered to himself. Can the average person be so nice to you? The folk style is simple, and that is a bit too simple. Is this cheap daddy's love rival? Or is it a suitor of the mother after the cheap daddy is gone? Or is it the mother's first love, ex, and successor? No matter how scary it is, the cheap daddy is green. I'm not actually called Usopp. Should it be called Beach Pea? But Uncle Beecher is not curly. Judging from my hair, my ancestry is still within the scope of official recognition. So why is it so good to me? Not his own father either. Belch. What does the question mark mean? Wondering, adding a few more layers of consideration, the dark side of Usopp's heart thought about this matter more and more crookedly. It was so scary that Usopp hurried to get these terrible thoughts out of his mind. On Beecher's side, Usopp's child is really pitiful. He has no mother at a young age, and there is a father who is still out of tune all day, and some old and young don't know what to do at sea all day. Alas. Thinking about when he was also an orphan, he had no relatives and tasted the warmth of people, and now seeing Usopp is like seeing himself at the beginning. If it weren't for the child's good face, I really wanted to recognize him as a son. Can't help but feel like being nice to him. Be gentle and take care of more. Usopp, this child is now self-reliant, knows how to report, and can talk, which is really impossible not to dislike. Son? Are you sure you're not here under the guise of a white beard spying on me? Whitebeard. Lao Su is sick. Spy on you? Did you eat garlic there? The tone is quite large. Due to the recent increase in the intensity of Usopp's practice, in addition to the wind-chasing sword, other weapons and equipment, including loads, have been refined for several waves. The guns in his hand have been replaced several times, and this grove has also practiced bald a large piece, and this bald piece of Usopp has been leveled to make it a formal cultivation ground. Building a house, by the way, also saves you from running back and forth to your home, delaying time on the road. The space at home is not enough for the next practice. Yoga is now basically completed. The softness of the body, various positions have been done, basically to the limit of human bone joints. The rest is to pay attention to maintain daily maintenance cultivation. The extra time Usopp decided to put it on the fire. After all, the day's practice has exhausted, and it is better to be gentle at night. Put down the tools on your back. Let's do it. First lay the stone slab. There are many various reefs on the seaside. There is nothing to pay attention to in the selection of materials. Insert the wedge and hammer, smash it. And the weapon master Lao Sang learned a little hammerman's technique. Small hammer 50 and a sledgehammer 100. Smash it up with half the effort. Chisel the stone slab and move back to a shop. The perfect combination of life, work and practice. Usopp's work is hot. The alternating increase of strength and physical strength, and the progress of work is also relatively gratifying. Depending on the situation, the whole ground can be laid in 3 or 5 days. Go ahead. The trumpet shouted. Hey ha, 100. After a few days of hard work, Usopp finally finished laying the floor of the dojo, and the aesthetics should not be too entangled. Better than in a neat, obsessive-compulsive person cannot afford to hurt awe. But just after paving the floor is still very rough. At this time you need a small hammer on the line. A little smashing may scratch their own edges. Aren't real men just facing the ground with bare hands? Do men still care about small injuries? Of course. Usopp nodded proudly. Cannot be injured without injury. Can be beaten less. Do not be beaten. This is my Lord Usopp to deal with people's bottom line. The bottom line understands. You can't be a person without a bottom line. Don't go online all the time. What are you doing with One Piece? Do you want to engage in MLM? After being complained by the soul of the commotion, Lord Usopp did not feel the slightest shame, and continued to bury his head and bang. And after a morning, Usopp suddenly looked up and suddenly remembered. It seems that the weapon master Lao San asked him to pick up the goods today. Thinking of this makes Usopp can't help but be a little excited. The first gun made in his life is about to be released. What kind of achievement is this? Just ask who else. It's like taking a blood in the first 30 seconds. It's like being a real man for the first time. Just ask who else. Soul of trouble. What does a plagiarism dog do besides drawing a drawing? The drawing is not accurate, and without a master of weapons you are a squid. Can you not spit on yourself? Can you die if you let yourself go? Can you die? Yes, to the chase. Your uncle. Wait for Lao Su to train into a heart-chopping soul ha. You will stand up when the time comes, don't run ha. I don't have a grandpa. Defeated. Usopp was unlovable by the commotion in his head, and he had no temper at all, and the pseudo-sage time was broken. Usopp, who calmed down, suddenly smelled a trace of unusual smell, although he also loved to complain in his previous life, but he only spit on others, and now the spit that appears from time to time in his mind is all about spitting on himself, and it seems that without going through the pre-program of brain thinking, it automatically bursts out in his mind. Splash was used very well this time. Thinking of this, Usopp's face was a little solemn, and he thought carefully for a while and analyzed several possibilities. Something wrong with the soul after possession? Soul within soul? The original Usopp is still alive? Or is it a clumsy fire that goes crazy? No matter what the reason is, this may be the biggest problem at this stage. The soul problem is no small matter, and Usopp does not want his trained body to be picked by someone in the end. It's tricky, it's really tricky, and there's no effective way yet, so you can only see if you can find something when you settle in at night. There may be something wrong with the soul, making the excited Usopp feel like a basin of ice rain. Cold rain patted indiscriminately on the face. Usopp's brows furrowed. The mother's egg became more and more serious, and it took great perseverance and wisdom to restart the pseudo-sage time to dispel the song that kept echoing in his mind. It's a little big, but fortunately it was found early, and I studied it well these days to see how to solve it. I hope it's not a big problem. Sure enough, even the road to lying and winning is not smooth, and there are always disasters of one kind or another that suddenly come. Can't people walk on the refreshing invincible stream? I, the great god Usopp, am willing to give up my hair. It's all at this juncture, so don't talk about it. Usopp collected himself, picked a few of the largest fatty fish in the fish farm, carried a king crocodile, and ran to the blacksmith shop in Sunderland, where his practice was accomplished. Originally Usopp was going to take a bath. In his previous life as a workplace elite, a stylish man, even if he didn't wear formal clothes, and came to the door with a sour smell, it was really a little embarrassing, but Usopp thought about it. Old sang seems to be sour, and it doesn't make any sense to make it fragrant. It is estimated that Anta here is also used it. Forget it. So be it. Maybe you will work in the shop later, and if you come back, you will continue to cultivate, and it is also a waste to wash. In this way, Usopp came to the door of the weapon master's house with a smelly sweat mixed with the rich fragrance of salted fish. Tiptoeing into the probe, he was a little weak when he let Usopp come to the door the last time he pit Sunderland. What are you doing, sneaky? Sunderland's voice came from behind, and Usopp jumped. Let's see how you feel. Usopp turned around and said honestly. You little devil, come on, come in, the things you want are ready, but the details are poor. Sunderland pointed to the inside of the workshop, signaling that Usopp could enter. I'll go. Did you kid fall into a cesspool? Why is it so smelly? As soon as the weapon master approached Usopp, he almost rolled his eyes and fainted. Ah. I didn't take a shower for a day, and I wanted to take a bath. But thinking about the master, you are also a smelly person. Then there is no point in me being fragrant alone. I didn't wash it and came directly. Usopp said, a little embarrassed. Ah. Stinky imps. You are so honest. Is it really good to say it in your heart? Bastards. How much does it stink? Your uncle and I are all cultivated to the heavens, and in such a pediatric thing as blacksmithing, Lao Tzu will not shed a drop of sweat, you know, not a drop of sweat. The green tendons of the weapon master Sunderland's brain door rose sharply by several segments, and his fingers pointed hard at Usopp's brain door and roared. His eyes still wandered between the hammer and machete in the house from time to time, as if thinking that that kind of weapon can make blood splash less, otherwise it will be a troublesome thing to clean up, and he will be beaten again if his wife finds out. Ah. I was wrong. Please forgive me. I swore to heaven that I would never lie again in this life, and if I lied, my nose would grow longer. Usopp saw the unkind-looking master, confessed on the spot, bowed and apologized, full of sincerity. Where did you get the strange setting that the lying nose gets longer? Sunderland has a black line in the brain. If this is the case, isn't the world all with a long nose? Sunderland, who suddenly seemed to realize something, sighed deeply in his heart, alas. I don't know if it's the story that Usopp's mother told before, and let this child still take it seriously. Thinking of this, Sunderland suddenly felt a pang of sadness in his heart. Pity, this poor child, how to persuade. Let him know that this is actually a white lie? And didn't lie about the fact that the nose gets longer? Is the world a world full of lies? Then this is not teaching children to learn badly. It is really difficult. It seems that let his aunt find time to talk to her heart. The lack of maternal love is indeed easy to traumatize the child's heart. Thinking of the depths, Sunderland turned angry into sad, looked at Usopp with pity, and the thick fingers that pointed at the door of the brain were also replaced by big hands and gently touched Usopp's head. Come in and look at things. What's the difference? Let's eat here at night. Let your aunt cook a few dishes. But you take a shower first, your aunt is a little clean. Forgive me for your good. I'm afraid you will get hurt. The gentle weapon master turned and flipped under the table. Usopp found that Lao Sang had different eyes, and secretly said in his heart that it was not good. This buddy's brain circuit must not know where to turn. Being gently stroked on the head by a muscular macho man suddenly made Usopp's whole person bad, and goosebumps fell to the ground. Eat here? Take a shower. Isn't Chrysanthemum in danger? It's going to be cool. But my sister-in-law should still be safe with me. I'm still so young that I haven't seen the sea yet, woo-woo. This touch directly broke Usopp's pseudo-sage time, and the sole problem made Usopp's train of thought a little confusing. Usopp, who was broken by the heart, obviously some cannot resist the demon of the soul of the commotion. The enemy retreats and I advance. It is not as simple as 1 + 1, and Usopp's brief chaos has increased the influence of the soul of the commotion by several %. Hey. What to think? Let's take a look at the stuff. Sunderland's twilight, mid-morning voice, pulled Usopp back from the brink of confusion. Usopp suddenly realized something, and suddenly broke into a cold sweat. It's even more serious. It's a bit of a bloody collapse. Can't wait any longer. To solve this problem tonight, at least to find the cause of the problem. The problem of the soul caught Usopp off guard. Usopp made up his mind again, secretly made a plan in his heart, concentrated, and hung up the buff of pseudo-sage time again, and his eyes returned to pure and indifferent. Looking down at the scattered parts on the table, except for the barrel, magazine, and spring, Usopp couldn't name any other parts, but this did not prevent him from assembling these parts. As a Lego master, puzzle master, this thing is too simple, at least hundreds of times easier than tens of thousands of white puzzles. After assembling the parts in his hand, Usopp's first feeling was heavy, really heavy, adhering to the consistent style tradition of the weapon master. The material was solid and heavy, and Usopp felt that this weight alone could offset a lot of recoil. This gun must not be played around in the previous life, at least 10 pounds of weight, not to mention the shot, even just holding the wrist may be tired. To say that it is a solid Usopp believe. However, for Usopp, this weight is just right, the hand feels solid, and it must be excellent to be a brick moving when there is no bullet. Last time there were a lot of special alloys left. I also added a lot. I have not forged gun parts, but in general, the core of weapon production is the same. Toughness and solidity should be put in the first place, thinking that there may be gunpowder explosion in the barrel, so especially add several toughness metal mixed special alloys, although not as strong as your wind-chasing sword, but the general weapon and the explosion in its barrel should be difficult to hurt it. You can use it as a brick when you have no bullets. Smash it and it's over, and count mine if it's broken. The old blacksmith's thinking was the same as Usopp's. Broken? Broken. Will I come back to you alive? Usopp looked at the master with a black line on his face, boasting about himself. Usopp opened the striker, pulled the trigger, snapped. The sound was crisp, full of elasticity, but some parts were not fit enough after assembly. The gun body shook seriously after the shot, and there was an abnormal noise. It seems that it is still a problem of accuracy. Usopp reassembled it little by little and carefully checked several times, and soon found the problem. The size of several parts is a little too large, resulting in other parts cannot be fully fitted. Find the problem. The rest is to solve the problem. Worthy of the old driver. Deliberately made a little bigger, big and small again. Do small, that part can be destroyed. The old driver adjusted several parts in 3 strokes and divided by 2, reassembled them, pulled the striker, pulled the trigger, snapped. Perfect. The first gun can be done so perfectly, and thanks to the rich experience and strength of the old driver, I have to say that the old driver is a cow, and the driver is stable. Usopp gave the weapon master 10 likes in his heart. Weapon master firearms mastery +1. The basic functions of a gun are considered finished, the remaining rifling, aiming system calibration, bullet customization. It will take a lot of time. Usopp is ready to engage in it next time, and today it is not early. The sole problem is still hanging overhead. Big things matter. Usopp took the opportunity to resign the old blacksmith. Before night fell, Usopp hurried home. Goo goo. Belch. Eat first. In case there is any problem, be a full ghost.